Chapter 1305. If the great victory of the Yuan clan had shaken the entire world of practitioners, then the great defeat of the Ziyang Palace was like a bucket of cold water that completely doused the joy of the practitioners. The position of the Ziyang Palace in the central mainland's practitioners was many times higher than that of the Yuan clan. They were the number one holy land in the central mainland, the number one sword sect in the world, and the direct swordsmanship of Jiao Daoren. The Ziyang Palace had many halos of the human practitioners, but they had all been destroyed in this great defeat. Even the Ziyang Palace had been defeated. How could Mara's army fight against them? Even though the Ziyang Palace had managed to destroy 2 Asuras in this battle, they had lost 3 Grand Adepts and 10 early and mid-Dharma Adepts. In addition, they had also lost many severely injured Adepts. There was no doubt that the Ziyang Palace was at a disadvantage. Moreover, after the West Camp had fallen, the low-level core forging disciples had almost all been killed. And after Mara's army had taken over the camp on the west side of the mountain pass, the Ziyang Palace's camp and the other 2 camps had fallen apart. On the other hand, Mara's army had occupied the west side of the cliff overlooking the Ziyang Palace's camp, which put the Ziyang Palace in an unprecedented passive position. That day, when Lu Ping and Yin Tianchu had broken out of the encirclement of Mara's army, they had been chased by a few high-level Mara. When Lu Ping and Yin Tianchu had laid in ambush and suddenly killed a Jade Shura and a Blood Shura, Mara, who had been chasing them, had finally retreated. Looking at the entire camp that had been destroyed by Mara's army, they did not know how many of the Ziyang Palace's adepts had managed to escape. But now that Mara's army had heavenly demons and Asuras guarding it, the 2 of them naturally did not dare to hunt for battle merits and could only retreat to the Jinling camp. The first thing Lu Ping did upon returning to the base was to immediately head to the public square of the base to check on the battle achievement leaderboard for the mid-Dharma adepts. When he saw that Xie Tianyang and Su Jin's names were still on the leaderboard, Lu Ping heaved a sigh of relief. It was obvious that both of them had not perished after the fall of the base. However, Lu Ping immediately discovered that there had been an earth-shattering change on the battle merit leaderboard. After the battle at Purple Sun Palace's camp, although Lu Ping had to flee in a sorry state in the end, he had still killed many high-ranking Mara. He was still ranked first with 178 points. However, the second direct disciple of Purple Sun Palace, Fan Mingjie, who had always been ranked second behind Lu Ping, had been replaced by Yuan Feixiang, who had originally been ranked fourth. Now Yuan Feixiang's battle achievement had reached 176 points. She was only 1 blood Asura away from Lu Ping's first place on the leaderboard. Although Lu Ping was shocked, he still looked down. Xie Tianyang had appeared in 3rd place. His battle achievement had surpassed Fan Mingjie, who had originally been ranked second, by 3 points, reaching 151 points. However, the gap between him and the first 2 had indeed gradually widened. Fan Mingjie followed closely behind, ranked 4th with 148 points. Nangong Xiaojin from Skyward Pavilion had been pushed to 5th place, but he was only 5 points away from Fan Mingjie by 1 blood Asura. After them were Qin Wuyang from Crystal Palace and Chao Jianpain from Heavenly Arcana Sect. Behind these 2 was Yu Ziqing from Talisman Pavilion, who had appeared for the first time on the leaderboard and was ranked 3rd. His battle achievement ranking had already fallen all the way to 8th place. The 9th rank was another fresh face who had made it into the top 10 for the first time. Moreover, it was obvious that he was a cultivator from the Yuan clan. Lu Ping frowned. He also knew this Yuan Ku and had met him before. Lu Ping continued to look down the leaderboard. Su Jin had already reached 10th place. At 17th place, he saw a disciple from the Yuan clan again. It was his old acquaintance, Yuan Jinglei. Lu Ping heaved a sigh of relief. This time, he was finally certain that something had happened on the battlefield between the Yuan clan and Mara's army. However, compared to Purple Sun Palace's failure, the Yuan clan had clearly obtained a victory. Very soon, news of the Yuan clan defeating Mara's army, Yuan Lingtian Laozu slaying a heavenly demon, and Yuan Sor slaying an Asura reached Jinling's encampment. Everyone in Jinling was talking about it. However, compared to the negative impact of Purple Sun Palace's defeat, the Jinling cultivators who were looking at the leaderboard all looked at Yuan Sor, who was only 2 points behind Lu Ping. They were obviously worried that Yuan Sor would surpass Lu Ping and snatch the throne of first place. Yin Tianchu was ranked 47th on the leaderboard with 79 points. He had killed a Blood Shura and a Jade Shura when he had helped Xie Tianyang and the others escape. After that, when the 4 of them had surrounded the Asura, he had killed a few Blood Shura and a Jade Shura, which had brought him 20 points. Then, while Lu Ping was attacking and breaking out of the encirclement, he had killed a few Blood Mara at the side. This had caused his battle points to skyrocket, and he had entered the leaderboard in one fell swoop. The appearance of another cultivator from their sect on the leaderboard of the mid-Dharma stage should have been a joyous event for the Jinling sect. However, because of the sudden rise of Yuan Sor on the leaderboard, the Jinling disciples were all worried about whether Lu Ping would be able to keep his position as a helper, and the attention they paid to Yin Tianchu had dropped significantly. In the meeting hall, Tianqing Laozu looked at Tianshan, Tianqin and Xiang Lu Laozu. He said, "Shouldn't we give Lu Ping some support? He is the greatest hope for our sect in the future, but now we are focusing all our energy on fighting for the early Dharma stage on the leaderboard. This doesn't seem fair to him. Sister, aren't we going too far?" Tianshan Laozu looked hesitant as well. It was obvious that he had thought about this as well. Tianqin Laozu's face was cold as he said, "What are you worried about? Will Lu Ping complain to us because of this, or even vent his anger on the sect?" Looking at the expressions of Tianshan and Tianqing Laozu, it was obvious that Tianqin Laozu's words had hit the nail on the head. Tianqin Laozu snorted coldly and said, "It's true that Lu Ping is the hope of our sect, but because of this, while he is still fine, we are starting to worry about his gains and losses. We are afraid that he will vent his anger and complain if there is even the slightest bit of unhappiness." "What are you afraid of?" "Afraid that he will hate the sect, or even afraid that he will break out of the sect." Tianqin Laozu simply did not look at the two's expressions. He sighed and continued, "I know what you are thinking. It is not easy for such a good seedling to appear in our sect, and he has made so many contributions to the sect. Everyone wants to protect him and follow his lead. In your opinion, the sect should focus on him and provide him with all the conveniences for his growth. You should even put all your hopes on him. But in the end you will destroy him and even the sect." Tianqin Laozu saw the puzzled and thoughtful expressions on the faces of Tianshan Laozu and Tianqing Laozu. He continued, "Do you know why Uncle Tianxiang and Humph Tianling always let this kid run around the world? Don't they know what this kid means to the sect? Don't they worry that something will happen to this kid? Don't they know that with this kid's aptitude and cultivation speed, if they keep him in the sect and gather all the resources of the sect to fully support his cultivation, he may have even greater achievements than he has now? Will it be safer and less worrisome than this?" In fact, countless sects in the cultivation world have used these methods to cultivate their own geniuses and hopes. In fact, many of these people have indeed successfully grown to a height that the entire sect is happy about. Later on, they have made a name for themselves in the cultivation world, and even led the sect to glory. But so what? After these geniuses become true spirits, they mysteriously disappear or use up their lifespans or simply die. After these geniuses become true spirits, how many of these sects have not declined along with the disappearance of these geniuses? In the end, this sect does not belong to one person. As for those genius cultivators who were personally nurtured by their sects, after they shined in the cultivation world, they did not bring anything to continue the legacy of their sections. In other words, the things they left for their sects were far from what the sects had paid for the rise of these geniuses. Therefore, these sects will never be able to achieve long-term glory. In the process of those geniuses' rise, they are fully cultivated by the sect, which in their eyes is a matter of course. But when they finally have the chance to shine, they only think about whether their cultivation can go further and whether they can pursue that illusory legendary realm. For their pursuit, they still ask for the full help of the whole sect, which in their eyes is also a matter of course. What's more, at this time, do you think there is anyone in the whole sect who dares to fight against those grown geniuses? Looking at Tianshan and Tiancheng, who had already understood something, Ancestor Lu Qin gave a mocking smile and said, "When a sect uses all its resources to cultivate a genius who originally wanted to revitalize the sect, but in the end he becomes a person who asks for everything from the sect. The whole sect becomes a one-man sect. Is this considered getting caught in a trap of one's own making? Therefore, when this genius leaves this world, the sect that the genius belongs to has no choice but to decline. The cultivation world often laments the loss of a certain genius, so the sect has no choice but to decline. However, they never thought that it was precisely because of this genius that the sect's foundation was exhausted, so it had no choice but to decline. Wasn't it the same with Tai Shin Laozu? When Tai Shin Laozu was alive, our sect's prestige even made Fei Ling's sect retreat. But after Tai Shin Laozu disappeared, our sect almost couldn't even be a medium-sized sect and was almost suppressed by Fei Ling's sect and other sections. Was it because of the absence of Tai Shin Laozu? No. It's because Tai Shin Laozu almost exhausted the foundation that our sect had accumulated for thousands of years in order to advance to the pure yang stage and achieve the real spirit, so that Jinling almost lost the capital to continue the sect's inheritance. Tai Shin Laozu was Jinling at that time, and Jinling was Tai Shin Laozu at that time. Who in the whole sect dared to go against his will? Chapter 1306. Lyra Laozu's words had obviously impacted Tianshan and Tianqing Laozu quite a bit. Both of them were still frowning as they pondered over Lyra Laozu's words. Lyra Laozu was obviously under a lot of pressure because of his deliberate suppression of Lu Ping. Although no one questioned him, and even Lu Ping himself did not mind, Lu Ping's strength, prestige and contribution had reached a very high level in Jinling. He enjoyed a very high reputation in Jinling, and this was enough to put a heavy psychological pressure on Lyra Laozu. Now that Lyra Laozu had said everything in one breath, he felt relaxed. Although Lyra Laozu believed that what he did was right, and that it was beneficial to the sect in the long run, and even to Lu Ping himself, the pressure of not being understood made Lyra Laozu feel that he would rather summon another lightning tribulation. Little Lu, we will naturally do our best to help, but we will definitely not help with everything we ask for. We will try our best to help the sect and the cultivator with all our strength. Also, the rise of a sect can never be because of one person, but because of a group of people. The rise of one person can only affect the sect for a short period of time, but the gradual and continuous rise of a group of people can ensure that the sect's legacy can last as long as possible. Tianshan Laozu let out a long sigh and said, "Then this time," Lyra Laozu finished his words and said, "This time he already has Tianchu's help. With the two of them working together, even if little Lu can't take first place, he can at least stay on the list and get a place to enter the 7th Patriarch's Taoist altar. That is enough." At this point, Lyra Laozu's face had a touch of worry and he said, "Little Lu is too conspicuous. Of course, this is a reflection of his own strength, but this is the Central Plains, the holy land of human cultivators. There are many sects and geniuses, and our sect is just an inconspicuous medium-sized sect from the barren North Sea." Tianqing Laozu's eyes widened and he said with a fierce face, "Someone wants to harm little Lu?" Lyra Laozu nodded and said, "Although we don't know about the various sects in the Central Plains, it goes without saying that the tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. The sects from the North Sea have already arrived, and according to the news from the North Sea, Xianling sect, Songhai sect, and even a few other sects seem to be very afraid of little Lu. With little Lu's current strength, the sects from the North Sea are naturally not afraid of him, but they are afraid that they will collude with cultivators from the Central Plains or overseas sections. It is easy to dodge a spear in the open, but difficult to guard against an arrow in the dark. Staying in an inconspicuous position on the list of battle merits will make the cultivators from the various sects in the Central Plains think that little Lu is not a threat, and that is the most important thing. When Lu Ping walked into the meeting hall, he did not know that Lyra Laozu and the others had just had a heated discussion about him, but the atmosphere inside seemed to be a little strange. After meeting the three Laozu, Tianqing Laozu coughed and asked, "Little fellow, when will you be able to produce the Samling 5 Elements elixir that you mentioned to the old man previously?" "Yes, the old man can't wait any longer." Lu Ping looked at Tianqing Laozu with a hint of surprise. He thought to himself that this Laozu had previously said that he was not in a hurry to recover from his internal injuries, and that he wanted to make the best use of his time to break through to the early Dharma stage. But now he was going back on his words. Could it be that he was thinking of breaking through to the mid-Dharma stage after advancing? But it was not so easy to break through to the mid-Dharma stage now. Lu Ping smiled and said, "Uncle, it's the Samling Fire Source Elixir. The Samling 5 Elements elixir is just a general name for this type of elixir. You specialize in fire-based techniques, and your source is naturally the essence of fire. Naturally, you have to use the Samling Fire Source Elixir." Tianqing Laozu thought about it and said, "It's just that this elixir seems to be a little too extravagant. I heard that this elixir needs different stages of the 5 elements in order to be nurtured, and you were able to hasten its growth to 7 leaves in such a short period of time. I'm afraid that you must have used some kind of treasure that can shorten the growth of spirit herbs. Could it be that you're only able to refine one Samling Fire Source elixir?" Lu Ping smiled and said, "This rumor is wrong. I originally thought so, but after hasten the growth of the Samling 5 Elements leaf, I found that each leaf of the Samling 5 Elements leaf can actually be used to refine any kind of origin elixir of the 5 elements. Moreover, each leaf can be used as the main ingredient, and together with other precious spirit herbs, it can be used to refine 3 origin elixirs of the same attribute. In other words, the 7 leaves of the Samling 5 Elements leaf in my hands can be used to refine 3 Samling Fire Source elixirs, and the remaining 6 leaves can be used to refine a total of 18 origin elixirs of the 5 elements depending on the situation in the future. Grand Ancestor Qianqing's eyes lit up. It was important to repair the origin so that his cultivation could rise again, but if the price paid was too great, it would make Grand Ancestor Qianqing feel uneasy. Thinking about the method of cultivating the Samling 5 elements leaf, Lu Ping had to pay a total of 35 types of 5 elements spiritual objects of all levels, ranging from the lower grade of the mystic level to the lower grade of the heaven level. In addition, in order to hasten the growth, he also had to pay a priceless wood phoenix golden elixir and various other rare spirit liquids. In order to refine the elixir, he also needed a large number of rare spirit herbs. If the price paid was only to refine a single elixir that could heal an early Dharma Adept's origin elixir, it was likely that not many people in the world of cultivation would go back and do so. It was just that the Samling 5 elements leaf had been a legend ever since the 7th Patriarch opened the sky. After all, no one had actually seen this type of spirit herb. The few words that Taoist Gui had left behind were also vague and unclear. If Lu Ping had not successfully cultivated the Samling 5 elements leaf, how would he have known its true use? Tianqing Laozu hesitated for a while but finally sighed and said, "It's a pity. If it could be cultivated into an 8 or even a 9-leaf spirit herb, it would be a panacea that could even heal the injuries of a mid or late Dharma Adept's origin elixir." Naturally, Lu Ping would not tell them that not only did he already have a complete 9-leaf Samling 5 elements leaf, he also had 2 seeds in his possession other than this 7-leaf spirit herb. He only smiled and said, "It's not that easy to injure a mid or late Dharma Adept's origin elixir. Furthermore, there are many more early Dharma Adepts than the first 2, so the chances of them getting injured are much higher as well. Therefore, when the 7 leaves of the Samling 5 elements leaf are cultivated, it would be more economical to use it to cultivate elixirs." Lu Ping paused for a moment before continuing, "What's more, if you want to cultivate the 8th and 9th leaf, you'll need mid-grade and high-grade heaven-rank spirit herbs. This is a problem that even the Holy Lands and sects would have a headache dealing with. Also, as the number of leaves increases, the number of spirit pellets that can be used to concoct will decrease. An 8-leaf spirit herb can only be used to concoct 2 spirit pellets, and a 9-leaf spirit herb can only be used to concoct 1 spirit pellet. Although the efficacy of the spirit pellets is several times better than the former, each spirit pellet can only be used to concoct 1 person." Tianqing Laozu secretly exchanged glances with Tianqin and Tianshan Laozu and said, "Hearing you say this, the old man is even more impatient. Tomorrow you can start cultivating the panacea for the old man. These days the Mara battlefield at the 9 mystical tower will not be peaceful, so let's all take a break." From the beginning, Lu Ping had guessed that Tianqing Laozu must have a deeper meaning for suddenly wanting him to cultivate the Samling Fire Source elixir. At this time, the competition for the battle points rankings was at its most intense. The Yuan family and the Xiang Palace had 1 victory and 1 defeat in the battle against the Mara army. This was the time when the heirs of the various sects were fighting for the battle points. Now that he was being sent to cultivate elixirs, it was obvious that he was giving up his position at the top of the rankings to someone else. Was this not the sect's method of suppressing him? However, Lu Ping also knew that this was actually a form of protection from the sect. Of course, even though Jinling had considered this for the sake of the entire sect, Lu Ping happened to have some other ideas in the past few days. In particular, the heavenly demon that besieged the Yuan family had suddenly appeared on the battlefield at the Xiang Palace. Although it seemed like nothing on the surface because of the reminder from the Longhuai ancestor, Lu Ping could not help but suspect the Yuan family. He could take this opportunity to rest for a while and take a look at the current situation of the various sects on the battlefield at the 9 mystical tower. The Longhuai ancestor had only traveled in the Central Plains for a few years and was able to discover the problem with the Yuan family. Although the Longhuai ancestor might know some secrets that had disappeared since the beginning of the world, if the Longhuai ancestor could know about them, then the 6 holy lands such as the Xiang Palace, which had a similarly long history, might also know about them. Thinking of this, Lu Ping smiled and said, "That's good. This is also the first time this disciple has refined the Yuan Fire Source pill. This disciple is very curious about this pill that has never appeared in the cultivation world. However, to refine the Samling Fire Source pill, in addition to a leaf of the Samling 5 elements leaf as the main ingredient, many other rare spiritual herbs are needed. I'm afraid it will take a while to collect them." Laozu did not expect Lu Ping to agree to stay and refine the pill so easily. Although he was surprised, he immediately threw a storage bag over and said, "The spiritual herbs inside were collected by the old man over the years. Some were taken from the sect's treasury. According to your previous instructions, this should be enough. Lu Ping took the storage bag and scanned it with his divine sense. There were still a lot of spiritual herbs inside. Tianqing Laozu really put in a lot of effort, so he smiled and said, "Martial uncle, don't worry. Originally it would only take 2 or 3 days. However, this is the first time this disciple has refined this pill, so it will take at most 5 days." Tianqing Laozu snorted coldly and said, "The old man has waited for decades. How long will it take?" Lu Ping chuckled and did not speak, but he could still see the eagerness in Tianqing Laozu's eyes. Chapter 1307. Tianqing and Laozu had not expected Lu Ping to agree so readily to make elixirs when the battle for the mid-Dharma stage battle credits was at its most intense. Only Laozu had her head lowered as she sipped on a cup of steaming spirit tea. The rising mist made it difficult for others to see the expression on her face. Tianqing Laozu laughed dryly and said, "Then I'll have to trouble you, martial nephew?" The battlefield with the 9 mystical tower as the center could be roughly divided into 3 regions. The central region was where the 9 mystical tower was located, as well as the thousands of Mara's troops that were currently surrounding the 9 mystical tower. The outermost region was the encirclement formed by the major sects of the human race, with the 9 mystical tower and Mara's army at the center. And in the middle of these 2 regions, there was a ring that was thousands of miles in depth. This was the buffer zone between the human race cultivators and Mara's army. At the same time, it was also the battlefield where the human race cultivators and Mara's army hunted and killed each other. At this time, other than the 9 mystical tower, the Purple Sun Palace, the Tianshan sect and the Skyward Pavilion, which were still being attacked by Mara's army, the other sects had basically formed a balance with the Mara's army. Both sides were facing off and killing each other in the buffer zone that was thousands of miles in radius. And this circular buffer zone had also become the main source for the cultivators of the various sects to hunt down Mara and snatch battle credits. At this moment, in a place several tens of kilometers away from a hill, Ji Tianxian was cursing loudly as he hurriedly applied various puppet secret techniques to the puppet he was standing on. "After this time, I'm not going to do this mission anymore. I'm going to find all the best spiritual materials and make a top-notch life puppet. It's over, it's over, it's all over." Ji Tianxian threw 3 black wooden blocks behind him, each about a foot long. Then he took out a talisman and slapped it on the puppet Skylark beneath him. A series of cracking sounds came from the puppet Skylark's body, and Ji Tianxian could not help but twitch his mouth in pain. A few hundred feet behind Ji Tianxian, a Jade Shura was chasing him. Behind the Jade Shura were 5 or 6 blood Mara, and behind these high-level Mara, there were nearly 100 large and small Mara following him in a mess. The 3 black wooden blocks that Ji Tianxian tossed out shocked the Jade Shura, who was chasing after him. She couldn't help but slow down. The human cultivator in front of her had used some strange items to give them some trouble, so she had to be careful. The Jade Shura slashed forward with one hand, and Ji Tianxian did not even see the Jade Shura use her companion spirit treasure before one of the 3 wooden blocks was split in half. But Ji Tianxian was sure that the Jade Shura had used her companion spirit treasure before. Fortunately, he finally had a chance to catch his breath. Ji Tianxian took the opportunity to widen the distance between him and the Jade Shura to 1,000 feet, and the other 2 wooden blocks suddenly wriggled and changed. 2 wooden puppets suddenly formed, and they pounced toward the blood Mara behind the Jade Shura. Although they were quickly destroyed by the blood Mara, they still caused some confusion. Seeing that the Jade Shura was about to catch up to Ji Tianxian actually breathed a sigh of relief, because the hill he had planned on was now right in front of him. This is the last chance to lure the enemy. Ji Tianxian secretly made up his mind. The puppet Skylark under his feet suddenly made a big turn in the air, and from its previous pathetic escape, it turned into a direct confrontation with the Jade Shura. But at this time, the puppet Skylark under his feet had been activated by his puppet secret skills, and it had completely fallen apart just as it completed its turn. Ji Tianxian himself almost fell to his death from the air. At this time, the Jade Shura instinctively discovered the potential threat, and at this time the army of nearly 100 Mara finally caught up. Seeing that Ji Tianxian was no longer running, they all rushed toward Ji Tianxian without the Jade Shura's command. Ji Tianxian chuckled. At this time the Jade Shura finally realized the reason why it felt threatened, and suddenly let out a howl. Nearly 100 Mara suddenly received the opposite order when they were rushing in the air, causing them to inevitably become chaotic in the air. At this time, more than 10 streaks of light of different colors suddenly rose from behind the hill, forming a loose encirclement that actually surrounded the nearly 100 Mara troops. Hee, I actually attracted a Jade Shura. It belongs to me now. Before Green Fox's voice had even faded, the dozen or so giant fireballs at Tianqing Laozu's side had already responded. More than 10 fireballs of different colors rushed toward the Jade Shura from all directions, sealing off all possible escape routes for the Jade Shura. He was just an early Dharma stage human practitioner. A look of disdain flashed across the Jade Shura's face. She decided to first kill this ungrateful human practitioner and devour the source. But the fire element source did not seem to be very compatible with her, but so what? The Jade Shura howled, and the companion spirit treasure in her hand finally lit up. It was a golden spirit treasure that looked like a crab's pincers. She first went to pinch the burning flame on Tianqing Laozu's chest. She could instinctively sense that the flame Tianqing Laozu was holding on his chest was the core of the dozen or so flames around him, and it was also the most threatening one. But before the Jade Shura's companion spirit treasure could get its hands on it, the dozen or so flames surrounding it as well as the one on Tianqing Laozu's chest, collapsed like waves of fire. They quickly merged together and formed a sea of fire. Tianqing Laozu hid in the sea of fire as soon as it formed. Outside the sea of flames, Jianghu watched as the celestial zither ancestor dove into the sea of flames. She sighed heavily and said, "This move again." Green Wolf followed behind Green Fox and smiled. "Big sister, you don't really want to steal Tianqing Laozu's credit. Why do you have to do this?" Green Fox hummed and said, "So what if I do want to steal it? We are serving Lu Tianping, not Jinling." Green Tiger laughed coldly behind her. "Then let's show Lu Tianping some respect. Even if we don't steal his elder's credit, there's nothing to say if we steal someone else's." Green Fox laughed evilly and said, "That's exactly what I was thinking." Green Wolf looked at the sea of fire in midair and said thoughtfully, "However, this sea of fire from Elder Tianqing is really not to be underestimated. He has been accumulating battle credits very quickly, and now he has already secured a spot on the early Dharma stage leaderboard. He should be catching up to Lu Tianyuan soon, right?" Green Tiger said disdainfully, "He has a mid-Dharma adept helping him. How could his credit not go up?" Green Wolf laughed coldly. "Nowadays it's not uncommon for high-level adepts to help low-level adepts earn credit." Green Fox interrupted their argument and said, "Stop talking nonsense. If we don't make a move now, we'll have to kill Little and Little Mara." The three of them knew very well that it would not be easy to steal credit from Tianqing Laozu. Even though Tianqing Laozu was only an early Dharma adept, the power of his fire spell was not to be underestimated. Even with the help of the two mid-Dharma adepts Tianqin and Laozu, it was not the first time that Tianqing Laozu had killed a Jade Shura. Green Fox thought that the two adepts of the same level, Tianqin or Tianshan, were only slightly more experienced than her, but the three of them rarely dared to kill a Jade Shura alone. It was clear that when Tianqing Laozu used this fire spell, Green Wolf and Green Tiger would not be able to defeat him even if they worked together. The three of them rushed into the midst of the demonic Shura horde, and immediately snatched a blood Shura amidst Ji Tianxuan's curses. With the three of them working together, and Jianghu being an authentic mid-Dharma adept, Jianghu killed the blood Shura very smoothly and successfully snatched the 3 points. It was just that Ji Tianxian was so anxious that he kept cursing and swearing behind the three of them. He swore that he would never do this mission of luring the enemy ever again. Every time he risked his life to lure Mara's team, he would end up with nothing to show for it. Among the few early Dharma adepts of Zhenling's sect who were currently fighting for battle credits, his battle credits were the worst. Amidst a series of thunderous explosions, a blood devil lured by Qin Yu and Qin Gang was executing its soul-devouring ability when Lei Laolu, who was hiding behind them, suddenly launched a sneak attack. A series of thunderous divine abilities blasted the blood devil into a daze. Before the blood devil could react, Lei Laolu had already attacked again. With the cooperation of the Qin brothers, he killed the blood devil. As the blood demon's body disintegrated, a soul-devouring crystal was left behind, which Qin Yu hurriedly kept. With this soul-devouring crystal, he could exchange it with Zhenling for a portion of the soul-returning elixir or soul-nourishing elixir, as well as a considerable amount of training resources from the temporary marketplace. As the battle with Mara became more intense, the casualties among the human practitioners increased. Many practitioners who had been injured by the soul-devouring power of the blood demon were unable to recover from their injuries due to the lack of soul-devouring crystals. This caused the value of the soul-devouring crystal to rise steadily. Qin Gang's face was a little pale. It was obvious that the battle with the blood demon had consumed a lot of his energy, but he still looked excited as he said to sixth brother Lei, Brother, it's another 15 points. We're almost on the list, aren't we? Sixth brother Lei took out the imaging stone and looked at it, then smiled at Qin Gang and said, "It should be. But the early Dharma stage battle rankings changed too quickly, so it's hard to say. After all, it's rare to see such a well-timed ambush." Among Lu Tianyuan, Li Tianru and Ji Tianxian, only Ji Tianxian remained indignant, while Li Tianru and Lu Tianyuan merely smiled and turned to deal with another blood demon. By now, Lu Tianyuan's position on the battle rankings was becoming more and more stable, so he did not mind giving up a blood demon to Jianghu and the others. Moreover, Jianghu and the other two had special statuses. Lu Tianyuan and Li Tianru were mature enough to not want their sect to lose such a powerful ally. Chapter 1308. The remaining 6 blood Mara were quickly surrounded and killed by the Jinling adepts. Among them, Jianghu and the other two killed a blood Shura and a blood demon, while Lu Tianyuan and Tianfeng's 3-man team each killed a blood Shura. Lei Laolu used his strange speed and thunder magic to deal heavy damage to the blood Mara, and quickly got his hands on the second blood Shura. The death of 6 blood Mara caused the remaining hundreds of blood Mara of different sizes to quickly collapse. The Dharma adepts of Jinling took the opportunity to kill more than half of the Mara team. At this moment, a loud noise came from the top of the hill, and Tianqin Laozu walked out of the sea of fire. Her face was pale, obviously because she had used up a lot of her inner yuan. However, she looked around and frowned. She said something to the Jinling adepts who were chasing Mara's team in the distance, and everyone gave up on chasing Mara and rushed back. At the same time, the sea of fire that covered the sky suddenly shrank, and a scream came from the sea of fire. Tianqin Laozu staggered out of it, but Tianqin Laozu's expression suddenly changed, and a colorful flame shot out from her sleeve towards Tianqin Laozu's back. She shouted, "You scoundrel, how dare you!" A green filament flickered in the air, swimming towards Tianqin Laozu's back. Suddenly, Tianqin Laozu roared, and Tianqin Laozu sensed that something was wrong behind him, but it was too late to dodge. He saw a colorful flame shoot behind him, and a series of sounds like water drops splashing into a pot of boiling oil. The green filament was burned to nothing by the colorful flame. Tianqin Laozu swayed, and there was a muffled sound in the distance, and then a dim light appeared 100 feet away and fled into the sky. Tianqin Laozu shouted at the Jinling warriors to stop chasing, and he told everyone to be on guard. There was an explosion and the sea of fire had disappeared. What was left was the Jade Shura, who was burning in flames, screaming and flying back and forth in the air. Eventually she turned into ashes. After the Jade Shura died, the fire became a red flame, and Tianqin Laozu took it in his hand. Tianqin Laozu, who had looked tired because of the consumption of his qi, was shocked. Staring at the spiritual fire in Ancestor Tianqing's palm, Jianghu gasped and said, "Mother and child core fire. It turns out to be such a rare spiritual fire of heaven and earth. No wonder." Green Tiger and Green Wolf had never seen a spirit fire like this before, but Green Tiger was more straightforward. He asked, "What kind of spirit fire is the mother and child core fire? It is so powerful." Green Fox said, "The mother and child core fire is only a mid-tier heaven-class spirit fire, but it can be divided into 1 low-tier heaven-class spirit fire, 3 mid-tier earth-class spirit fires, and 9 high-tier mystic-class spirit fires. These 13 spirit fires are centered around a low-tier heaven-class spirit fire, and can be used to practice a powerful secret skill called Burning Sky Hell. It seems that Tianqin Laozu has successfully practiced this secret skill. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to kill 2 Jade Shura and get on the War Glory leaderboard. Supreme Divine Secret Skill? Green Tiger smacked his lips, his eyes full of envy. Even Green Fox, who was at the mid-Dharma stage, had only managed to practice 2 or 3 special skills, let alone Tianqin and Green Wolf. Tianqin Laozu was only at the early Dharma stage, and yet he was able to practice such a powerful skill. Although most of it was because of the mother and child core fire, with this powerful skill, Tianqin Laozu had the right to challenge those of a higher level. Jinling had set up an ambush and killed a Jade Shura and 6 blood Mara in one fell swoop. In the buffer zone, such a feat could be considered to be extremely lucky and powerful. But the commotion caused by the battle still attracted the attention of others. In the buffer zone, one could not and did not dare to go all out in any battle with the Devil Luo army, because they did not know when the Devil Luo or other cultivators would be attracted by the battle, waiting for both sides to suffer heavy losses before they could reap the benefits. Therefore, the human cultivators who hunted and killed the Devil Luo army had to leave enough backups to imitate the occurrence of accidents. But this time the attack on Tianqing Laozu was not an attempt to steal the War Glory leaderboard. It was a complete assassination, and the target was only Tianqing Laozu. Who was the assassin? Tianqing Laozu and the others had gained a lot from the battle, but after what had happened, they didn't dare stay any longer. They hurried back to Jinling's base. In Jinling's sect's encampment, Yin Tianchu was dressed in black. His face seemed to always be shrouded in a layer of mist, making it difficult for the cultivators who had seen his face to remember his appearance. At this moment he was standing in front of the psychic jade stele in the square. The cold and murderous aura around him caused the Zhenling sect cultivators to subconsciously keep their distance from him. More than 10 rays of light descended from the sky. They were Tianqing Laozu, and the others who had returned from the buffer zone. The practitioners of Jinling who had already noticed that Lu Tianyuan and Tiancheng's points had risen again from the War Glory leaderboard, cheered and greeted them. Tianshan Laozu and Xianglu Laozu, who were stationed at the base, also came out of the cultivation room to greet them, but they soon found Yin Tianchu standing in front of the psychic jade stele. "Nephew Yin, I haven't seen you for a few days and you've gained a lot." After Tianqing Laozu and Tianshan Laozu briefly talked about the encounter in the buffer zone, they saw Yin Tianchu walking towards them, so Tianshan Laozu took the initiative to greet them. For the past 10 days, Lu Ping had been in seclusion in the base to refine pills. Yin Tianchu didn't go out to kill Mara with the others, but disappeared alone for a few days. Today was the first time he returned. However, Tianshan Laozu knew that Yin Tianchu had also gained a lot in the past few days through the changes in the War Glory leaderboard. Not only did his ranking not fall, but it had risen by 1 place. Although the momentum of the increase in points was not as fast as when he joined forces with Lu Ping, it was enough to prove that although Yin Tianchu's strength was not as good as Lu Ping's, it was enough to compare with the direct descendants of the major sections. For a medium-sized sect from the North Sea to have 2 such outstanding third-generation disciples was enough to make Jinling proud. Yin Tianchu silently bowed to Tianqing, Tianshan and Tianshan Laozu, then said, "The people from Azure Sea sect and Xianling sect have also arrived. Azure Sea sect and Supreme Xian sect are together, while Xianling sect has consolidated a small base near the Crystal Palace. Ocean Flames sect and Shui Yen Pavilion are also here, but the 2 sects have chosen to base themselves in the periphery." Tianqing Laozu and the other 2 nodded silently, thinking of the cultivator who had almost assassinated Tianqing Laozu during this hunt. Chapter 1309. Just after the various sects of the North Sea had appeared on the battlefield of the 9 Shenlu Tower, Tianqing Laozu had been attacked. No matter what, this was not enough to make the 3 second-generation Jinling adepts suspect anything. Moreover, the assailant had accused Tianqing Laozu of being the assailant for no reason. No matter how they looked at it, it seemed a little strange. Tianqing Laozu turned to Tianshan Laozu and asked, "Does the sect have any information on how Wang Xianqing advanced to the late Dharma stage?" Tianshan Laozu shook his head and said, "This matter is indeed a little strange. It seems that the disciples of the Blue Sea sect do not know that they have a great adept of the late Dharma stage. However, Wang Xuanqing's core was severely damaged by disciple nephew Lu. Even if he had the Samling 5 Elements elixir to recover his core, it would still be impossible for him to advance to such a high level in one go. This time it must have something to do with the Taishan sect. It's just that ever since the battle in the station, Wang Xianqing has not appeared again. It seems that the Taishan sect is also somewhat secretive about Wang Xuanqing's existence." The 3 Laozu could not figure out the reason behind this, so they simply changed the topic. Tianqing Laozu looked towards a training room deep in the station. There was a hot ball of fire hovering in the air, and for the past 10 days, there had been various kinds of elixir fragrances wafting in the training room. Tianqing Laozu was also a master alchemist, but because this Samling fire source elixir was almost the first time in the world of alchemy, even she could not guess what Lu Ping had been doing in the world of alchemy these days. This rascal vowed that the Samling fire source elixir would only take 3 to 5 days. Now that 10 days have passed, why is there still no news? Could it be that he is hiding in there to refine other elixirs? Compared to Tianqing Laozu was a little more nervous. He said, "Could it be that this Samling fire source pill is more difficult to refine? After all, no one in the cultivation world has ever refined this kind of pill." Tianqing Laozu, however, asked curiously, "But it's been a full 10 days. I thought that disciple nephew Lu's ranking in the mid-Dharma stage would have dropped a lot, but now he's still in the top 5. What? This time, it was the turn of Tianqing Laozu and Tianqing Laozu, who had been out hunting Mara for the past few days, to be surprised. The two of them came to the Psychic Jade tablet to look at the mid-Dharma stage battle score list. They saw that after a full 10 days, Lu Ping's battle score was still at 178 points. However, his position at the top had naturally been surpassed by someone, and he was still in 4th place. But what was strange was that the 5 people who had surpassed Lu Ping were not the few cultivators who had been following closely behind Lu Ping as everyone had imagined. For example, Yuan Feixiang, who had only been 2 points away from surpassing Lu Ping, now had 176 points, but his ranking had dropped to 5th place. As for Xie Tianyang, who had been in 3rd place, his battle score remained the same. However, with 151 points, he was now only in 13th place, falling even further. As for Fan Mingjie, who had been in 4th place, he had returned to 2nd place. His battle score had reached 187 points. Clearly, Fan Mingjie's battle score had increased greatly during this period of time when Xiang Palace had focused all their efforts on defending the mountain pass encampment and resisting the attack of Mara's army led by the 3 Sky Fiends. As for Nangong Shaojian, the Southern Pavilion Master of Skyward Pavilion, he was right behind him with 183 points. His ranking had risen from 5th place to 3rd place. Qin Shijun, who had been in 6th place, was said to have killed an Azura with the help of the Crystal Palace cultivators. After that, he had surrounded and killed Mara's team several times in the buffer zone. His points kept rising, surpassing everyone else in one fell swoop. With 195 points, he took 1st place. Tianxian Sec's Chao Jianpain had risen to 6th place. She was only 1 blood Azura away from Yuan Feixiang. After Chao Jianpain, Yuan Ku was in 7th place. Wuxing School's Huo Wuyang was in 8th place, Lingyun Valley's Qingguang Zhang Jifei was in 9th place, and Jiushuan Tower's Wei Zhen had finally made it into the top 10 on his own. Currently, among the top 10 ranks of the mid-Dharma stage battle score list, the 6 Holy Lands each occupied 1 place. However, the number 1 family in the world, the Yuan clan, had 2 people on the list in one fell swoop. One was the chief heir of the long-established Tianxian sect, while the other was a demon from the North Sea. Yin Tianchu deliberately looked at Xiang Palace's Xie Tianyang and Su Jin. He knew both of them and had previously taken note of their battle score rankings. However, their battle score had not increased in the past 10 days. Other than Xie Tianyang, who had slipped to 13th place, Su Jin had slipped to below 20th place. However, compared to Su Jin, Yin Tianchu once again noticed the name of a cultivator from the Yuan clan. This person was called Yuan Jinglei. He had previously been in the 18th place, but now he had risen to the 14th place. It was said that the Yuan clan's thunder magic was incomparable to Mara's. It seemed that the rumors were true. Just by looking at the top 10 of the battle score list, they occupied 2 places, and the top 15 occupied 3 places. It was clear that the Yuan clan had played a huge role in Mara's crisis. Yin Tianchu looked down again. He was ranked 46th on the battle score list. He had advanced by 1 place with 101 points, but the difference between him and those at the top of the list had actually widened. Not only Yin Tianchu but Tianqing, Laozu, and the others had also noticed the problem with this ranking list. That's not right. Other than disciple Lu, who is cultivating in seclusion, why has Xie Tianyang, Yuan Feixiang, Su Jin, and the others' battle score not increased at all? Most of the people on the mid-Dharma ranking list were the elites of the 3rd generation of cultivators from various sections. These people were all people that the various sects paid attention to. Even Tianqing, Laozu, and the others had long heard of these people's names. Tianqing Laozu said, other than disciple Lu, Xie Tianyang, Yuan Feixiang, and Su Jin only stopped increasing their battle scores after the battle between the Yuan clan and the Xiang Palace and Mara's army. This means that these 3 people either left their respective bases after that, or they suffered varying degrees of injuries during the battle and are now recuperating in their bases, so they are unable to participate in the battle. The Samling Fire Source Elixir was, after all, a legendary elixir. Although Lu Ping still had 6 leaves that had been hastened to the heaven-level lower grade as a backup, Lu Ping still did not dare to be careless. He put all his effort into cultivating the Samling Fire Source Elixir. The Nachuan Cauldron, the Silver Spirit Flame, the Purple Crystal Royal Jelly, the Spirit Fire Smelting Purification Technique, the Spirit Explosion Technique that used top-grade spirit stones as a medium, and his powerful Divine Will, all of these were put together by Lu Ping. In just 3 days, Lu Ping had already successfully opened the alchemy furnace, and the 3 Samling Fire Source Elixirs were perfect. However, Lu Ping had to pay a hefty price for these 3 spirit pellets. Just during the core formation stage, Lu Ping had to detonate nearly 20 top-grade spirit stones in order to prevent the formation of defective spirit pellets. Although 20 top-grade spirit stones were only a drop in the bucket for Lu Ping, for a Zhenling mid-Dharma realm cultivator, 20 top-grade spirit stones were almost equivalent to the sex cultivation allowance for 2 years. Although 20 top-grade spirit stones were only a drop in the bucket for Lu Ping, for a Zhenling mid-Dharma realm cultivator, 20 top-grade spirit stones were equivalent to the sex cultivation allowance for 2 years. In addition, there was also half a bottle of purple crystal royal jelly. As the purple crystal queen bee's cultivation advanced to the mid-core forging stage, the quality of the royal jelly it brewed had improved again, but the output was getting lower and lower. This also made the purple crystal royal jelly in Lu Ping's hands more precious. With the improvement of Lu Ping's alchemy skills, unless it was necessary, he rarely used purple crystal royal jelly in the process of alchemy. However, in order to successfully refine the Samling fire source elixir this time, Lu Ping directly poured half a bottle of royal jelly into the alchemy furnace. However, after Lu Ping successfully refined these 3 fire source elixirs, if Lu Ping opened the furnace again to refine again, even if it was to refine the water source elixir or wood source elixir of other attributes, he was confident that he could reduce the consumption to a minimum. However, this time he used the rare spirit grass in the world to refine a legendary elixir. This also allowed Lu Ping's alchemy skills to achieve a comprehensive sublimation. This kind of enlightenment was similar to the epiphany during cultivation, so Lu Ping urgently needed to thoroughly stabilize it. Therefore, Lu Ping urgently needed to open the furnace again to refine elixirs. Moreover, he wanted to refine rare elixirs that were unique in the cultivation world. Lu Ping only used 1 day to restore his Zhenyuan and prepare new alchemy materials. This time he wanted to refine the White Lotus Body Shelter elixir. The main ingredient he wanted to use was the 9,000-year-old white jade lotus root that Lu Ping had kept in his collection until now. After several considerations, Lu Ping finally decided to refine this 9,000-year-old white jade lotus root into an elixir that could strengthen the body. Although this white jade lotus root was also a top-notch spiritual material for refining an avatar, if it could really become an avatar, its power would be much stronger than that of Lu Xiaoping, who had been refined from the 8,000-year-old grey willow tree. However, in Lu Ping's opinion, although an avatar was strong, it was ultimately an external object. If he refined the White Lotus Body Shelter elixir and used it to strengthen the body, it might not be as fast as an avatar in the short term, but in the long run, it would be very beneficial to Lu Ping. The White Lotus Body Shelter elixir was actually a type of elixir that was specially used to refine lotus roots to strengthen the body. The quality of this elixir was completely dependent on the grade of the white lotus root that was used as the main ingredient. A White Lotus Body Shelter elixir that was refined from a 300-year-old white lotus root would have almost no effect on strengthening the body of a cultivator. However, if it was a 3,000-year-old white lotus root, then the White Lotus Body Shelter elixir that was refined would be enough for a late Dharma adept to start a sect extermination war. If it was the 9,000-year-old white jade lotus root in Lu Ping's hands, even he himself did not know what kind of people he would provoke if news of it leaked out. At the very least, pure young adepts would probably fight it out with each other. Lu Ping's heart thumped violently. This was a treasure that he had obtained when Lu Ping was still in the blood condensation stage. As Lu Ping's level of cultivation and experience increased, Lu Ping became more aware of its value. This also made Lu Ping even more careful to conceal its existence. Chapter 13:10. The refining process of the White Lotus Body Storage Pill was even more complicated than the Samling Fire Source Pill. Naturally, it was more difficult to refine. What's more, unlike the Samling 5 Elements leaf in Lu Ping's possession, Lu Ping only had one 9,000 years old white jade lotus root. If there was an accident, Lu Ping was not confident that he could find another similar white jade lotus root. Lu Ping would rather lengthen the time required to concoct the White Lotus Body Shelter pellet. Even so, the consumption of his true essence, divine sense and spirit herbs would be greatly increased. But this way Lu Ping would be able to grasp every detail of the process more precisely. He would strive to perfect every step of the process, all so that he could successfully concoct the White Lotus Body Shelter pellet in one go. In fact, Lu Ping could have used a more conservative method. The previous section of the lotus root was divided into several sections and then refined separately. This way the difficulty of refining would be reduced, and even if there was an accident, the entire lotus root would not be destroyed. However, this way during the process of alchemy, the medicinal properties of the white jade lotus root would inevitably be lost. Even if every furnace was successful, the overall medicinal properties of the refined pills would not be able to catch up with the white lotus body storage pill that was refined in a single furnace. After a full 5 days, the Na Chuan cauldron finally opened. A small white lotus figure appeared on each of the 3 white lotus body storage pills. The moment the cauldron opened, they rushed out of the cauldron. Lu Ping was shocked at first, then he was overjoyed. There was even a hint of disbelief in his eyes. It was not unusual for a pill to have spirituality after it was refined, but for the spirituality of the pill to be so dense that there was a pill spirit similar to a tool spirit, this was really not simple. Although the pill spirits condensed on these 3 white lotus body storage pills were only embryonic and did not have their own consciousness, and they could only barely take shape with the help of the huge amount of spiritual energy gathered when the cauldron was opened. As time passed, the spiritual phantoms on these pills would collapse, but this was enough for Lu Ping's alchemy to stand at the peak of the cultivation world. According to legend, when Taoist Gui demonstrated alchemy to the audience, when the cauldron was opened, what flew out of it was not a round pill, but a variety of spirits. Then a lightning tribulation would descend. The spirits that could safely survive the lightning tribulation would completely become existences like the tool spirits of spiritual treasures, while the pill spirits that could not survive the lightning tribulation would be destroyed along with the pill. Although the pills Lu Ping refined would not attract a lightning tribulation, the fact that they could condense a pill spirit the moment they came out of the cauldron was enough to be treasured by pure yang cultivators. Each of the 3 white lotus body storage pills was the size of an egg. Not only were they condensed from the essence of a whole 9,000-year-old white jade lotus root, but they also contained a considerable amount of rare spiritual herbs that Lu Ping had accumulated over the years. This could be said to be the proudest work of Lu Ping's alchemy career. Out of the 3 spirit pellets, Lu Ping carefully collected 2 of them with the purple jade marrow mystic crystal bottles and placed them into the bottles. Each bottle contained only 1 spirit pellet, and Lu Ping sealed them with layers of spirit sealing art. The last pill was swallowed by Lu Ping without hesitation. This pill had a spirit. The moment Lu Ping threw it into his mouth, it even rolled on its own, trying to jump out of Lu Ping's mouth. After he swallowed it, it continued to jump, trying to escape the fate of being devoured and refined. Lu Ping had to silently circulate his jinqi to suppress the resistance of the pill with the spirituality of his jinqi. At the same time he refined this white lotus body storage pill. After an entire day, Lu Ping had only absorbed all the essence of this pill into his bloodline. However, it would take a very long time for the essence of this pill to completely integrate into his body. The white feather body storage pill refined from the 9,000-year-old white jade lotus root was not an ordinary pill. If Lu Ping wanted to completely integrate it into his body, it would take a very long time. Not to mention Lu Ping still had 2 other pills on him. If he wanted to completely refine them, it would take even longer. Legend has it that someone once used a 3,000-year-old white jade lotus root to refine this white lotus body storage pill. After successfully refining it, the pill could not only nourish the body, but it could also implant a divine ability similar to a substitution talisman. It could save the life of a cultivator in a moment of life and death. Although this effect could only be used once, it would undoubtedly give a cultivator an extra life. The white lotus body storage pill that Lu Ping refined was a 9,000-year-old white jade lotus root. Its effect was countless times stronger than the 3,000-year-old white lotus body storage pill. The substitution talisman must have the same effect as the 3,000-year-old white lotus body storage pill. In fact, it might even have more effects than the 3,000-year-old white lotus body storage pill. One had to know that the substitution talisman was one of the most profound achievements in the field of talismans. Its status in the field of talismans was similar to that of the 7-colored restriction-breaking talisman. To make a substitution talisman, not only did it require top-notch talisman crafting skills, but it also required countless rare and precious spiritual materials in the process of making it. The cost of making a substitution talisman was no less than that of refining a white lotus body storage pill. The South Sea Talisman Pavilion was a sect that was proficient in making substitution talismans. Basically, every Dharma adept in the Talisman Pavilion had a substitution talisman as a life talisman. This gave the Talisman Pavilion cultivators a great advantage in battles. This was also the reason why the Talisman Pavilion had obtained the highest number of battle credits during the Siege of Mara among the large sections. For the time being, Lu Ping did not have the time to refine a second white lotus body storage pill. Although he could feel that the bones and muscles in his body were absorbing the essence of the elixir in his veins, Lu Ping did not have to deliberately stay in a state of isolation. Although he could not refine all 3 White Lotus body storage pills in a short period of time to strengthen his physical body, Lu Ping could still roughly estimate that these 3 White Lotus body storage pills would at least be able to push his physical body to the level of a spirit-nurturing treasure. With Lu Ping's physical body at that time, summoning a second Thunder Calamity to advance to the late Dharma stage would be no problem at all. Even if he were to face a third pure Yang Thunder Calamity, after Lu Ping had observed the Thunder Calamity of the numinous treasure being split in half, he believed that he might be able to resist it. However, at this time, Lu Ping's level of practice, strength and foundation had still been improved, so naturally, Lu Ping would not casually summon the Thunder Calamity to advance to the late Dharma stage. In the meeting hall, when Tianqing Laozu received a Samling Fire Source elixir from Lu Ping's hands, his hands were even trembling. Like Tianqing Laozu, who had sustained injuries to his foundation, he had usually given up any hope of improving his level of practice. Although Lu Ping had told him about the Samling 5 Elements leaf, Tianqing Laozu had only treated it as a form of hope. After all, ever since the legend of the Samling 5 Elements leaf had been passed down by Taoist Gui, no one in the world of practice had actually seen such a treasure. However, when this hope became a reality, even someone like Tianqing Laozu could not suppress the excitement in his heart. However, when Lu Ping casually asked, "Uncle Master, are you going to shut yourself off to refine the elixir now or after a period of time?" Tianqing Laozu's expression froze for a moment, but he immediately recovered and smiled. "There's no rush. Even if I recover from my original injuries, the old man will not immediately summon the Thunder Calamity. I've already waited for a few decades, so waiting for this battle to end won't make much of a difference. No matter what, the old man still has to fight for the early Dharma stage battle achievements list. If he advances to the mid-Dharma stage at this time, the old man has no confidence that he will be able to win against you." Chapter 13:11. After hearing the news from the 9 Profound Towers battlefield in the past 10 days, Lu Ping was slightly surprised by the changes in the battle achievements list. Although Lu Ping had long since given up hope that he would be able to maintain first place on the leaderboard, he did not expect that he would still be ranked 4th. In the face of Lu Ping's surprise, Ji Tianxian could only express his grief. Is the buffer zone's Mara that easy to kill? While the human cultivators are hunting the Moro cultivators, isn't the Moro cultivators also hunting the human cultivators? Lu Ping grunted and said, "So, human cultivators do not have the advantage in the buffer zone?" Ji Tianxian nodded and said, "If they have the advantage, why would they need the buffer zone? At best they are evenly matched. Besides, the current Mara is very cunning. When human cultivators set up traps to kill Mara, these Mara would often beat them at their own game. Moreover, the originally brainless Mara has also begun to gain intelligence, making it easier for others to fall for it. Quite a number of sects had suffered greatly in the hands of the Demon Luo army. Thus, the cultivators from the various sects are now being very cautious when entering the buffer zone. Additionally, they are all forming alliances. They would rather get less battle merits from hunting down the Demon Luo army than to be too arrogant and attract the attention of the Demon Luo army. Under such circumstances, how many people can obtain a harvest every day? Not only that, after entering the buffer zone, the cultivators not only face the increasingly cunning Mara's army, but also the cultivators of various sects with ulterior motives. In order to snatch battle achievements, they have killed and robbed people more than once or twice. Because of this, there have been many sects that have fallen out with each other. If not for the 13 pure Yang cultivators above them, I'm afraid that the encirclement of Mara this time would have become a motley crew being chased and beaten by Mara's army. In just 10 days, Qin Shijun has risen from the 6th place with 140 points to the 1st place with 195 points. That's only an increase of 55 points. On average, he only reaps 1 blood fiend per day. This is because of the reputation of the Crystal Palace, so they don't have to worry about someone secretly attacking them after entering the buffer zone. Moreover, every time the cultivators of the Crystal Palace enter the buffer zone, they have the advantage in numbers. In addition, the entire Crystal Palace now prioritizes taking care of Qin Shijun. Otherwise, the Azura that the Crystal Palace besieged back then would not have left the final blow for him. In the northeast direction of the 9 Mysteries Tower battlefield, the Tianxian sect was also facing the attack of Mara's army. However, compared to the current Purple Sun Palace, the Tianxian sect's current situation was undoubtedly much better. This was mainly because the Tianxian sect's 7th Fan Laozu was an expert among the pure Yang cultivators. Otherwise, the Tianxian sect would not have been repeatedly feared by the Wuxing school and the Holy Land of the Central Plains because of his appearance. What's more, at this time, Tianxian sect also had a more terrifying pure yang cultivator, sky-splitting swordmaster Xiao Baiyu. Under the cooperation of the two, although the devil army that attacked Tianxian sect still had two celestial demons, in fact Tianxian sect really had the upper hand. Under the joint suppression of the two pure yang cultivators, the two sky demons and most of the Azura and Mara's army were all restrained by the two of them. If it were not for the fact that the Tianxian sect's army was outnumbered, the Tianxian sect would have launched a counterattack long ago and defeated Mara's army. Another important reason why the Tianxian sect did not launch a counterattack so easily was because of the existence of the Taishan sect's territory, which was not too far away from the Tianxian sect's camp. The two sects had been enemies for many years. The Tianxian sect had never been afraid to think the worst of the other party. Unless the Tianxian sect had absolute confidence, they would not easily launch a counterattack against Mara's army. Otherwise, the Taishan sect would definitely not mind stabbing the Tianxian sect in the back. In fact, the Tianxian sect had been fighting against Mara's army for so long, but the Tianxian sect had never taken action. In addition to the fact that the Tianxian sect's two great cultivators Han Wuya and Huo Wuyin had been seriously injured in Jinling, and the Tianxian sect's two pure yang cultivators Laozu had been intimidating them, the most important reason was that when Mara's army invaded the Tianxian sect's camp, a group of Tianxian sect's elite cultivators had been patrolling outside the camp. This group of elites, led by the Tianxian sect's great cultivator Qingli Laozu, had launched a surprise attack against Mara's army. At the same time, they were also responsible for deterring and obstructing any forces who intended to plot against the Tianxian sect during the confrontation between the Tianxian sect and Mara's army. This time, Lu Ping and Yin Tianchu had come to the Tianxian sect's camp because Linyu Laozu had received a secret message from Xiao Baiyu. Recently, the Tianxian sect had been planning a counterattack against Mara's army. Linyu Laozu, who had mostly recovered from his injuries, had decided to go and help. After Linyu Laozu informed Jinling of this news through Lu Ping and Yin Tianchu had rushed over first. Last time, during the battle for Jinling's camp, Xiahou Wushang and Yun Jian had gone all out to help Jinling. Naturally, Jinling would not remain indifferent to the Tianxian sect's counterattack against Mara's army. Not to mention, Jinling wanted to become a large-scale sect in the future. The Tianxian sect was also one of the candidates for Jinling's treasure ship. Thus, this was the best time to strengthen the relationship between the two sections. Jinling's camp was located to the northwest of Nine Profound Tower while the Tianxian sect's camp was located to the northeast. There was a distance of several thousand li between them. In order for Jinling's army to reach the Tianxian sect's camp, they would have to pass through a buffer zone of several thousand li. This was quite the test for Jinling. Currently, the strongest people in Jinling's camp were Lu Ping, Tianshan Laozu, Tianqin Laozu, Yin Tianchu, and Xianglo Laozu. Among the five of them, Xianglo Laozu's sea bell could not be easily used in front of others. Lu Ping was the strongest and Yin Tianchu was proficient in secret techniques of concealment and had a good rapport with Lu Ping. The other two needed to be stationed at the camp to ensure safety. Thus, the task of rescuing the Tianxian sect was first placed on these two. Besides Lu Ping and Yin Tianchu, Jinling had also sent Jianghu and the other two, as well as Lu Tianyuan and Tianfeng. However, the route that the five of them took avoided the dangerous buffer zone as much as possible. If they wanted to reach the vicinity of the Tianxian sect's camp, it would probably take some time. If Lu Qin'er and Lu Hai were included in the House of Gold, Jinling had sent out 9 Dharma adepts in one fell swoop. This level of strength was enough to show Jinling's sincerity. Lu Ping and Yin Tianchu were both strong cultivators who were proficient in concealment techniques. They traversed thousands of miles of buffer zone and avoided fighting as much as possible. However, it still took them 2 days and 1 night to reach the vicinity of the Tianxian sect's camp. However, along the way 2 more blood shuras had fallen under Lu Ping's sword. Yin Tianchu had also taken the opportunity to kill a blood demon while Lu Ping was entangled with a team of Mara. Hey, there's movement. Lu Ping stretched out his hand to stop Yin Tianchu who was behind him. His divine will spread out in all directions like a tide, even bringing up an undetectable gust of wind in mid-air. Yin Tianchu tried to extend his divine will as far as he could, but to no avail. A look of helplessness flashed across his face. Lu Ping sensed something and turned to look behind him. He smiled and said, "It seems we just so happen to be in the middle of a good show." Without saying a word, Yin Tianchu followed behind Lu Ping and turned to head north. In a valley tens of li away, a battle between the humans and Mo Luo was in full swing. However, outside the valley, tens of cultivators were sneering as they observed the many cultivators who were fighting against Mo Luo's team. They did not do anything about it. A magic array had taken shape on the highlands surrounding the valley, completely sealing off all the exits from the valley. Led by two great cultivators, several tens of cultivators stood outside the valley, hovering above the magic array as they watched the cultivators in the valley engage in a bloody battle with the Devil Luo army. These two great cultivators were acquaintances of Lu Ping. One was the great cultivator of the Taishan sect, Han Wuya. The other was none other than the second-generation cultivator of the Songhai sect, Wang Xianqing, who had strangely raised his level of cultivation to the late Dharma stage. At that moment, the two of them were smiling as they watched an old man entangled with a jade demon and two jade shuras in the valley. Han Wuya laughed loudly and said, "Brother Mara is indeed powerful. Even when three jade Mara join forces, they are completely suppressed. I admit that I am no match for this kind of power." At the side, Wang Xianqing smiled eerily and said, "You're going to die either way. Fellow Daoist Qing Li, you should kill a few more demonic auras so that we won't have to deal with the aftermath later." Han Wuya clapped his hands and smiled. "Wonderful, wonderful. Brother Xianqing is right. Brother Qingli, did you hear that? Please fight Mara as much as you can. We have all the time in the world." Xiahou Wushang forced the jade shura in front of him to retreat. He took the opportunity to turn his flying sword and shoot it behind him. A blood shura that was trying to sneak up on him was instantly pierced by the flying sword. Xiahou Wushang raised his head and looked at the cultivators of the Xian sect, who had trapped his sect and the demon Luo army in the valley. His eyes shone with a murderous light, but then he had to use all his energy to deal with the jade shura in front of him, who was coming at him again. On the other side of the valley, a beautiful and tall female cultivator had a cold expression on her face. Her entire body was filled with murderous intent, but there was a hint of hesitation. She looked at the handsome cultivator in front of her and said, "Sixth, why? Why did you betray us? Has the Xian sect ever done anything wrong to you?" The handsome cultivator did not say a word. He just did his best to resist the female cultivator's attacks. But the female cultivator in front of him was clearly much more powerful than he was. If the female cultivator had not used her full strength, he would not have been able to last until now. Qing Li Laozu's rolling voice suddenly came. "Don't say anything more. If you are so crazy, just kill her." The female cultivator's expression was one of pain and misery. She suddenly let out a shrill scream and the fierce attack stopped. A strange look flashed across the handsome cultivator's face and he said, "So the gap between us is so big." The female cultivator looked at the handsome cultivator whose chest was gurgling with blood as he fell backward. The bitter expression on her face turned into a ferocious one. She then leaped into the midst of Devil Luo's team. Chapter 13:12. The Tianxian sect doesn't seem to be in a good spot. This should be one of the Tianxian sect's secret outposts. How did the Tianxian sect use a formation to block the valley and even lead a group of Mara inside? Lu Ping and Yin Tianchu had already snuck into the void hundreds of feet away from the valley. At this time, the two great cultivators Han Wuya and Wang Xianqing, who were standing outside the formation above the valley, were completely unaware of the arrival of the two. They continued to taunt the Tianxian sect cultivators who were engaged in a life-and-death battle with the army of Mara in the valley. Not only did they have their gate blocked, but they were also able to quietly lead a group of Mara to attack the valley. They even easily changed the formation that was originally guarding the valley to be used by the enemy. The Tianxian sect must have gotten rid of a traitor. Yin Tianchu said resolutely, but Lu Ping also agreed with him. "What do we do now?" Lu Ping looked at the dozens of Tianxian sect cultivators around the valley. In addition to the two great cultivators Han Wuya and Wang Xianqing, there were 5 mid-Dharma adepts and 8 early Dharma adepts. The remaining 30 to 40 Tianxian sect disciples who were maintaining the operation of the formation were all late core forging realm cultivators. At this time, it was obvious that Lu Ping and Yin Tianchu could not fight against so many people. Lu Ping said helplessly, "Let's wait and see first. The Tianxian sect is planning to wipe out this group of Tianxian sect cultivators in one fell swoop. When the Tianxian sect has killed all the Mara in the valley, it will be when the Tianxian sect is exhausted. At that time, the Tianxian sect will definitely attack with full force. At the same time, it will also be a good time for us to break the formation. In this way, the Tianxian sect might suffer greater losses, but this was also the best time for Lu Ping and Yin Tianchu to help. The Tianxian sect cultivators must be saved, but if Lu Ping and Yin Tianchu were to put themselves in danger in order to save the Tianxian sect cultivators, it would not be worth it. Suddenly, however, the cultivators from Supreme Enigma sect attacked. Several wretched screams rang out from within the valley. Lu Ping looked around and saw that these cultivators of the Taishan sect had taken advantage of the critical moment of the battle between the Tianxian sect cultivators and Mara to launch a sneak attack. The disciples of the Tianxian sect had no time to pay attention to anything else and were suddenly struck one after another. Some were killed by the sneak attack, while others were killed by Mara after the sneak attack. Qing Li Laozu's angry roar came from the valley. Han Wuya, if the old man escapes today, I will repay your Taishan sect 100 times over. Han Wuya said darkly, if you want to take revenge on my sect, you'll have to see if you can survive until then. Do it. The formation that the Taishan sect had set up on the top of the valley was just a modification of the original formation that the Tianxian sect had used to protect their position. Although it had trapped the Tianxian sect cultivators in the formation in a hurry, it required dozens of core forging disciples to constantly use their inner yuan to maintain the operation of the formation. Therefore, at this time, those who were free to attack the Tianxian sect cultivators in the valley were all Dharma adepts. The Tianxian sect's core forging disciples in the valley were often killed by these Dharma adepts. Although a few Dharma adepts tried their best to save them, they were unable to attend to one thing and lose sight of another. Only the angry shouts and curses of the Tianxian sect's Dharma adepts could be heard coming from the valley. Yin Tianchu said from the side, if this goes on, I'm afraid there won't be many core forging disciples left in the valley. A green light flashed in Lu Ping's eyes, as if he had discovered something interesting. He smiled and said, that Qing Li Laozu doesn't look like he's giving it his all. I'm afraid the Tianxian sect is still hiding their strength in this valley. Yin Tianchu's face did not change at all when he heard this. He only said, then maybe we don't need to do anything? Lu Ping smiled and said, no, on the contrary, we're going to do it soon. As soon as Lu Ping's voice fell, there was a sudden scream from the valley. Wang Xianqing suddenly turned into a black fog and disappeared from the sky above the valley. Han Wuya was holding a pair of long whips in his hands. It was the wind and rain dual whips that Lu Ping had seen before. Han Wuya and Huo Wuyin had originally each held one of these whips. The two of them had created the name Wind and Rain Dual Whips in the world of practitioners. But Huo Wuyin had been injured by Lu Ping, and his injury had not yet healed, so the whips were now under Han Wuya's control. Without the two great practitioners, Lu Ping and Yin Tianchu once again flew dozens of feet into the sky above the valley. The practitioners of the Tianxian sect could not detect them at all. When they looked at the scene in the valley, they saw that Qing Li Laozu had seriously injured a Jade Shura. The three Jade Mara that were attacking him were about to be defeated one by one. Wang Xianqing and Han Wuya could no longer sit still. The two of them suddenly joined forces to attack from above the valley. For a moment, they formed a pincer attack with the two Jade Mara that were attacking Qing Li Laozu. The black fog that Wang Xianqing had turned into fell from the sky like a black waterfall. A token about a foot long, wide at the top and narrow at the bottom burst out of the black waterfall. The entire black waterfall suddenly turned into a spiral in the air, as if it had become a black snake, and wrapped around Qing Li Laozu. The Sea Transferring Order. Lu Ping, who was hiding in the void outside the valley, narrowed his eyes. This time, because the two great practitioners of the Tianxian sect had sneaked into the valley, the other Dharma adepts of the Tianxian sect were mostly focused on the valley. They did not know that there were already two people sneaking in. At this time, both Yin Tianchu and Lu Ping were confident that they could kill or seriously injure a mid-Dharma adept of the Tianxian sect if they suddenly attacked. But Lu Ping still stopped Yin Tianchu from attacking. He looked into the valley. At this time, the situation that Qing Li Laozu was facing was almost hopeless. Lu Ping thought to himself, at this time they should not be hiding anymore. Just as Wang Xianqing was using the vast sea technique to control the sea transferring order, trying to imprison Qing Li Laozu, the wind whip in Han Wuya's hand knocked away the first calamity spirit treasure that Qing Li Laozu had used, and the whip of rain followed closely behind to wrap around Qing Li Laozu's neck. With the two great practitioners attacking at full force, Qing Li Laozu's escape route was sealed, and his ability to fight back was restricted. There were also two Jade Mara coming at him aggressively, and he was in a desperate situation. Old Qing Li, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and die. Outside the valley, Lu Ping said in a low voice, do it. A mid-Dharma adept from the Taishan sect suddenly heard a deafening roar coming from behind him. When he quickly turned around, he saw a monstrous wave descending from the sky, engulfing him in a sky full of swords in one fell swoop. Enemy attack. One of the mid-Dharma adepts had just shouted out loud when his voice stopped abruptly. He had already sensed that someone was attacking him. The treasure in his hand was already trying his best to protect his body, but Yin Tianchu's shapeless sword formula still managed to break through his protective spell and severely injure him. Chapter 13:13. Han Wuya revealed a proud expression. Ever since the battle at Jinling's encampment, the Great Xian sect had become the laughingstock of the cultivation world. Not only did a large sect from the central continent go looking for trouble with a medium-sized sect from the northern sea, but they were also captured alive by a medium-sized sect that didn't even have a great cultivator. In the end, they were imprisoned and used as a tool. In the end, the two of them returned with serious injuries, and Huo Wuin's source was even heavily injured. This time, he had planned for a long time to deal with the forces of the Tianxian sect that were roaming around the periphery of the station. He finally found their secret station and successfully trapped them in it. He even lured a team of Devil Luo into the valley to kill them. Now, it was a great opportunity for him to reap the benefits. Old Ghost Qingli, what are you waiting for? Accept your death. Wishful thinking. Forefather Han Wuya's proud expression froze on his face. The tribulation spirit treasure in the hands of forefather Qingli, which had been sent flying by Han Wuya's wind whip, was suddenly caught by a hand that reached out from the air. Then a figure controlled the wind-stopping flag which had originally belonged to forefather Qingli, and charged toward Wang Shenqing in the air. As soon as it arrived, it blew away half of the black mist in the air. Even the black waterfall falling from the sky was blown to the side. It was this tilt that allowed Qingli Laozu to easily break free from the black waterfall. Qingli Laozu, who had lost his spirit treasure, smiled mockingly at Han Wuya. There was a flash of light in his hand and a 3-inch tall milky white porcelain bottle appeared in his hand. Grade 2 spirit treasure, spirit sealing bottle. How did this thing end up in your hands? Han Wuya didn't even care about the great cultivator from the Great Xian sect who had suddenly appeared and was fighting with Wang Shenqing. He just stared at the porcelain bottle in Qingli Laozu's hand and let out a strange cry. He tried to retreat. However, Qingli Laozu didn't use his Grade 2 spirit treasure to fight with Han Wuya. Instead, while Han Wuya was retreating with the wind whip, he suddenly turned around. The Grade 2 spirit sealing bottle suddenly rose from Qingli Laozu's hand and expanded. The mouth of the bottle sucked in one of the jade shuras. The jade shuras were caught off guard and were sucked into the bottle. The other jade demon saw that its comrade couldn't fight back at all in front of this Grade 2 spirit treasure. It was also scared and retreated. Han Wuya, on the other hand, had calmed down. The wind and rain dual whips created a storm of whip shadows in the sky. They stacked on top of each other and steadily advanced toward Qingli Laozu. Even if Han Wuya's wind and rain dual whips weren't as good as a second tribulation spirit treasure, it was enough to fight against the Qingli forefather. If the Jade Demon had taken the opportunity to attack again, Han Wuya still had a chance to defeat the Qingli forefather. What's more, the cultivators of the Supreme Mystery Sect had already begun to join the battle in the valley. Although the exhausted Supreme Mystery Sect had gained the upper hand in the battle against the demonic Luo army and had a backup plan, the Supreme Mystery Sect had been waiting for them to tire themselves out. The moment they charged into the valley, they had caused great casualties to the Supreme Mystery Sect. Just as Han Wuya and the Qingli Great Ancestor began to fight, two wretched cries rang out from above the valley. Even though the shouts and cries of killing in the valley and the occasional roar of magic covered it up, Han Wuya could still clearly hear the two wretched cries coming from the top of the valley. Han Wuya's heart skipped a beat. Oh no, the sky above the valley has been sealed by a formation. It is impossible for the cultivators of the Tianxian sect to break out of the formation. Then there is only one possibility. Someone has attacked the cultivators of the Tianxian sect. Once the formation was broken, Han Wuya's painstaking plan to destroy the outer encampment of the Tianxian sect would be in vain. Once his plan was exposed, the Tianxian sect would have to face the wrath of the Tianxian sect. Thinking of the killing god who was standing on the side of the Tianxian sect, and the fact that the Tianxian sect was in the wrong, it was impossible to get the support of the Holy Lands like Wuxing School. Han Wuya suddenly felt a headache. Who could it be? Could it be that the Tianxian sect had a secret encampment outside the valley? Lu Ping and Yin Tianchu suddenly launched a sneak attack, killing and seriously injuring two mid-Dharma adepts of the Tianxian sect. The rest of the Tianxian sect cultivators surrounded the two, but most of the Dharma adepts of the Tianxian sect had already entered the valley to kill the Tianxian sect cultivators. Most of the core forging disciples were left in the sky above the valley to assist in the operation of the formation. Coupled with a few Dharma adepts who stayed behind to guard the formation, although they had the advantage in numbers under the rampage of Lu Ping and Yin Tianchu, there were indeed heavy casualties. Although a few Dharma adepts who stayed behind tried their best to organize the core forging disciples into the formation, how could Lu Ping and Yin Tianchu let them do as they wished? A white jade lotus bloomed at Lu Ping's feet, protecting him within, while the thin water-flowing sword turned into a raging wave that rushed towards the shore, pushing back the attacks of the Tianxian sect cultivators layer by layer. At the same time, under the control of the shapeless sword technique, the water ghost sword kept appearing and disappearing among the surrounding Tianxian sect cultivators. Almost every time it attacked, it was able to cause casualties among the Tianxian sect cultivators. Lu Ping naturally did not stop there. The sword of the true spirit transformed into a dragon above Lu Ping's head, and every time it attacked, it was able to seriously injure the Dharma adepts who were hiding among the Tianxian sect cultivators who were trying to organize the formation. Only Lu Ping's inner Yuan and Divine Will were able to control 4 flying swords in one go, and at the same time he was able to use 3 different kinds of powerful sword techniques at the same time. Apart from Lu Ping, who had attracted the attention of most of the Tianxian sect cultivators with his powerful attacks, Yin Tianchu had transformed into an invisible killer, appearing and disappearing unpredictably over the valley. Almost every time he attacked, he was able to kill or seriously injure a Tianxian sect cultivator. With the two of them working together, the ceiling formation that the Supreme Profound sect had set up over the valley could no longer be maintained. With a loud bang, the hidden great cultivator of the Heavenly Profound sect broke through the formation in the valley while entangled with Wang Shenqing. The two of them fought fiercely all the way until they were several kilometers away from the valley. At this time, the Tianxian sect also knew that someone had come to their aid. Seeing that the ceiling formation over the valley had been broken through, the morale of the Tianxian sect cultivators was greatly boosted. One by one they flew into the air, got rid of Mara and rushed out of the valley. The only opponents left in front of them were the Tianxian sect cultivators. "Brother Lu, it's you." Xiahou Wuxiang also rushed out of the valley, but he had shaken off the cultivator of the Taishan sect who was trying to attack him. He had not shaken off the Jade Shura and Blood Shura that were following him. However, when Xiahou Wuxiang saw that nearly 20 Tianxian sect cultivators were besieging Lu Ping, he was overjoyed. He shouted, "Brother Lu, I'm coming to help you." After saying this, he rushed straight into the battle that was besieging Lu Ping with the 2 Tianxian sect cultivators behind him. The Tianxian sect cultivators could not stop them, so they let them break in and then continued to besiege them. However, they had forgotten that the 2 Shuras behind Xiahou Wuxiang did not recognize the Tianxian sect or the Tianxian sect. In their eyes there was no difference between the two. Seeing that there were human cultivators closer to them, the 2 Shuras gave up chasing Xiahou Wuxiang and rushed into the midst of the Tianxian sect cultivators to beat them up. This time, it became Lu Ping and Xiahou Wuxiang working together, a Jade Shura and a Blood Shura to attack the nearly 20 Tianxian sect cultivators. The Tianxian sect cultivators were suddenly thrown into chaos. For a time, there were heavy casualties, and the formation over the valley could no longer be maintained and completely collapsed. Seeing that the formation in the valley had been broken, the Tianxian sect cultivators, who had been besieged in the valley by the Tianxian sect and Mara, were suddenly freed from their predicament. The Tianxian sect's advantage, which had been waiting for them to exhaust themselves, was offset by the appearance of Lu Ping and Yin Tianchu. The two sides were now standing on the same starting line. However, at this time the Tianxian sect's morale was greatly boosted. On the contrary, the Tianxian sect's originally stable advantage was instantly reversed. Some of the cultivators were still entangled with the Tianxian sect cultivators, while the others had given up after their plan failed. The battle was now in the Tianxian sect's favor. "Lu Tianping, so it's you." Han Wuya roared through gritted teeth. However, at this time he was too tired to deal with the flames coming out of the spirit-fixing bottle held by Qingli Laozu. He could not spare a hand to deal with Lu Ping, so he could only curse a few words at Lu Ping. However, before Han Wuya could curse a few words, a cold chill had already penetrated the back of his head from behind. Han Wuya screamed, no longer caring about Lu Ping who had ruined his plan. The spiritual qi in his body boiled, and the light under his feet flashed continuously. He had already appeared several feet behind him, and at the same time, the wind whip in his hand had already exploded. The strong wind it had stirred up was already whipping behind him. Clang. A dagger appeared in midair, blocking the wind whip. The black-robed Yin Tianchu was sent flying back by Han Wuya's fierce counterattack. However, at this time, Qing Li Laozu stretched out a finger and a tongue of flame took the opportunity to lick Han Wuya's body. Han Wuya screamed, and the other rain whip set up layers of rain in front of him. However, in the end, it still could not completely block the tongue of flame that came out of the spirit-fixing bottle. The tongue of flame stubbornly broke through the curtain of rain and burned Han Wuya's body as he tried to dodge. Han Wuya let out a scream. His entire back was burnt black and the bun on his head was burned into a mess. He did not dare to stay here any longer. He shouted, "Taishan sect, retreat, retreat." After all, it was a large sect that had been famous for a long time in Middle-earth. At this time the Taishan sect was at a disadvantage, but after Han Wuya shouted, the Taishan sect cultivators still did not panic. Several Dharma adepts gathered together with Han Wuya and Laozu at the back. The Tianxian sect cultivators tried to take the opportunity to kill them, but they were blocked by Han Wuya and the others. They only killed a few Taishan sect disciples who were too slow to run. Qing Li Laozu then stopped the others from chasing. Don't chase a desperate enemy. First, kill the rest of the Mara. The cultivators who were left behind to guard the valley were no longer worried. With the help of Lu Ping and Yin Tianchu, the Tianxian sect cultivators quickly wiped out the remaining Mara in the valley. Chapter 13-14. At the end of the day, this group of Mara cultivators had merely been lured here by the Taishan sect to deplete the strength of the Tianxian sect cultivators in this secret encampment. Many of them had already been killed in the chaotic battle earlier. Now that the Tianxian sect was free, this group of Mara cultivators could no longer cause any trouble, and all of them were turned into battle points for the cultivators. You're Lu Tianping? A tall female cultivator who was filled with murderous intent and hostility, came before Lu Ping. She looked him up and down before saying, "You're very strong, but my battle points have already surpassed yours." Only then did Lu Ping notice that there was also a psychic jade tablet in this secret encampment of the Tianxian sect. Currently, on the battle points leaderboard of the mid-Dharma adepts, Lu Ping's battle points had already reached 189 points, but his ranking had slipped from 4th to 5th. The person who had surpassed him was the Tianxian sect's chief disciple, Chao Jianpain, who had originally been ranked 6th. She was now ranked 4th with 193 points. Qin Shijun was still in 1st place with 214 points. Nangong Xiaojian had surpassed Fan Mingjie and was ranked 2nd with 205 points, while Fan Mingjie was ranked 3rd with a whopping 200 points. After Lu Ping's ranking changed again, Yuan Feixiang's points remained the same. She had fallen to 7th place, and Hua the Infinite had caught up from 8th place. Yuan Feixiang was only 3 points behind Yuan Feixiang. However, Lu Ping saw that Xie Tianyang's battle points had risen again, but he was still ranked 13th. As long as his points rose, it meant that Xie Tianyang's injuries were no longer a problem, which was good news for Lu Ping. Besides that, Lu Ping also saw Sang Yu's name in 15th place. He had also caught up. After all, she was the most outstanding Empyrean walker in the Spirit Beast sect, so how could she be weaker than anyone else? What do you think? Interested in a match? The female cultivator was filled with hostility. She looked full of battle intent, but it was more like she was looking for someone to vent her anger on. Lu Ping glanced at her and said, "You are Chao Jianpain?" The female cultivator snorted and said with a hint of arrogance, "That's right." Lu Ping casually swung his right hand, and a sword light flashed past Chao Jianpain's side at lightning speed. Chao Jianpain was startled and she retreated several feet in a row while shouting, "What are you doing?" Lu Ping looked behind her and shrugged. "I'm in front of you now." Chao Jianpain's face showed a hint of suspicion. She suddenly turned her head in the direction of the sword light that Lu Ping had slashed. She saw Xiahou Wushang looking gloomily at a jade Shura whose body was falling apart. There was a wound on the back of the jade Shura's heart, which had obviously shattered the jade Shura's heart space. On the psychic jade steel, Lu Ping's battle points suddenly moved, rising from 189 to 199. His ranking also jumped up by 1 place, pushing Chao Jianpain, who had just risen to 4th place, back to 5th place. "You," Chao Jianpain's face was suddenly filled with anger and she shouted, "You are taking advantage of others. Shameless." Although she said that, Chao Jianpain knew that if she had been in Lu Ping's position, she would not have been able to dodge the sword light. Although she looked angry, she was afraid in her heart. Lu Ping smiled and did not respond. Chao Jianping saw that Lu Ping was so lazy and she was even angrier. However, she knew that Lu Ping was the key to the Tianxian sect's victory in this battle in the valley. So she snorted coldly, and the conveyance light flashed under her feet. She went to the valley to find the unlucky Mara that had not been eliminated yet. However, when she was in midair, Chao Jianping's conveyance light stopped, and a red embroidered ball appeared in her hand. It was also a first tribulation spiritual treasure. The embroidered ball flew out of her hand, and the brain of a scarred blood azura burst. Not far from the blood azura, Yin Tianchu stepped out of the void and stared at Chao Jianping in front of him. This blood azura was obviously Yin Tianchu's prey. It had been seriously injured by Yin Tianchu previously, and only had one last attack left. Unexpectedly, it was intercepted by Chao Jianping. Chao Jianping made a provocative look at Yin Tianchu, and the conveyance light flashed under her feet and disappeared. At the same time, Yin Tianchu's figure once again hid in the void. Seeing Xiahou Wuxiang coming over, Lu Ping smiled at him and said, "Brother Xiahou, don't blame me for stealing your battle points." Xiahou Wuxiang smiled bitterly, waved his hand and said, "Let's not talk about that. It's just that my senior sister is simple-minded and only knows how to cultivate. She doesn't know the ways of the world. Previously, she encountered 6 junior brothers' betrayal of the sect, so it was inevitable that she would act a little too aggressively. Please don't blame her, Brother Lu." Lu Ping's previous attack was actually a sneak attack, but Chao Jianping was able to retreat several feet in such a short time. Even if Lu Ping really attacked Chao Jianping, that sword attack might not be able to achieve its full effect. Chao Jianping was the first heir of the Tianxian sect, and even someone like Xiahou Wuxiang was suppressed by her. Her reputation was indeed well-deserved. Lu Ping heard this and said, "Senior sister Chao is the first heir of your sect, and her strength is indeed well-deserved. But what happened to your 6th junior brother?" Xiahou Wuxiang sighed and said, "It's a shame for our sect. 6th junior brother entered our sect at a young age, and his aptitude and comprehension are the best in our sect. He is the youngest among the heir cultivators of our sect, and he is also senior sister Chao's childhood sweetheart. I didn't expect that he would not only expose this valley to the Shen sect, but also send away the guarding disciples of the valley before the Shen sect arrived, and attract Mara, causing the sect to fall into chaos. This allowed the Shen sect to take control of the protective formation of the station and transform it into a trap formation to seal off the valley. Oh, and this, has he escaped with the Shen sect now?" Xiahou Wuxiang shook his head and said, "No, he was killed by senior sister Chao." A strange look flashed across Lu Ping's face and he said nothing more. Xiahou Wuxiang obviously didn't want to say anything more. Lu Ping was led by Xiahou Wuxiang to see Qingli Laozu. When Qingli Laozu saw Lu Ping coming, he laughed and said, "Lu Xiaoyu, I haven't seen you for decades and I didn't expect you to have achieved so much. The old man thanks you on behalf of the Shen sect today." Lu Ping quickly said, "Senior, you flatter me. I just happened to be at the right time. Besides, senior brother Xiahou Wuxiang helped us guard the station, and I have a grudge against the Shen sect. Lu Ping will not stand by and do nothing." Lu Ping could see that Qingli Laozu's face was very pale. It was obvious that he had been attacked by Han Wuya and the Jade Shura. Even if he had a second-level spirit treasure, the spirit-sealing bottle, he had been seriously injured. Lu Ping paused and said, "This time I received news from Senior Lin Yu that your sect is preparing to counterattack the Mara army that is besieging the station. Therefore I and junior brother Yin have come to help. After this, there will be a few Dharma adepts from our sect who will come to help. If you have anything to do, just let us know." Qingli Laozu was overjoyed and said, "Has Master Lin Yu already arrived? But it is already a pleasant surprise to have Lu Xiaoyu's help. The Shen sect will be very sensitive to your help." As the two of them spoke, a beam of light descended from outside the valley. It was the second great adept who had appeared in the Shen sect station. This person had used a secret technique to hide his level of practice, pretending to be a mid-Dharma adept. When Han Wuya and Wang Shenqing could not help but attack Qingli Laozu, he suddenly attacked and almost seriously injured him. "Disciple Wu Lu, come, let me introduce you to a rising star. This is Lu Tianping, Lu Xiaoyu of Beihai Jinling." Qingli Laozu personally introduced Lu Ping. It was obvious that he valued Lu Ping very much. At the same time he said to Lu Ping, "Lu Xiaoyu, this is the second-generation adept of our sect, Wu Lu. He has just passed the second lightning tribulation. This time we were careful. Otherwise, the Shen sect's attack this time would have caused us much more losses." Wu Lu Laozu was a middle-aged man with a clear face and a long black beard. The two of them had met, and Wu Lu Laozu was obviously very polite to Lu Ping. Then did the Xian sect retreat? Wu Lu Laozu nodded and said, they retreated. However, although the great adept from Beihai who fought with me, Wang Xianqing, is not very strong, there are many strange things about him. Lu Xiaoyu is from Beihai. Do you know anything about this Wang Xianqing? Lu Ping knew that Xiahou Wuxiang must have told the elders of the sect about the last battle, so he was not the least bit surprised that Wu Lu Laozu knew about Wang Xuanqing's identity. Hearing Wu Lu Laozu's words, Lu Ping also wanted to ask the two Laozu about this matter, so he told them about Wang Xuanqing's background. In the end he said, this Wang Xianqing has been seriously injured by me. Unless he can obtain the legendary Samling 5 Elements elixir, there is no way he can recover. Moreover, this person's talent is not necessarily very good, so it is impossible for him to push his level of practice from the early Dharma stage to the late Dharma stage in just 100 years. Lu Ping paused and then said, Junior's knowledge is shallow and I really do not know the reason behind this. I wonder if the two elders understand the reason behind this? Wu Lu Laozu and Qing Laozu looked at each other, and Wu Lu Laozu said in a low voice, it is not impossible to push a practitioner's level of practice from the early Dharma stage to the late Dharma stage in just 100 years, but the training resources needed to do so are not worth the cost. It is just that this person was once injured by Lu Xiaoyu, but still his level of practice increased by leaps and bounds. This is a little strange. Lu Ping asked tentatively, does this have anything to do with the Taishan sect? Based on my understanding of the Canghai sect, let's not talk about whether they are able to refine the legendary 3 spirits and 5 elements elixir. Just the amount of resources required to raise an early Dharma adept to the late Dharma stage in such a short period of time is not something that the Canghai sect can easily achieve. Chapter 13-15. A strange look flashed across Qing Li Laozu's face as he said, if the Taishan sect really has such a special technique, then we must be on guard against it. The world of cultivation is vast and there are countless strange techniques. Even with my knowledge, I can't guess all of them at once. Fortunately, this time our sect's counterattack against the Mara's army is right in front of us. When the time comes, the old man can introduce you to our sect's 7 Fan Laozu and Xiao Baiyu. These 2 pure yang cultivators are very knowledgeable and may be able to answer your doubts. As soon as Qing Li Laozu's voice fell, the 2 great cultivators and Lu Ping looked in the direction of the entrance of the valley. A beam of light landed in front of them, and a mid-Dharma stage cultivator from the Tianshan sect revealed himself. He looked at Lu Ping beside him and said, my 2 Laozu, quickly go and take a look. It seems that senior sister Chao seems to have some misunderstanding with Lu Daoyou's junior brother. The few of them were shocked, and the light under their feet flashed as they rushed out of the valley. When Lu Ping passed by the psychic jade tablet in the center of the valley, he took a look at it and found that in this period of time, Chao Jianping's battle points had already reached the same level as Lu Ping's, reaching 199 points. Yin Tianchu's battle points had also risen by 1 place to rank 45. In a corner outside the valley, the remaining Mara had all been forced here, but at this time the many cultivators from the Tianshan sect only surrounded the few remaining Mara, and there were only 2 people inside, constantly slaughtering the remaining Maras as if in a fit of pique. And in the deepest part of this group of Mara, a blood demon stood alone, doing its best to command a group of small and large Mara to attack in a low voice. Their goal was to fight for the last blood demon. The smaller and smaller Mara would not affect their battle achievements at all. However, with their strength, the large and small Mara simply couldn't stop them from killing the blood demon. However, the beauty of the situation was that both of them wanted to kill the blood demon first, but they didn't want the other to take the initiative. Therefore, such a strange scene appeared on the battlefield. Every time Chao Jianping tried to rush in and kill the blood demon, Yin Tianchu would turn around and help the blood demon to attack Chao Jianping. On the contrary, when Yin Tianchu suddenly attacked the blood demon, Chao Jianping would also throw the red embroidered ball. Yin Tianchu's strength was originally inferior to Chao Jianping's, and his strength was not this kind of frontal attack. Naturally, he had no choice but to retreat. Nonsense. Wu Lu Laozu was furious. He stretched out a finger and a cold light flashed. The blood demon's forehead was instantly pierced. Lu Ping clearly saw that this golden light was the wind-stabilizing flag that Qing Li Laozu had used to block the attacks of Umara during the battle with the Supreme Shen sect. After the flag was wrapped around the flagpole, it was like a large spear. This wind-stabilizing flag had been passed on to Wu Lu Laozu long ago, but Wu Lu Laozu had been hiding his own cultivation, so Qing Li Laozu had used this spirit treasure to confuse the enemy. Qing Li Laozu had hidden an even more powerful second tribulation spirit treasure, the soul-stabilizing bottle. In reality, Wang Xianqing and Han Wuya had indeed misjudged the situation and almost suffered a great loss from the start. Martial uncle. Chao Jianpain immediately pouted when she saw the battle merit points she was about to get snatched away. Wu Lu Laozu angrily rebuked, "Our sect was able to escape this time thanks to the help of Lu Daoyu and fellow Yin. You don't know what's good for you." Chao Jianpain glared at Yin Tianchu, but saw that Yin Tianchu's face was expressionless. He just silently walked behind Lu Ping and stood still. Chao Jianpain felt that her punch had hit empty air. She immediately turned around and angrily returned to the valley. Lu Ping smiled. "Senior Wu Lu, please don't be angry. It's just a competition between us juniors. It's nothing serious." Wu Lu Laozu shook his head helplessly. "My martial nephew is spoiled and stubborn. He doesn't know the ways of the world. He's made a fool of himself in front of the two of you." Lu Ping repeatedly said that he didn't dare, but Yin Tianchu didn't say a word. Wu Lu Laozu and the others didn't mind. They returned to the station in the valley together. Thousands of miles away from the station of the Tianshan sect, the first heir disciple of the Crystal Palace, Qin Shijun, reached out to the top of the 9-story glazed pagoda floating above his head. An extremely shabby-looking oil lamp floated down from the top of the pagoda and landed in his hand. The bean-sized flame was shaking on the wick as if it was going to be extinguished at any time. The oil lamp was a second disaster spiritual treasure. The bean-sized flame was the heavenly upper-grade spiritual fire star light, and the lamp oil in the lamp was the heavenly mysterious fire spiritual oil. Qin Shijun blew on the oil lamp in his hand. The bean-sized flame suddenly separated from the lamp one by one. In an instant, it filled the area with a radius of more than 1,000 feet. It looked like he was standing in the sky full of stars. At the same time as Qin Shijun blew, the area with a radius of more than 1,000 feet was suddenly filled with dense raindrops. However, the raindrops smelled like grease. The star light was suddenly ignited, and the area with a radius of more than 1,000 feet was on fire. The dozens of Mara that were besieging Qin Shijun, along with a Jade Shura and 3 blood Mara, were all ignited by the star light. The demonic Luos turned around and wanted to flee, but the oil lamp was suspended high above Qin Shijun. It was as if the area within a radius of over 100 feet had been locked down. No matter how hard the demonic Luos ran, they could not get out of this area of 100 feet. In the end, these dozens of demonic Luos were incinerated by Qin Shijun with the help of the second tribulation spirit treasure. His battle achievement points rose by 21 points in one fell swoop. However, Qin Shijun had obviously consumed a lot of his qi in this process. After all, he had been besieged by dozens of demonic Luos, and it had consumed a lot of his qi. The oil lamp looked like a fire element spirit treasure, but in fact, it was using the lamp oil. The essence of this spirit treasure was that it could complement fire and water, and it was using the oil lamp's ingenious way of converting. The oil lamp was put back into the 9-story glazed pagoda, and then the pagoda shrank and disappeared behind Qin Shijun. Qin Shijun held the 2 high-quality spirit stones in his hand, and he used the time to recover the qi in his body. There were already a few lights coming from the sky. As the lights landed, a few Dharma adepts of similar age appeared. Qin Shijun opened his eyes and asked with a smile, "Brothers, how did the battle go?" The few adepts looked at each other, and one of the mid-Dharma adepts was the first to speak. "Big Brother is invincible. If Big Brother had not single-handedly fought against a third of the Mara team, I'm afraid that with just the few of us, we would not have been able to get any battle points from this team of Mara." Qin Shijun chuckled and said, "Junior brothers, you're being too modest. If it weren't for your cooperation, I wouldn't have dared to challenge so many evil Luos." Another mid-Dharma adept asked, "This time Big Brother's points on the battle achievements list must have increased greatly, right? Big Brother's position at the top is becoming more and more stable." Qin Shijun's eyes showed a hint of pride, but he said, "Sai, I can't say for sure. Fan Mingjie from the Purple Sun Palace and Nangong Xiaojian from the Skyward Pavilion are not simple characters. Also, Lu Tianping from the North Sea, Yuan Feixiang from the Yuan family, and Xie Tianyang from the Purple Sun Palace are not weak either. If not for the fact that the two of them did not attack Mara during this period of time, the two of them would not have stayed on the battle achievements list until now." At this point, Qin Shijun sighed and said, It's a pity that second brother and third brother did not come this time. Fourth brother and fifth brother's cultivation and strength are still a little lacking, and they are unable to squeeze into the top 20 on the battle achievements list. Otherwise, I would not be the only one in the top 10 on the battle achievements list. Immediately, another disciple flattered, just big brother alone is enough. With second brother and third brother here, the three of you will dominate the top 3 on the battle achievements list. Do you still have the face of the other sects? The crowd burst into laughter and shouted loudly, yes, yes, the Crystal Palace is magnanimous. No matter what, we have to leave some face for the disciples of the other holy lands. Naturally, Qin Shijun would not argue with these brothers. Not to mention dominating the top 3, it would be extremely difficult for the 3 disciples of the Crystal Palace to all enter the top 10. Qin Shijun's eyes flashed, and he looked at an early Dharma adept behind the crowd. He raised his hand to stop the crowd from laughing, and said to the adept behind him, Brother Ouyang, how have your battle achievements increased recently? Seeing that Qin Shijun was so concerned about this person, many of the disciples of the Crystal Palace could not help but look envious and resentful. The expression of this adept did not change, and he said, reporting to Big Brother, thanks to Big Brother's care these days, I have now risen to the 24th place on the battle achievements list of the early Dharma adepts. I believe that in a few days I will be able to rush into the top 20. Qin Shijun nodded, looked at him and smiled. Not bad, Brother Ouyang's swordsmanship is very impressive. Now that you are at the peak of the early Dharma adepts, it seems that you can summon the Thunder Trial at any time and advance to the mid-Dharma adept. Brother Ouyang's hair stood on end under Qin Shijun's gaze, and he suppressed the surprise in his heart. Big Brother's eyes are like a torch. I am indeed only one step away from the mid-Dharma adept, but I still want to build a stronger foundation. Therefore, before the battle at the 9 Shen Tower is over, I will not advance to the mid-Dharma adept. Qin Shijun nodded and praised him. Not bad, brother, it is good that you have this idea. With your early Dharma adept level, you can still occupy the early Dharma adept points list and gain the opportunity to enter the 7th Patriarch's altar. If you summon the Thunder Trial now, even if you have battle achievements, you can still exchange them. Among the mid-Dharma adepts, you will definitely not be able to get on the battle achievements list. Brother Ouyang bowed his head and said, You are right, Big Brother. Qin Shijun looked at him playfully and said, I heard that Brother Ouyang has some enmity with that Lu Tianping. However, Junior Apprentice Brother, I advise you not to provoke him for now. The current him is far from what you can handle. You have learned quite a bit in Water Crystal Palace these past few years, but if you want to match Lu Tianping, it is best for you to rely on your own strength. Water Crystal Palace will not interfere in the personal grudges between cultivators. Chapter 13-16. Qin Shijun's words were not only aimed at junior brother Ouyang, but also at some of the Crystal Palace cultivators who were on good terms with him. Today, Qin Shijun's words would also be spread by the Crystal Palace disciples present, so that all the third-generation cultivators of the Crystal Palace would know his attitude. Yes, it was his attitude. Qin Woyang's strength and status allowed him to be the strongest among the third-generation disciples of the Crystal Palace. Junior brother Ouyang lowered his head and bit his lips tightly. He didn't know whether this was Qin Shijun's own intention or the intention of the Crystal Palace. If it was Qin Shijun's own words, it would only affect the third-generation disciples of the Crystal Palace at most. In fact, he did have the intention to kill with a borrowed knife. But if his words were also expressing the attitude of the Crystal Palace, did it mean that the Crystal Palace planned to withdraw from the North Sea? If that was the case, then it would be a real disaster. After Qin Shijun finished beating junior brother Ouyang, he stretched himself and felt that the real essence in his body had recovered well. Then he muttered to himself, Recently, Mara in the buffer zone has become more and more cunning. I don't know when I will be as lucky as today. Moreover, the danger is not small. Damn, the people behind are getting closer and closer. How can I find a suitable place to kill Mara? Junior brother Ouyang had an idea and said, Senior brother, why don't we go near the encampment of the Tianxian sect? Junior brother Ouyang blinked and said, Currently Mara's army is still besieging the Profound Sky sect, and the Profound Sky sect has the 2 pure Yang Laozu and Xiao Baiyu, the 7 Fans Laozu and the Laozu of Xiao Baiyu, so it won't be easy for Mara's army to break through the Profound Sky sect's encampment. If senior brother goes to the vicinity of the Profound Sky sect to look for opportunities to kill Mara, it will be much easier and safer than going deep into the buffer zone. Qin Shijun thought for a moment and said, That's a good suggestion. Recently, I've heard news from our sect that the Heavenly Mystery Sect seems to be making a big move. If we can catch up to the Heavenly Mystery Sect's large-scale counterattack against Mara's army, it'll be a great opportunity to snatch battle merits. Alright, let's take a look around the encampment of the Profound Sky Sect. Just as Qin Shijun decided to go to the encampment of the Profound Sky Sect, near the encampment of the Yuan clan, Yuan Ku saw Yuan Feixiang hovering in mid-air, looking into the distance. Yuan Ku revealed a joyful expression and said, "Cousin, have you recovered from your injuries?" Yuan Feixiang turned around and smiled, "Oh, it's you, Kudi. Why haven't you been hunting for the past 2 days?" Yuan Kudi smiled and said, "I still need to rest for a couple of days." Who can stand running around and hunting for Mara every day? Yuan Feixiang sighed softly and said, "Kudi, you don't have to do this. It's just a ranking, why do you have to deliberately give in to me?" Yuan Kudi smiled unnaturally and said, "Cousin is still the #1 direct descendant of the clan. If I take advantage of you being injured to surpass you on the battle merit board, there will inevitably be people who don't know the truth and make irresponsible remarks. Not to mention there will be people with ulterior motives. Even if they know that cousin is injured, they won't let go of this opportunity to spread rumors. Rumors are fearful." Yuan Feixiang smiled and patted his shoulder, "They're just clowns, there's no need to pay attention to them. Now that my injuries have healed, you just need to do your best to fight for the battle merit board just like cousin Jinglei. It's a pity that brother Lai didn't come with us this time. Otherwise, my Yuan clan would have 4 people occupying the battle merit board. However, if you want to surpass me, you'll have to show your true strength." Yuan Feixiang smiled humbly and said, "How can I be a match for cousin?" "That's right, where does cousin intend to go?" Now that the Mara in the buffer zone is getting harder and harder to kill, the points on the battle merit board have been slowing down recently. Yuan Feixiang thought for a moment and said, "The Violet Sun Palace is closer and Ling Tian and Lao Zu are also in the Violet Sun Palace. Let's take a look around the Violet Sun Palace." Yuan Feixiang frowned and said, "Violet Sun Palace? Recently, the situation in the Violet Sun Palace isn't too good. Mara's army is gathering there more and more. Cousin, why don't you go to the encampment of the Heavenly Profound Sect?" Yuan Feixiang turned around and said with a smile, "Kadi, you have to understand that no matter how strong Mara is, they will still be defeated. The existence of Mara is only to kill people." Yuan Feixiang's expression changed slightly and no one knew what he was thinking. When he turned around, Yuan Feixiang's lips curled up slightly and a mocking smile hung on his face. The Qingming River flowed past the 9 Profound Tower and suddenly made a big turn towards the south. Thousands of miles downstream of the Qingming River was the encampment of the other sacred land of the Middle Earth, the Skyward Pavilion. At this moment, Zhang Zhifei of the Lingyun Valley was leading a few cultivators of the same level to chase after a group of Mara's troops in the buffer zone. "Senior brother, don't take the risk. It's not worth it to chase into the depths of the buffer zone just for a ranking. If you alarm the Mara's army that is attacking the 9 Profound Tower, not only you, but even the encampment of the sect will be in trouble." Zhang Zhifei cursed angrily, "Damn it, that Qin Shijun is like a madman. I don't know where he found so many Mara for him to kill. If it really doesn't work, I will invite a few great cultivators from the encampment to help me get more battle merits. Senior brother, why don't we go to the vicinity of the Skyward Pavilion's encampment?" Zhang Zhifei was stunned and asked, "What do you mean?" "Senior brother, look at these people on the leaderboard. Whether it is Lu Tianping of the Northern Sea, Yuan Feixiang of the Yuan clan, Yuan Ku, Fan Mingjie, Xie Tianyang, Chao Jianpain, Sima Chongfeng, or even Yu Ziqing of the Talisman Pavilion, the reason why these people are able to do so is because the encampment of their sects has been attacked by Mara's army. These people can be said to be the pavilion closest to the water enjoying moonlight first. All they need to do is keep killing Mara to increase their battle merits. There is no need for them to waste time searching for traces of Mara in the buffer zone like us." Zhang Zhifei thought about it and said with a smile, "What you said makes sense. No wonder eldest senior brother didn't go to the buffer zone when he came from the sect and went east instead. He must have gone to the vicinity of the Skyward Pavilion's encampment, where Mara's army is facing off against the Skyward Pavilion. It is a good place to earn battle merits." Zhang Zhifei chuckled and said, "As expected of eldest senior brother. Come, let's go as well." After the secret encampment in the valley was exposed, Qing Li Laozu brought everyone to a secret place near the encampment of the Heavenly Mystery Sect. At this moment, Lu Ping and Xiahou Wushang were waiting for someone outside the encampment. A bird cry came from the sky. Lu Ping and Xiahou Wuxiang hurried to greet them, and a loud laugh was heard. "Brother Lu, brother Xiahou, we meet again." Lu Ping watched as Sang Yu jumped down from a soaring demon eagle and said with a smile, "Brother Sang Yu, you're late." Sang Yu smiled and said, "On the way we encountered a group of Mara's obstruction. After a fierce battle we were delayed for a while. Come, let me introduce you to the other Empyrean walker of our sect, Senior Brother Feng Jizu." Senior Brother Feng, these two are Lu Tianping of the Northern Sea and Xiahou Wuxiang of the Heavenly Mystery sect that I've mentioned to you before. The soaring demon eagle circled in the air and landed with a tall and skinny cultivator on it. After he landed, he nodded at Lu Ping and waved at the soaring demon eagle. The eagle soared into the sky again, circled above everyone's heads a few times, and then headed toward the encampment of the Heavenly Mystery sect. Sang Yu smiled and said, "This soaring demon eagle is Senior Brother Feng's natal mystical beast. It's extremely fast and has the natal ocular technique. With Senior Brother Feng's soaring demon eagle around, we won't be able to know the movements of the Mara's army like the back of our hands, but at least we won't be surrounded by the Mara's army." The four of them chatted as they walked into the secret encampment. Only then did Lu Ping ask, "Did your sect send a pure young Laozu as well?" Sang Yu smiled and said, "That's right. Our sect's Feng Lu Laozu has a good relationship with the two seniors, Xiao Baiyu and Qi Fan. He'll definitely come this time." Lu Ping laughed and said, "For pure young cultivators, I think victory is in our grasp. It's just that we don't know when we'll launch our counterattack. When the time comes, it'll be a good opportunity for us to hunt for battle merits. Brother Lu, you've been quiet recently, but your position on the battle merit list is getting further and further away. There's no hurry. Annihilating Mara's army isn't something that can be done overnight. There will be plenty of opportunities in the future. Besides, Brother Sang, you've been taking your time. I'm afraid you're also accumulating strength and waiting for the pure yang to give the order, right? When the counterattack will naturally be decided by the pure yang Laozu. When the time comes, we'll just be fighting for battle merits and helping them by the side. However, I heard that Yuan Feixiang, Xie Tianyang, and the others have been increasing their battle merits recently. I'm afraid the battle for the battle merit list will become even more intense. If that's not the case, wouldn't it be too boring?" Haha, Brother Lu is indeed confident. However, it's true that the battle for the battle merit list has only just begun. Chapter 13-17. Lu Ping and Yin Tianchu left the secret encampment of Qingli Laozu and the others, heading northwest to meet up with Jianghu, Lu Tianyuan, and the others who were supposed to arrive today. However, the two of them had traveled hundreds of kilometers, but still did not find any trace of Jianghu and the others. Although the two of them did not speak, their expressions grew more and more solemn. Suddenly, the two of them felt a slight disturbance of spiritual qi. Without hesitation, the two of them flew in the direction of the disturbance. As the two of them moved forward, Yin Tianchu's figure became more and more indistinct, while Lu Ping's expression became increasingly gloomy. Dozens of kilometers away, Yuan Ku and Yuan Jinglei led several cultivators from the Yuan clan to stop Qinghu and the others. Yuan Ku smiled and said, "Zhenling's people? Your clan has been in the limelight recently, but this Mara group belongs to us now. You should leave." Qinghu's expression darkened and she snorted coldly, "Why? We were the first to discover Mara's tracks. If you hadn't followed us, how would you know Mara's whereabouts?" Yuan Jinglei sneered, "We're doing this for your own good. This Mara group's strength is not something that the few of you can handle. We stopped you because we didn't want you to die. You don't know what's good for you, so scram." Qinghu's expression was one of anger, but Lu Tianyuan held her back and said in a low voice, "The Yuan clan is the top clan in the world of practitioners, and I don't think they are the type to bully others. Since everyone already knows the tracks of this Mara group, and this friend here also said that this Mara group is very strong, why don't we join forces and annihilate them? After all, Mara is our greatest enemy. If we join forces, our chances of winning will be higher, so why not?" Yuan Ke looked at Lu Tianyuan playfully. Feeling the strong aura around Lu Tianyuan, she knew that although this person was only an early Dharma adept, his strength was not much weaker than the mid-Dharma female adept. Thus, the scorn on her face faded a little and she smiled and said, "Are you saying that we should each rely on our own abilities?" Qinghu snorted coldly, but she also knew that Lu Tianyuan's suggestion was not wrong. The opponent's strength was obviously stronger than theirs, and if they continued to argue with them, they would end up with nothing. It was better for them to join forces and annihilate this Mara group. When the time came, they would each rely on their own abilities. No matter how strong the Yuan clan was, it was not impossible for them to gain a piece of meat. Haha. Yuan Jinglei laughed as if he had heard the funniest joke, and he said mockingly, "Did I hear wrongly? With just the few of you, you want to compete with us fairly? You need to have the strength to do so." If it was Lu Tianping who said this, we might as well give him some face. But who do you think you are, that you are worthy of being on equal footing with us? The people of Jinling were furious, but they knew that the 5 of them were no match for the opponent. Not to mention the fact that Yuan Jinglei and Yuan Ku were renowned masters of the Yuan clan. Just the 7 or 8 disciples of the Yuan clan alone had 3 mid-Dharma adepts. Even if Yuan Jinglei and Yuan Ku did not intervene, Jianghu and the others might not be a match for the opponent. Seeing that the people of Jinling were silent, Yuan Jinglei's laughter became even more arrogant. At this time, Yuan Ku, who had been looking at the people of Jinling, suddenly said, "Fine, we will give you a chance." Yuan Jinglei's arrogant expression froze on his face as he turned his head and said, "Brother Ku." Yuan Ku raised his hand to stop Yuan Jinglei from speaking. Ignoring his dissatisfaction, he continued, "But whether or not you can get the battle credit will depend on whether or not you have the strength to do so. Haha, since we have a share, why don't we join in as well?" As soon as Yuan Ku finished speaking, a weak voice could be heard. However, there was no movement in the air, and the 5 Dharma adepts of Jinling became even more silent. Yuan Jinglei looked around cautiously, but Yuan Ku, who was beside him, did not seem surprised. He looked at the sky to the side and said with a smile, "So it's the Juzi of the water element from Wuxia school. Since you want a share of the spoils, how can I refuse?" A series of bell-like laughter could be heard. A group of 10 Dharma adepts, 5 men and 5 women, stepped on a white cloud that floated across the sky and slowly landed on the ground. The person in front was dressed in a palace robe, with a ring around her waist and a golden bell that made a crisp sound from time to time. It was the Juzi of the water element from Wuxia school, Shueijiro. Beside Shueijiro was the leader of the 5 male adepts. This person was tall and had an imposing appearance. When he walked with Shueijiro, he looked like a handsome man and a beautiful woman, as if they were a match made in heaven. Yuan Ku saw that this man had an extraordinary aura and asked in surprise, "Who is this person beside you?" Shueijiro giggled, and the man beside her had already said, "I am Zhui." Yuan Ku is right. Yuan Ku suddenly understood and quickly acted as if he had heard of his name for a long time. He said, "So it's the new Juzi of the earth element from Wuxia school. I have been impolite. It's a pleasure to meet you." Shueijiro smiled and said, "Junior brother Zhua has always been a hard worker in our school and has not been famous. This time, after brother Tu fell, junior brother Zhua has taken over the position of the Juzi of the earth element. This is the first time he has walked in the world of practice." Yuan Ku clapped her hands and said with a smile, "This time the group of Mara we are tracking is indeed quite strong. Originally we were wondering if we could wipe out this group of Mara, but now that we have the help of the fellow Taoists from Wuxia school and the 2 Juzi, I think this battle will not be a problem." Shueijiro glanced at the Jinling group and casually asked, "Wiping out Mara is the responsibility of us cultivators, but these fellow Taoists look very unfamiliar. Won't fellow Taoist Yuan introduce them?" When the cultivators from Wuxia school arrived, Jianghu and the others had a bad feeling. The 2 former Juzi of Wuxia school, Tu Gaoshan and Mu Changxing, had fallen under the sword of Lu Ping. This time they encountered the 2 Juzi of Wuxia school, and one of them was the new Juzi of the earth element. It would be strange if the Wuxia school turned a blind eye to them. But now it was too late for the 5 of them to leave. Not only would it be showing weakness if they left now, their previous dispute with Yuan Ku had turned into a slap to their own faces. Moreover, how could the Wuxia school let them go so easily? A strange expression flashed across Yuan Ku's face. She quickly patted her head and blamed herself. "Look at my memory, these are the cultivators from North Sea Jinling. The traces of Mara's group were discovered by these fellow Taoists first." North Sea Jinling. All the cultivators from Wuxia school stared at Jianghu and the other 4 in unison. A fierce murderous aura suddenly surged. For a moment, except for Lu Tianyuan and Tianfeng, the expressions of Jianghu and the other 2 all changed. Zhui, the Juzi of the earth element, took a step forward and shouted, "Where is Lu Tianping?" Lu Tianyuan was not afraid at all. He said in a deep voice, "What? Does the Wuxia school want to win by relying on numbers?" Zhui was so angry that he laughed and said mockingly, "With just the few of you? You are just a small North Sea sect. Do you think you are qualified to behave atrociously in the central region just because you have a genius? You are still far from it. Seeing that both sides were at daggers drawn, Yuan Ku coughed. Shueijiro said with a crisp smile, "Junior brother Zhuo, please calm down. We are facing a great enemy. Don't let fellow Taoist Yuan see us as a joke." Yuan Ku also seemed to be trying to smooth things over. You are right. Now that the disaster of Mara is wreaking havoc, we have to put aside our grudges for now and eliminate this group of Mara's group first. After all, it was fellow Taoist Jinling who discovered it first. Zhuyi suddenly came to his senses. After all, there were people from the Yuan clan here. If they really started a fight, it would be detrimental to the reputation of the Wuxia school and the Yuan clan. After all, eliminating the disaster of Mara was the top priority in the world of cultivation. Even if the Wuxia school and Jinling had a deep hatred for each other, they could at least not strike in front of the Yuan clan. Zhuyi laughed coldly and said, "I have been too impulsive. Since fellow Taoist Jinling discovered the traces of Mara first, then please lead us to chase after them. You are not afraid, are you?" The cultivators of the two sects moved stealthily, cutting off the escape route of Jinling and the other four. If Jianghu and the others did not agree, they would probably be attacked by the two sects together. Jianghu said bitterly, "The Wuxia school and the Yuan clan are harboring evil intentions. They want us to be cannon fodder for them so that they can reap the benefits." Tianfeng's expression was calm, but his eyes flickered with sharp sword intent. Obviously he was ready for a life-and-death struggle. Lu Qinyuan's expression was calm. He was the leader of the five, but now that he was in a desperate situation, even he did not know what to do. Seeing that the cultivators of Jinling were silent, Shueijiro laughed coldly and said, "It seems that Jinling and the others don't take us seriously." The people of the Wuxia school all laughed coldly, and their killing intent rose. The Yuan clan seemed to be watching from the sidelines, but in fact they were the most insidious. At this time, Lu Qinyuan's eyes suddenly flickered, and then he smiled and said, "If that's the case, why don't I, Jinling, show you the way?" Tianfeng's cold voice sounded behind Lu Tianyuan. "Senior brother?" Lu Tianyuan stretched out his hand to stop him and said with a look, "We don't have a choice. These two sects are also on guard against each other. We can only be cannon fodder, but it doesn't mean that we can't find a way to survive." Tianfeng's eyes were lowered, so it was impossible to see what he was thinking. However, Jianghu understood the meaning behind Lu Tianyuan's words, and her expression also became determined. Zhuyi and Shueijiro both sneered, while Yuan said happily, "This is a good thing. Everyone from Jinling, please." Lu Tianyuan snorted coldly, and led the way in the direction they had been following. The people of the Wuxia school and the Yuan clan followed behind Jinling, but they always maintained a certain distance. A moment after they left, there was a flash in the void, and Lu Ping and Yin Tianchu appeared where they had been previously. Yin Tianchu said coldly, "Senior brother, this Yuan must die." Chapter 13-18. Not only Yin Tianchu, but even Lu Ping also felt a strong desire to kill Yuan Ku, who was like a smiling tiger. But before he could completely destroy the Wuxia school and the Yuan family cultivators, Lu Ping obviously would not let Yin Tianchu take the risk to assassinate Yuan Ku. Moreover, Yuan Ku's power was not weak, at least in Lu Ping's opinion. He was not any weaker than the direct descendants of the Holy Lands that he knew. Jianghu and the others had already engaged the Mara army. The cultivators of Wuxia school and the Yuan family, who were hiding in the void behind them, were secretly glad that they had chosen to cooperate with the Mara army this time. Originally, the power of the Mara army was not something that could be easily taken down by either side. As for the Jinling cultivators who had been used as cannon fodder to attract Mara's attention, no one would care about their lives. They did not even mind purposely driving some of the Mara to kill them without leaving any traces. Yuan Ku looked at the composition of the Mara army and said with a hint of relief, 5 Jade Mara and 17 Blood Mara. It will not be easy to take them down. Shueijiro said nonchalantly, "Haven't the 5 cannon fodder from Jinling already lured away 1 Jade Shura and 5 Blood Mara? Even if we cannot take down the rest, it should not be a problem to kill some of them." Yuan Ku, on the other hand, stared at the only mid-Dharma adept among the 5 from Zhenling's sect, Jianghu, and said, "That female adept actually has a spirit treasure in her hands. This North Sea might not be so barren after all, but an axe-shaped spirit treasure should have a strong attack power. Why does this spirit treasure look so strange? Is it trying to kill someone or dig a hole in the ground?" The crowd roared with laughter. Shueijiro looked at it and said mockingly, "A bunch of North Sea country bumpkins. A spirit treasure that was perfectly fine has been destroyed just like that." Zhuyi said from the side, "Then let's do it quickly. The 5 Zhenling cultivators will not be able to hold out for long." There were 10 people from Wuxia school, and 4 of them were mid-Dharma adepts. Among them, Shueijiro and Zhuyi, who were of the 5 elements, had the ability to defeat Jade Mara. The 9 people from the Yuan clan were also 4 mid-Dharma adepts. Among them there were also Yuan Ku and Yuan Jinglei, who were no weaker than the heirs of the various sections. Although there was one less person than the people from Wuxia school, the Yuan clan's special thunder magic, which had been passed down through their bloodline, gave them a great advantage over the other cultivators in the battle against Mara. However, perhaps because Mara had other matters to attend to, or perhaps because he did not care about Jianghu and the other 4, Mara's army only sent a Jade Shura and 5 blood demons to stop Zhenling's group of 5. The rest of Mara's group continued to fly forward. There was a whistling sound in the sky as Zhuyi and Yuan Jinglei attacked at the same time. Zhuyi held a spirit treasure in the shape of a mountain in his hand and shook it in mid-air. The small stones attached to it fell off and suddenly turned into several feet of boulders in mid-air, crashing down towards the center of Mara's group. Yuan Jinglei also did not want to be outdone. A short stick appeared in his hand and he threw it into the air. He formed a few seals with his hands, and then he pointed towards the center of Mara's group. A series of lightning bolts exploded in the middle of Mara's group. Together with Zhuyi, he cut Mara's group in half. Yuan Ku extended his hand towards Shueijiro and said, "After you, my friend." Shueijiro giggled and led the 5 element sect cultivators behind her toward the left side of the Devil Luo team that had been split into 2. Shueijiro let out a delicate cry, and the rain bell on her waist let out a crisp, ding-dong sound as it entangled a jade devil. At the same time, Zhuyi was fighting a Jade Shura in Mara's group. The cultivators of Wuxia school all chose their own opponents. Some fought alone, some worked together and some tried to stop Mara's harassment. They immediately controlled the situation on the battlefield. Different from the simplicity of Wuxia school, the attacks of Yuan's group on the other half of Mara's group were much more violent. Yuan Ku used his thunder magic to the extreme, and the Thunderfall disc, a spirit treasure, floated above his head. Every time he pulled it, a bolt of lightning would fall, no weaker than a great magic. 9 members of the Yuan's group worked together, and it was like a lightning hell blasting Mara's group. But although the thunder magic of the Yuan's family was powerful, and it could burn the Mara's group to a crisp, it didn't do much damage to the high-tier Mara. Soon, Blood Mara and Mara rushed forward, fighting the cultivators of the Yuan's group. Yuan Ku and the others stopped their large-scale thunder magic and started fighting the high-tier Mara's group. Soon they had the upper hand again. At this time, Green Fox and the others were fighting 5 blood demons led by a Jade Shura. After the attacks of Wuxia school and the Yuan's group, the Jade Shura didn't lead the Blood Mara back to help. Instead, she increased her attacks on Green Fox and the others. She wanted to defeat the 5 human cultivators in front of her, and then come back to help. At that moment, Lu Tianyuan and the other 4 had fallen into an extremely awkward situation. In order to resist Mo Luo's attack, the 5 of them had no choice but to shrink their formation completely before going all out to defend. However, they still appeared to be in an extremely sorry state under Mo Luo's attack. However, after they shrunk their formation, they were completely surrounded by the 6 high-tier evil auras. At this moment, it was very difficult for them to break out of the encirclement. Green Fox and Lu Tianyuan were the strongest, and they were at the front, defending against the attacks of the Jade Shura and the Blood Demon. Jianghu was extremely worried. She was secretly complaining about Lu Tianyuan as well. Originally, she was thinking of waiting for the 5 Elements Martial School and the Yuan family to attack first before turning around and breaking out of the encirclement. After all, it would be better than all of them dying here. But this time it was Lu Tianyuan who was in charge. Before they left the base, Lu Ping knew that Green Fox and the others were lazy, so he told Green Fox to follow Lu Tianyuan's orders. That was why Green Fox had followed Lu Tianyuan's orders and defended. Now that they were in this situation, it would be difficult for them to break through. But Lu Tianyuan didn't look worried at all. The Wuxia school and the Yuan's group attacked the Mara's group in the same way, which was to rush into the middle of the group, and while the Mara's group was in chaos, they would gather their best fighters to attack the high-tier Mara, and then kill them. After all, the Mara's army had the advantage of numbers, and if they managed to break through, even if they managed to escape, they would not be able to achieve much. The soft rain bell seemed to have a strong defense against the Jade Demon's soul-devouring magic. With the help of a mid-Dharma adept from Wuxia school, they quickly gained the upper hand. The other Jade Shura was being held back by Zhui Yi, and the rest of the Wuxia school adepts were blocking the other 6 blood Mara and hundreds of smaller and smaller Mara. Wuxia school obviously wanted to break through the Jade Demon first, but the Yuans were focusing on the Jade Shura to break the stalemate. Yuan Jinglei and a mid-Dharma adept from the Yuan's group worked together to suppress the Jade Shura, while Yuan Ku held off the other Jade Demon. The rest of the Yuan's group was also blocking the Mara's attacks. The two families' attacks were executed very thoroughly, and it could be said that victory was in their hands. The only difference was the speed at which they broke the stalemate. However, just as Shui Jiro had defeated the Jade Demon's soul-devouring magic several times, another mid-Dharma adept from Wuxia school took the opportunity to severely injure the Jade Demon. Just as Shui Jiro was about to deal the fatal blow, the Mara army that was attacking the Wuxia school group suddenly fell into chaos. The 7 Wuxia school adepts who were defending against the Mara's frenzied attacks suddenly felt the pressure lessen. However, before they could catch their breath, they saw a sky full of sword light brutally breaking a path through the Mara army. A blood demon was caught off guard and was immediately torn to shreds by the all-pervasive sword light. After breaking through Mara's defense, this monstrous sword wave did not stop at all. Amidst the screams of the Wuxia school adepts, it unreasonably tore through the line of defense formed by the 7 Wuxia school adepts. A human figure had already entered the battle of Wuxia school with the sword light. Shui Jiro looked at the familiar sword light and the familiar figure and cried out involuntarily, "It's Lu Tianping." Only a cold laugh was left in the air. Lu Tianping's dual flying swords had already turned into 2 green dragons that rushed into the battle of the Jade Demons that Shui Jiro and the adepts were suppressing. One of the dragons knocked away the rain bell, while the other circled around the Jade Demon. By the time the sword-light dragon dissipated, the Jade Demon had already been cut into pieces and scattered all over the ground. "Lu Tianping, you've gone too far." Shui Jiro saw that her battle achievement was about to be snatched away, so how could she let it go? Moreover, Lu Ping was deep in the encirclement of the Wuxia school. She immediately shook the spirit treasure in her hand, and the rain bell turned into a giant bell that covered the top of Lu Ping's head. However, how could Lu Ping not have thought of an escape route for this long-planned attack? The moment he succeeded in killing the Jade Demon, he had already turned into a puddle of water and disappeared. With the support of the pure Yang Spirit Treasure's water transformation magic, Lu Ping's art of deceiving heaven and sea became even more unpredictable. The Mara army was once again in chaos. A few adepts from the Wuxia school did not even know how Lu Ping had managed to escape from the Wuxia school's formation. Another blood Shura was killed by a long sword that flashed with lightning. From afar, Lu Ping's mocking laughter could be heard. "I've helped you kill these few Mara Shura. My friends from the Wuxia school, you don't have to thank me." At the same time, Yuan Jinglei had teamed up with another mid-Dharma adept to attack the Jade Shura in front of them. However, at this moment, the battle of the Wuxia school suddenly became chaotic. Lu Ping's laughter could be heard from afar, and it even caused many adepts from the Yuan family to panic. At this moment, Yuan's divine consciousness suddenly detected that someone had appeared on the battlefield. He immediately exclaimed, "Brother Lei, be careful." However, it was too late. A black figure rushed into Yuan Jinglei's formation like lightning, and the Taishan thorn pierced through the chest of the dying Jade Shura. Then a cold light flashed, and the Jade Shura's head flew high into the air. Yin Tianchu looked at Yuan, and his cold eyes flashed with sarcasm and murderous intent. Chapter 13-19. You have a death wish. Yuan Jinglei flew into a rage as he watched the battle merits that he had been about to obtain disappear into thin air. A bolt of lightning as thick as a water bucket shot out from between Yuan Jinglei's hands and exploded towards Yin Tianchu. "Brother Lei, stop." Yuan Ku roared but did not stop Yuan Jinglei from attacking. The lightning exploded and a shadow was blown away. Yin Tianchu had already disappeared from where he had been standing. Yuan Ku snorted coldly. He stretched out his hand and a bolt of lightning as thick as a finger flashed past. A few practitioners from the Yuan family were resisting the Mara group, and a cry of pain could be heard. Yin Tianchu, who had hidden himself, was hit by a bolt of lightning and was sent stumbling out. When the Mara group saw this human practitioner who had suddenly appeared beside them, they were stunned at first, but then they howled and rushed towards him. However, Yin Tianchu naturally would not be trapped by these small and large Mara. A beam of light spread out from under his feet, and the area within a radius of 10 feet was completely covered with a layer of ice. The few great Shuras that were rushing towards him were all frozen in place. Yin Tianchu flashed a few times and his body had already disappeared. Not far away, Yuan Ke looked at Yin Tianchu who had disappeared and muttered to himself, "The Yuan family does not allow you to come and go as you please. You could have kept him here, why did you let him escape so easily?" Yuan Jinglei questioned Yuan Ke angrily. Yuan Ke glanced at him, pointed his chin forward and said, "Lu Tianping is here and there are others. That person should also be Zhenling." Yuan Jinglei followed Yuan Ke's gaze and saw that Lu Tianyuan and the others, who had been surrounded by a Jade Shura and 5 Blood Mara, had now escaped from their previous predicament, and there were now 2 early Dharma adepts among them. To be able to reach the Dharma stage while looking like they were in their teens, it was highly likely that the 2 of them were demonic practitioners. On Lu Tianyuan's shoulder was a foot-long puppet with a sword on its back. It had an aura that was no weaker than that of a normal mid-Dharma adept. This must be the avatar that had risen to fame alongside Lu Tianping. Yuan Jinglei roared, and the 1,000 thunder rods smashed down from mid-air, smashing the head of the jade demon that Yuan Ke had suppressed. Yuan Ke looked at Yuan Jinglei speechless. It was not because he had stolen his battle points, but because he had used the 1,000 thunder rod to smash Mara. Only a brute like Yuan Jinglei could do something like that. Lu Ping and Yin Tianchu both left after one strike, and then the 2 of them joined forces to attack Xinling and the others, who were trembling in front of the 6 high-level Mara. With 9 Dharma adepts and a clone that was equivalent to a mid-Dharma adept, Lu Ping and the others worked together to destroy them. First, the Jade Shura that Qin Hu and Lu Tianyuan had been fighting off was pierced through by Lu Ping's flying sword from behind. Next, a blood demon was chased by Lu Hai and Lu Qiner, who had a cloud sail over their heads. Unexpectedly, they bumped into Yin Tianchu who had been sneaking over. The blood demon was an expert in the psyche, and it quickly discovered Yin Tianchu's hiding place. Unfortunately, it was too late. Yin Tianchu naturally would not give it a chance to defend itself, and the Taishan thorn pierced straight into the soul-devouring black fog, accurately piercing the blood demon's head. Lu Qiner saw that Yin Tianchu had intercepted and killed the spoils that were in her hands, and she made a face at Yin Tianchu unhappily. Unexpectedly, Yin Tianchu ignored her and disappeared again after turning around. The 6 high-level Mara had been killed by Lu Ping and Yin Tianchu, the only Jade Shura and a blood demon. The remaining 4 blood Mara were no longer a threat, and very quickly Lu Tianyuan and the others gained some battle points. After the Jade Shura and the Jade Shura were killed by Lu Ping and the others from Wuxing School and the Yuan clan, the remaining Mara were naturally no match for the 2 families. Very quickly, most of them were killed and the remaining Mara scattered. At this time, the practitioners from the 2 families no longer had any intention of killing them. The 3 forces were evenly matched and they were confronting each other in the valley. The atmosphere was very strange. In the battle to kill Mara, Zhenling, which had been the weakest and had been forced to be cannon fodder by the other 2 families, had become the biggest winner. All of this was because of Lu Tianping, who was standing there with a smile and looking at Wuxing School and the Yuan clan. Wuxing School and the Yuan clan, who had been robbed of their spoils of victory, should have worked together. However, Lu Tianping didn't seem to care about the jealousy of the 2 families. He smiled at Shui Jiro and Yuan Jinglei and said, "Fellow Shui, fellow Yuan, long time no see. Nice to meet you." Yuan Jinglei snorted coldly. Shui Jiro's expression was also somewhat gloomy. She said coldly, "So it's Lu Daoyu. Fellow Daoyu, don't you think your actions are a bit too overbearing?" Shui Jiro wanted to attack Lu Ping, but 2 of the 5 great Juzi had died at the hands of Lu Ping. Shui Jiro didn't dare to act rashly against Lu Ping. Zhuo Yi, on the other hand, was eager to give it a try. However, he wanted to join forces with the cultivators of the Yuan clan and attack together. However, he couldn't see what Yuan was thinking. As for fighting Lu Ping alone, that was simply a joke. Even 2 Gaoshan had died at the hands of Lu Ping. If he had the strength to fight against Lu Ping, how could he only become the Earth Juzi after 2 Gaoshan's death? A hearty laughter sounded. Yuan Ku said with a smile, "So it's fellow Taoist Lu Tianping. Seeing you today, you really live up to your reputation. I admire you." With that, Yuan Ku's gaze turned to Yin Tianchu. "However, this fellow Taoist is very unfamiliar. Is he also a disciple of your sect?" Lu Ping smiled. "Fellow Taoist Yuan is too polite. This is my junior brother Yin Tianchu. Yuan Ku's eyes revealed surprise. Even the others exclaimed in low voices. Then they heard Yuan Ku say in surprise, "So you are fellow Taoist Yin Tianchu, ranked 45th on the battle merit scoreboard." Yin Tianchu glanced at Yuan Ku and did not say anything. Yuan Ku did not mind and continued, "Today, it's all thanks to Lu Daoyu and fellow Taoist Yin's help. Otherwise, it would not have been easy to exterminate this group of Mara." Lu Ping smiled. "Not a problem. Exterminating Mara is the top priority in the cultivation world. Fellow Taoist Yuan, you don't have to be so polite." Just as Lu Ping, Yuan Ku and Shui Jiro were chatting with each other, a long howl came from afar. It was as if a clap of thunder had exploded between heaven and earth. Everyone's expressions changed. Lu Ping could even feel the flying swords in his core space vibrating along with this howl. The others clearly felt the same way. Everyone's eyes were filled with shock. To be able to cause such a huge commotion with a howl from hundreds of kilometers away, it must be a great cultivator at the peak of the cultivation world. Lu Ping's divine sense was far more powerful than anyone else's. While the others were still immersed in the shock brought about by the howl, Lu Ping once again revealed a look of shock. He raised his head and looked outside the valley. However, this time, his shock was tinged with a hint of a matter-of-fact expression. A strand of sword chi seemed to pierce through the void. As the sword light slashed down, it seemed as if the entire world would be split apart by this strand of sword chi. Sky-splitting sword Saint Xiao Baiyu. This was probably the true sky-splitting sword technique. It was not just Lu Ping. As Lu Ping looked at the distant sky, most of the cultivators thought of the name Xiao Baiyu. Only he could display such a magnificent and earth-splitting sword technique. As the sword light slashed down, it suddenly split into two in mid-air and slashed in two different directions. Two muffled roars rang out. Two pillars of black smoke rose and began to entangle with the two sword lights in mid-air, trying their best to wear down the two magnificent sword lights. These were sky fiends and there were two of them. Xiao Baiyu's sword strike was actually aimed at two sky fiends. Following that, Mara's roars rose one after another. Several more rays of light rose up. Several Asuras attacked at the same time to help the two sky fiends resist the vast sword light. However, just as a few Asuras attacked, a few more rays of light flew over and affected a few Asuras. The spiritual chi turbulence caused by the battle between the two sides immediately rushed out in all directions like a tsunami. 7 spirit treasure fans of different styles rose up right after the heaven-splitting sword light. Every time the ice spirit fan was fanned, a brilliant divine ability would spread out toward the Devil Luo army. 7 Fan Laozu also attacked. The Tianxian sect's counterattack had begun. For a moment, none of the three sides were in the mood to feign civility here. Shui Jiro and the others from the Wuxing school retreated first out of embarrassment. Yuan Ku also looked grim. He cupped his hands toward Lu Ping and said, "See you later." Then he led the cultivators of the Yuan family away. What should we do? In the face of such a large-scale battle, Lu Tianyuan was at a loss. This battle of the Tianxian sect was not like the battle of Jinling's encampment. At that time Mara's army only had a total of 3,000 cultivators. Moreover, they did not swarm together. At this moment, the Tianxian sect had launched a counterattack. On the other side, the Mara's army numbered at least 10,000. This battle could be described as overwhelming. As far as Lu Ping knew, there were at least 4 pure young cultivators. This was the real big battle. We must participate in this battle. However, we are few in number. So we can only fight on the periphery. Do not split up. I would rather give up the opportunity to obtain a large number of battle merits than to enter the hinterland of Mara's army. Otherwise, once we are besieged by Mara, it will be difficult to break out. If we are unlucky enough to encounter the Asuras, it will not be a matter of obtaining battle merits. Instead, it will be a question of how many of us can survive. Also, during this battle, not only must we pay attention to Mara's army, we must also pay attention to the cultivators from the various sections. This time, the number of cultivators from the various sects who have been lured to Tianxian sect's encampment to participate in this battle is probably not small. Most of them are here for the sake of obtaining battle merits. At times like this, they are even more insidious than Mara. Chapter 1320. Junling's group of 9 Dharma adepts, along with a body double that was no weaker than a mid-Dharma adept, rushed towards the Tianxian sect's camp. Just as Xiao Baiyu was fighting 1 against 2 with the heaven-opening sword technique, trying to pin down two of the Mara army's heavenly demons so that 7 Fan Laozu could attack and break the balance between the two sides. Another strange aura erupted from within the Mara army. A heavenly demon rolled up a thick black fog and covered half the sky as it charged towards Xiao Baiyu. A third heavenly demon. There was actually a third heavenly demon hidden within the Mara army. For some reason, Lu Ping suddenly thought of the battle at Ziyang Palace's camp. It was also because of the sudden appearance of a heavenly demon that the camp at the top of Ziyang Palace's mountain peak had fallen. After that, they had no choice but to give up the camp on the other cliff. Looking from afar at the Mara army that was surging towards the Tianshan sect's camp like a tidal wave, Lu Ping frowned and thought to himself, the Mara army confronting the Tianshan sect's camp seems to be much stronger than what Xiahou Wuxiang had described. Could it be that this Mara army also knows how to provide reinforcements? As he thought of this, Lu Ping's eyes lit up. The team of Mara that had previously been wiped out by Jinling, Wuxing School, and the Yuan family might have been one of the reinforcements from the Mara army outside the Tianshan sect's camp. He just did not know how many Mara reinforcements there were, and whether other Mara teams had been intercepted and killed on their way there. However, the appearance of the third heavenly demon did not cause any chaos in the Tianshan sect's camp. With 2 consecutive tiger roars, 2 winged tigers rushed out from the Tianshan sect's camp. The heavenly demon that was charging towards 7 Fan Laozu was immediately blocked. However, 2 tigers were not enough to fight against 1 heavenly demon. At this moment, there was a sharp cry in the sky, and a blood-red giant eagle descended from the sky. Its sharp claws pierced through the soul-devouring black fog and clawed at the heavenly demon's head. The lone eagle. This blood-red giant eagle that descended from the sky must have the blood of the lone eagle. On the back of the eagle stood the pure young cultivator of the spirit-taming beast sect, Feng Lu, expressionlessly. But at this moment 2 vortexes suddenly appeared in the soul-devouring black mist, and 2 black spears formed from the soul-devouring black mist shot toward the abdomen of the eagle. Ancestor Feng Lu's face changed slightly. He quickly made a hand gesture and made a seal on the blood eagle under his feet. The giant eagle that was originally swooping down suddenly soared up, and its 2 sharp claws reached forward, tearing the 2 spears formed by the soul-devouring black mist in one fell swoop. However, the 2 imperceptible soul-devouring black mist still entered the body of the blood eagle along its sharp claws, making the blood eagle's blood-red eyes look even more vicious. The 2 tigers rushed up from the left and right and cooperated with Feng Lu Laozu, who was riding the blood eagle in the sky. The heavenly demon was immediately blocked. However, Feng Lu Laozu seemed to be very cautious when fighting with the heavenly demon. There was a legend in the cultivation world that the blood Mara's soul-devouring magic had a great restraining effect on the spirit beast-taming sect's beast-taming magic. Feng Lu Laozu was very famous in the cultivation world, and was a leader among the pure young cultivators. But now he was very cautious when fighting with the heavenly demon. He was not as calm as Xiao Baiyu, nor was he as overbearing as Qi Fan Laozu. This seemed to confirm this legend. In any case, the appearance of Feng Lu Laozu greatly boosted the morale of the heavenly mystery sect, and his appearance also bought enough time for Qi Fan Laozu. After Qi Fan Laozu killed hundreds of Mara, he combined his 7 fans into one and killed 2 Azuras while the 3 heavenly demons were entangled. One of the 2 heavenly demons that Xiao Baiyu had restrained finally broke free from the shackles of the Sword of Heaven opening and rushed towards Qi Fan Laozu again. 3 pure yang cultivators and 3 heavenly demons. The situation on the battlefield seemed to be in a stalemate again, but the heavenly mystery sect's sudden counterattack had successfully killed 2 Azuras first and gained some initiative. The heavenly mystery sect cultivators and the cultivators of Skyrend, who had come to help, attacked first. 5 or 6 grand adepts took advantage of the chaos to charge into the Mara army, trying their best to kill the other high-level Mara hidden in the Mara army before the other Azuras could come forward. Following closely behind them were the 18 mid-Dharma adepts from the heavenly mystery sect in Skyrend, as well as 20 to 30 early Dharma adepts. The sudden attack of this force caused the Mara army to fall into chaos, and the Mara army was even slowly retreating. Behind the Dharma adepts, the 200 to 300 core forging adepts formed into a large formation that slowly advanced forward, becoming the last line of defense. They began to kill the small Mara that had lost the high-level Mara to command. The entire battlefield appeared to be in an orderly state under the control of the heavenly mystery sect and Skyrend adepts of different levels. On the contrary, the Mara army was forced to retreat again and again under the pressure of the 2 groups of cultivators. At this moment, from the southeast direction of the Mara army, more than 10 streaks of light appeared. Qingli Laozu was leading the charge, leading more than 10 Dharma adepts from the Heavenly Mystery sect and the Spirit Beast Tamer sect into the midst of the Mara army. Although the appearance of this force was not as strong as the two groups of cultivators who were advancing head-on, the surprise attack was enough to make the Mara army even more chaotic, and there were even signs of partial collapse. Lu Ping saw that after the Mara army had broken away from the guidance of the three heavenly demons, the Heavenly Mystery sect and Skyren's planned layers of advance had begun to descend into chaos, and so he said, "There's not much suspense left in this battle. Let's make our move as well. Otherwise, the battle merits this time will be divided among the Heavenly Mystery sect, Skyren, and the Spirit Beast Tamer sect." Lu Tianyuan hesitated for a moment. He did not notice that the Mara army was showing signs of collapse again. He said, "Why don't we wait a little longer and wait until the Mara army is completely defeated before we make our move? That way we'll have a greater chance of success." Lu Ping's divine will was far superior to others, and he also had the protection of the cloud sails. Even though the battlefield was spread out for more than 10 miles, and there were all kinds of soul-devouring spells wreaking havoc in this area, most of the cultivators did not dare to use their divine will to spy on the overall situation of the battlefield. However, this was not a problem for Lu Ping at all. On the other hand, Lu Tianyuan and the others could only rely on their own eyes to judge the situation, and it was inevitable that they would not notice some of the details that could only be detected by divine will. Because of this, Lu Ping had a more thorough understanding of the situation on the battlefield than others. He shook his head and said, "Don't forget that Senior Lin Yu has not made his move yet. Once he makes a sneak attack, one of the three Sky Fiends will definitely die. If we wait until pure Yang Laozu is free, how many high-grade Mara will be left for us to kill? Don't forget that the Tianxian sect's momentum is so great that it must have attracted many people's attention. At least when the battle is over, the cultivators from the Wuxia school and the Yuan clan will definitely make a move to snatch the battle credits. After all, we're here to reinforce the Tianxian sect, so it's not right for us to be like these people. Of course, this is indeed the best time to earn battle credits." Lu Ping took out the photographic stone on his waist and looked at it. It was 232 points. That was the current battle credits shown on Lu Ping's photographic stone. He didn't know how many battle credits he would have after this battle, and whether he would be able to return to the top of the list. 9 beams of light shot through the air, rushing towards a group of Mara that was being defeated. Lu Ping was the first to notice the signs of Mara's army being defeated. This group of Mara's army was slightly separated from the Mara's army, so Jinling's first target was to destroy them. A Jade Shura, 4 Blood Mara, and hundreds of Mara of different sizes were no problem for Lu Ping and the others. Among the 9 of them, Lu Hai and Lu Qin'er were demons, so they couldn't earn battle credits. Green Tiger and Green Wolf, on the other hand, were only there to support Green Fox, so they didn't care much about battle credits. The 9 of them broke into the group of Mara. These 4 early Dharma adepts worked together to block the attacks of the large and small Mara, while Lu Ping and the others began to slaughter the 5 high-level Mara. They were using the tactics that Wuxia school and the Yuan family had used before. Yin Tianchu was the first to kill a blood demon, and then he helped Tianfeng to injure a blood Shura before he was killed by Tianfeng. At this time, Lu Ping used the Thunderclap sword technique to completely suppress the Jade Shura. He used the Water Spirit sword to kill her, and then he attacked the 2 blood Shura that were fighting with Green Fox. Green Fox shouted, "Don't steal my battle credits." Lu Ping said in a low voice, "Let's finish this quickly." As he said this, 2 beams of light from his sword attacked, severely injuring 2 blood Shura. Green Fox took the opportunity to kill 2 blood Shura with her sky-stealing divine axe. She smiled at Lu Ping. Lu Ping looked speechlessly at the sky-stealing divine axe in Green Fox's hand. At this time, with Yin Tianchu's help, Lu Tianyuan also successfully killed a blood demon. Seeing that the high-level Mara had been killed, Lu Ping did not linger. He said in a low voice, "Retreat." Although the others didn't understand, they still followed Lu Ping and rushed out, following the periphery of the Mara army to the east. Lu Ping personally brought up the rear. When he saw that Mo Luo wasn't entangled with him, he cast a glance at the void not far away and flew away. After Jinling and the others left, the space that Lu Ping had been looking at shook. 7 or 8 Dharma adepts appeared, and the person leading them was the first disciple of the Crystal Palace, Qin Shijun. "Damn it, we were too slow and we were robbed. And they left so quickly. Who the hell are these people?" A mid-Dharma adept from the Crystal Palace cursed angrily. Qin Shijun glanced at the cursing cultivator and revealed a mocking smile. This person isn't just anyone. I believe junior brother Ouyang is most familiar with him. Everyone from the Crystal Palace looked at Ouyang Weijian. Ouyang Weijian lowered his eyes and said in a low voice, "Yes, this is Jinling's Lu Tianping." Lu Tianping? So it's him. This person is Lu Tianping, who fought side by side with Big Brother on Qingling Island. He really lives up to his reputation. Damn it. If we knew it was him, we would have launched a sneak attack when they were fighting with Mo Luo and annihilated Jinling sect. That way we wouldn't have to compete with senior brother for the battle merit board. That's right, brother Ouyang, why didn't you say so earlier? Ouyang Weijian was silent. Qin Shijun also knew Lu Tianping, and earlier when the Crystal Palace adepts tried to attack and steal the battle credits, it was Qin Shijun who said wait, which allowed the Jinling adepts to kill Mara and retreat. Now the people from the Crystal Palace had forgotten about this issue and all the blame fell on Ouyang Weijian. Chapter 1321. The reason Lu Ping was able to kill a few high-tier Mara quickly, and he didn't even have the time to kill the rest of the Mara and leave with Jinling and the others, was because he had sensed some hostility in the air behind them. But Lu Ping's telekinesis was unable to detect the presence of these people, which meant that these people had treasures that could hide them from his telekinesis. With Lu Ping's current level of cultivation, the treasures that could hide from his telekinesis were most likely spirit treasures. Only the big sects in the Holy Lands would have the time to create spirit treasures like that. Lu Ping didn't want to get involved and he was fighting Mara. So when he succeeded, he quickly left. After this experience, Lu Ping was even more careful when he looked for opportunities outside of Mara's army. Fortunately, the Tianxian sect's advantage was becoming more and more obvious, and the Mara's army was showing more and more weaknesses. Lu Ping and Jinling's next two attacks were very successful. Lu Ping's battle points in the projection stone had risen to 257 points. This was the third time they surrounded a group of Mara. Lu Ping had given the last kill of a Jade Shura to Yin Tianchu. If he hadn't, his battle points would have been even higher. Lu Ping relied on his strong telekinesis, the Cloud Sail and the Jade Phosphor Soul Fire to protect him. He wasn't afraid of the Soul Devourers on the battlefield, and he was only second to the three pure Yang Laozu. So, under his leadership, Jinling and the others were always able to find the weak points of the Mara's army. They were able to tear down a suitable group of Mara's army, and then kill the high-tier Mara. Then when the Mara's army came to support them, they retreated. Under Lu Ping's leadership and help, Yin Tianchu, Lu Tianyuan and Green Fox's battle points were greatly increased. Unfortunately, the three of them only knew their battle points, but they didn't know where they were on the leaderboard. At this time, the 9 of them were following the cover of a small forest, heading southeast. Qing Li Laozu had led the Tianxian sect and the Spirit Beast Taming sect to attack Mara's army, which had caused a lot of chaos. So, in Lu Ping's opinion, there might be more opportunities there. But when Lu Ping and the others came out of the forest, Lu Ping's face suddenly changed. In his telekinesis, there were 2 groups of Mara coming from the left and right, and they were going to converge near Lu Ping and the others. Once the 2 groups of Mara converged, Jinling and the others would be chased by Mara's teams, even if they didn't get caught in a pincer attack. Lu Ping's first thought was that someone was deliberately setting them up. But to drive 2 groups of Mara to attack Jinling from different directions, such a delicate plan would require the cooperation of at least 2 forces. The mocking faces of Shui Jiro of Wuxing School and Yuan Ku of Yuan family suddenly appeared in Lu Ping's mind. Oh no, there are 2 groups of Mara coming towards us. Each group has the aura of Mara, and there are about 400 to 500 groups of Mara. Is it intentional or a coincidence? Lu Qinyuan's reaction was also very fast. He immediately realized that someone was plotting against him. I'm not sure, but we have to be prepared for the worst, Lu Ping said with a grave expression. 400 to 500 Mara charging, and there are also high-grade Mara guarding them. I'm afraid the 9 of us won't be able to stop them. Let's retreat first. Qinghu pondered for a moment and felt that the odds of success were slim. Lu Ping shook his head and said, "It's too late to retreat now. It doesn't matter if the 2 groups of demon Luos were driven away or lured here by someone. When they converge, they will still head in the direction we're retreating from. If someone is really plotting against us, then there will surely be someone else blocking our way." Qinghu became anxious and asked, "Then what should we do?" Lu Ping and Lu Tianyuan exchanged glances, and both seemed to have made up their minds. After nodding, Lu Ping pointed to the front and said, "We can only go forward." that's the hinterland of Mara's army. If we go there, won't we be walking right into a trap? Jianghu exclaimed. At this moment, Lu Tianyuan said, this is the only way to avoid being tracked by these people. Compared to hiding in the shadows, I'd rather charge into Mara's army and kill them. Jianghu fell silent. Lu Ping said, then it's decided. I'll lead the way. Jianghu and Senior Marshal Brother Tianyuan will protect the flanks, Junior Marshal Brother Yin will protect the rear, and the rest of you will wait for an opportunity to strike. Let's go. The 9 of them connected their feet as a single streak of light. This way the formation between the 9 of them wouldn't fall apart, and at the same time, they would be able to deal with any possible dangers. Lu Ping waved his hand and the cloud sail immediately engulfed everyone, and they charged into the depths of Mara's army. Not long after Lu Ping and the others left, 2 groups of Mara's army fled over, one from the east and one from the west. After meeting up in the area where Lu Ping and the others were, they rushed into the small forest in panic. A short while later, several streaks of light appeared in the east and west of the small forest. The 2 groups were led by none other than the Wuxia schools Shui Jiro and Zhui Yi, as well as the Yuan clans Yuan Ku and Yuan Jinglei. Fellow Taoist Shui, have you found any traces of those people? Shui Jiro shook her head and said, no, I think they've already been chased into the depths of the forest by those 2 groups of Maras. The Crystal Palace is there, and fellow Taoist Qin has also led a group of Maras to intercept them, so they won't be able to escape. Yuan Ku nodded and said, since that's the case, then we'll part ways here. Shui Jiro's expression changed and she said, what? Brother Yuan, are you going to wash your hands of this matter and clear your name of suspicion? Yuan Ku shook his head and said, how could I possibly do such a thing? I just feel that if Junling's group is forced into this direction by Mara's army, and there's another pair of Maras blocking them, even if they can break through, they'll be riddled with injuries. At that time there's still the Wuxia school and the Crystal Palace. Junling's group is doomed, so it doesn't matter if our Yuan clan's people are there or not. Shui Jiro's expression turned slightly gloomy and she said, I feel that fellow Taoist Yuan should go. In all fairness, Lu Tianping's strength is above ours, and there's also Yin Tianchu who possesses a rather miraculous concealment technique. It's not impossible for them to escape. Yuan Ku couldn't help but laugh and said, there isn't such a deep enmity between Jinling and my Yuan clan. At most he's just seized some of our battle merits. It hasn't reached the point of killing him. Our scheme in secret is enough, so let's part ways here. As soon as he finished speaking, the Yuan clan's people paid no more attention to Shui Jiro's group and turned into streaks of light that shot towards the west. The faces of the Wuxia school's people became slightly gloomy when they saw the Yuan clan's people leave. Zhui Yi cursed in a low voice, what a smiling tiger. Senior sister, what should we do? Shui Jiro sneered in the direction that the Yuan clan's people had vanished and said, ignore them. They think they can clear their names just like that? How childish. We'll chase after them ourselves. The Wuxia school's people turned into streaks of light and chased after Mara's group to the south. At this time, Lu Ping and the others had fallen into an extremely dangerous situation after charging into Mara's army. Lu Ping and the others had charged into the southeast corner of Mara's army. Originally, they had planned to cross the northeast side diagonally so that they wouldn't have to go too deep into Mara's army. They could avoid the high-level Mara's encirclement as much as possible. Once they succeeded, there was a high chance that they could meet up with Qingli Laozu and the others. At first, everything went smoothly. After breaking into Mara's army, they tried not to tangle with Mara too much. Even if a high-level Mara chased after them, they were still killed by Lu Ping's 4 flying swords. In order to kill their way out of the encirclement as quickly as possible, no one dared to hold back. In just the time it took for a joss stick to burn, the number of blood demons that had fallen in the hands of the 9 Jinling sect members had reached 7, and the number of jade demons had reached 3. Lu Ping alone had killed a Jade Shura and 3 Blood Mara. The other 2 Jade Mara had been severely injured by Lu Ping first, and the Cyan Fox and Yin Tianchu behind him had come to kill them in time. That was how they had killed the other 2 Jade Mara. Even so, Lu Ping's battle points had reached 278 points. Of course, Lu Ping did not know that at this time, in the camps of the various sects within a few thousand miles of the 9 Mystical Tower, all the adepts who were paying attention to the mid-Dharma stage battle points rankings were going crazy. In just one day's time, the mid-Dharma adepts who were ranked near each other on the battle merit scoreboard had all experienced a massive increase in their battle merit points. Starting from Qin Shijun in the Crystal Palace, Nangong Shaojin, Fan Mingjia, Chao Jianpain, Yuan Feixiang, Yuan Ku, Zhang Jifei, Xie Tianyang, Su Jin, Yuan Jinglei, Shui Jiro, Huo Wuliang, Sima Chongfeng, Sangyu In Tianchu, and many others who were familiar with the battle points rankings of the mid-Dharma adepts had all increased their battle points by at least 15 points in one day, with some even reaching 30 to 40 points. But what was supposed to be the most glorious day for these people was suddenly overshadowed by one person's sudden burst of power. The North Sea Water Sword Sage, Lu Tianping, who was previously in 5th place with 199 battle points, had made his move again. In just one day he had increased his battle points by 79 points, surpassing Qin Shijun and returning to 1st place on the battle points rankings. But at this time, Lu Tianping's madness was still going on. In order to completely break through the Mara army, Lu Ping had used up almost all of his trump cards. This was because the madness of Jinling and the others had finally attracted big trouble. They had already moved as fast as they could, but they had still been targeted by an Azura. Chapter 1322. The rapid advance of Lu Ping and the others finally caught the attention of more and more Mara's army. After the 9 of them killed several Jade Mara and Blood Mara, an Azura finally could not hold back and stood in front of the 9 of them. Jianghu, Lu Tianyuan, and the others' expressions changed. Only Lu Ping did not stop the moment the Azura appeared. The Sword of True Spirit, Mo Li, transformed into 3 dragons, and the 3 dragons roared and rushed toward the Azura. Lu Ping immediately used the most powerful sword technique he knew, the battle formula of the Sword of Opening Heaven. Before the Sword of Opening Heaven could be used on the Azura's body, the thin water-flowing sword had already turned into 2 swords and turned into a supreme sword formation that could absorb all rivers into the sea, trapping the Azura within. The Netherwater sword exploded into a thunder flower and turned into a green thunder dragon that moved along the huge sword light vortex, waiting for an opportunity. At this time, the 9 of them had already entered the depths of Mara's army. Since the Azura had already appeared, it was impossible to turn back and escape. It was better to move forward and gather the strength of the 9 of them. Perhaps there was a chance that they could escape from the Azura. Even when the Azura stood in front of Jinling's group, it did not expect that someone would be so brave as to attack it without even thinking. Moreover, although the cultivation of the person opposite it was low, his sword technique and magical technique were really brilliant. The Azura even felt a substantial threat from it. Lu Ping's brazen attack immediately woke the Jinling's group from their shock. Yin Tianchu was the first to transform the Taishin thorn in his hand into a stream of light and directly strike at the Azura's left eye. However, with a crisp clang, the Azura had already knocked away the first tribulation spiritual treasure. Next, Lu Tianyuan, Jianghu, and the others all attacked, but before they could reach the Azura, they were easily knocked away by the companion spiritual treasure in the Azura's hand. The companion spiritual treasure in the Azura's hand was a ghost-headed broadsword. When the Azura slashed with the broadsword chi split into 8 directions. Not only did it knock away the attacks of Yin Tianchu and the others, but even Lu Ping's sword formation was instantly smashed by the broadsword. One of the 3 dragons formed by the Sword of True Spirit was also cut off, and the Netherwater sword's Thunderclap sword did not even have a chance to get close before it was knocked away. However, Lu Ping wasn't affected in the slightest. Before the Azura could switch from defense to offense, the rainbow-colored lightning struck the Azura in front of him. At this time, Yin Tianchu and the others realized that a foot-long purple gourd had risen above Lu Ping's head. The mouth of the gourd was swallowing and spitting rainbow-colored lightning. The lightning that filled the sky was due to this gourd treasure. Although the lightning that filled the sky did not seriously injure the Azura, it made the Azura feel a strong sense of danger. The companion spiritual treasure cut the void above the Azura's head. Although the lightning was fierce, it could not really land on the Azura's body. But at this time, the 7 treasures thunder gourd expanded and contracted, like a person suddenly taking a deep breath and suddenly breathing it out. The rainbow-colored lightning was like a twisted hemp rope, then completely fused into a purple lightning pillar. There was a loud clap of thunder in the sky, and the purple lightning pillar struck down from the sky. It also broke through the sealed void above the Azura's head. Amid the Azura's furious roar, it collided with the ghost-headed saber-like life-bound spiritual treasure. Although the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder was not as powerful as the real Yuan family cultivators, the 7 treasures Thunder Gourd was indeed using the supreme thunder magical power unique to the Yuan family. And just as the purple lightning pillar struck down from the sky, Yuan Feixiang, who was thousands of miles away, frowned. The moment she opened her palm, a 3-inch-long rainbow gourd shook in her palm, and traces of lightning exploded in the mouth of the gourd. Hundreds of miles away, Yuan Ku and Yuan Jinglei, who were destroying Mara's team, suddenly felt something. The spiritual treasures floating above their heads, the falling thunder disk and the 1,000 thunder rod kept shaking. It's the 7 treasures thunder gourd. Damn, didn't he go to the Purple Sun Palace's encampment to hunt? Why is he here? It shouldn't be, right? This kid always says one thing and does another. Since when can his words be trusted? Yuan Ku still seemed to be in disbelief, but at this time his team was besieging and suppressing a small team of Maras, so he didn't have time to think about it. He could only transfer all his energy to the fight. Lu Ping naturally didn't know that the moment he used the 7 treasures thunder gourd, the people of the Yuan family had already noticed it. But even so, in the current situation, Lu Ping couldn't afford to worry too much. Just as the companion spiritual treasure struck the purple heaven divine thunder, the surroundings suddenly fell silent. Then it was as if the void had collapsed toward the center the moment the two collided, swallowing all the sounds around it. Boom! The loud noise that came late finally exploded. The lightning wreaked havoc along the spiritual treasure and finally touched the Azura's body. The lightning curtain that filled the sky even covered the Azura's vision and sealed off its spiritual sense. The Azura roared again and again. It didn't expect that the human cultivator in front of it could cause so much trouble. However, although the lightning magic had affected its body, it was not fatal. As long as it could withstand this vast lightning magic, it would definitely be able to tear the human cultivator into thousands of pieces. However, how could Lu Ping's means stop here? A huge lotus bloomed and extended under Lu Ping's feet. The flashing runes of the array diagram echoed with the 7 treasures thunder tiger in midair. The purple heaven divine thunder light formed a huge purple heaven divine thunder cage above the lotus array diagram, trapping the Azura in it. In that instant, 2 purplish gold blade lights abruptly pierced through the lightning curtain in front of the Azura and stabbed into its 2 sides. Under the Azura's bewildered gaze, the 2 blade lights quickly converged towards the center, clearly intending to cut its body in half. The Azura was naturally not afraid. The companion spiritual treasure in its hands slashed to the left and right, but it couldn't cause the slightest impact on the 2 blade lights. The Azura was finally shocked. The blade lights were about to cross. At this time, the Azura had to try to use the companion spiritual treasure to cut the lightning curtain and escape. However, at the moment when the Azura broke the lightning curtain, the thin water-flowing sword was already ready. The surging sword light was like the Milky Way falling from the sky. The surging torrent was like a river flowing east, once again forcing the Azura back into the lightning curtain. Outside the lightning curtain, under the dumbfounded gaze of the Jinling cultivators, a purple gold giant scissors was held by Lu Ping's hands. 2 purple gold blade lights stretched out from the giant scissors. The surging power of pure yang raged in all directions. It plunged into the lightning curtain in front of him, cutting towards the Azura trapped in the purple heaven divine thunder. The Azura tried to cut through the lightning curtain to escape, but it was blocked by the great river-flowing east sword technique performed by Lu Ping. The purple gold giant scissors opened and closed again, and the 2 blade lights cut towards the Azura who couldn't dodge in time in the lightning cage. In desperation, the Azura could only cut down the companion spiritual treasure again, as if to shatter the purple gold blade light that brought it fear. However, at the moment when the ghost head broadsword and the purple gold blade light collided, an unbelievable scene finally appeared for the Azura. With a crisp crack, its companion spiritual treasure was cut in half by the purple gold blade light. Pure yang spiritual treasure. At this moment, the people of Jinling could finally confirm that the scissors in Lu Ping's hand, which was surging with rich pure yang qi, was actually a pure yang spiritual treasure. The companion spiritual treasure was cut in half, and the Azura had lost half of its strength. Lu Ping finally felt relieved. Before his 13 magic treasures in the Genshin formation advanced to the level of spiritual treasure, the pure yang spiritual treasure being cut in half was almost his biggest trump card. If even it could not do anything to the Azura this time, the people of Jinling would really be doomed. Chapter 1323. Whether it was the 7 treasures thunder calabash that confused the Jinling sect cultivators, or the pure yang spirit treasure that left everyone dumbfounded, only now did they realize that this brother of theirs, who was already exceedingly powerful, had never truly displayed his true strength in front of them. Lu Ping used the pure yang spiritual treasure to cut off the Asura's companion spiritual treasure, which was equivalent to crippling the Asura's strength by half. At this moment the Asura was no longer a threat. Lu Ping's hands danced in the air, continuously changing the hand signs. Each hand sign was supported by a vigorous real essence. 7 hand signs were imprinted on the 7 treasures thunder calabash in the sky, and each hand sign would trigger a great magic thunder technique to fall from the 7 treasures thunder calabash. Gung metal divine thunder, E wood divine thunder, Een water divine thunder, 3rd fire divine thunder, 5th earth divine thunder, ice divine thunder, and crazy sun divine thunder. The 7 divine thunders fell one by one, blasting the Asura who had lost his companion spiritual treasure. However, it did not cause any fatal damage to the Asura. Even if the Asura had lost his companion spiritual treasure, he was still in existence equivalent to a senior great cultivator. It was not an easy task to completely kill him. However, the 7 divine thunders fell. In the end, the Asura's figure was once again confined within a certain range, and Lu Ping's real purpose was still to use the pure yang spiritual treasure in his hand for the 3rd time. Even with Lu Ping's strong cultivation, after breaking out of the encirclement and using the pure yang spiritual treasure twice in a row, he felt that the real essence in his body was a little weak when he used the pure yang spiritual treasure again. However, Lu Ping still forced the pure yang spiritual treasure to close it again. In the midst of the Asura's fearful roar, the Asura was suddenly cut in half at the waist, and the 2 halves of the Asura's body rolled down from the sky at the same time. The thin water-long stream sword turned into a sword-light fish, and after swimming in the air, the 2 halves of the Asura's body were already cut into thousands of pieces, and there was no possibility of him surviving. Junior brother Een, lead the way. Jianghu, cover us, go. Lu Ping bellowed at Jinling and the rest. At the same time he patted his shoulder and sent his avatar body to protect Een Tianchu. Everyone became vigilant. At this time Lu Ping's face was pale, and there was a faint trace of blood seeping out of his mouth and nose. Obviously because he had consumed too much true essence, it had reached the point of igniting his bloodline. Everyone was shocked inwardly. Excessive consumption of Zhen Yuan would result in the loss of one's bloodline, and excessive consumption of one's bloodline would result in the loss of one's original essence qi. Once one's original essence qi was damaged, it would be extremely difficult to recover. Lu Ping automatically retreated and was surrounded by the others. At this moment he was the weakest of the 9. Een Tianchu rushed to the front to open a path, Qing, who was in charge of the rear, and Lu Tianyuan and Tianfeng protected each other on the flanks. Taking advantage of the fact that the Asura had been killed and the intimidated Mara did not dare to move forward, the group quickly fled to the periphery. Lu Tianyuan asked worriedly, "Junior brother Lu, are you all right?" Lu Ping's expression was very bad. He shook his head and did not speak. Although the surrounding Mara did not dare to move forward to stop them because of the Asura's death, this opportunity would not last long. Once Mara tried to stop them again, they would become even more frenzied. At this time, Lu Ping had already lost more than half of his combat power. Whether he could successfully break out of the encirclement was still an unknown. Lu Ping knocked on the storage magic tool on his finger. 10 supreme-grade spirit stones floated in front of Lu Ping. He flicked his finger, and the 10 supreme-grade spirit stones exploded into balls of pure heaven and earth spiritual qi. Lu Ping spread out his hands and 2 vortexes formed on his palms. 4 balls of heaven and earth spiritual qi entered the vortexes and disappeared into his palms. Immediately after, 2 vortexes appeared on his chest and absorbed 4 balls of spiritual qi. As for the remaining 2 balls of spiritual qi, Lu Ping opened his mouth and swallowed them. Lu Ping urgently needed to restore his strength. He did not even have time to absorb the supreme-grade spirit stones. Instead, he directly detonated the 10 supreme-grade spirit stones with the spirit explosion art. Although this would waste a considerable part of the pure spiritual qi of the supreme-grade spirit stones, it would allow Lu Ping to absorb and refine it into Zhenyuan faster. After the 10 supreme-grade spirit stones were detonated, Lu Ping spread out his palms. Another 10 supreme-grade spirit stones were shattered by Lu Ping with the spirit explosion art. The eyes of the surrounding Jinling people twitched wildly. At this time Lu Ping did not care about the feelings of others. At this time his priority was to restore his own strength. Otherwise, these worldly possessions would not be of any use to him. Moreover, he did not lack supreme-grade spirit stones. It was not until Lu Ping detonated 50 supreme-grade spirit stones with the spirit explosion art that his originally pale face became rosy. Lu Ping operated the North Sea wave listening art. The blood in his body flowed like a long river in his veins. The pure spiritual qi absorbed into his body was converted into vigorous Zhenyuan as quickly as possible. At this time, more and more Mara began to approach Jinling people from all directions. Yin Tianchu and the others became more and more nervous. Although they did not see any Azura, there were already a few Jade Mara hidden in the army of Mara. With a point of Yin Tianchu's finger, 3 Mara blocking in front of everyone were pierced by the Taishan thorn in one fell swoop. The army of Mara began to attack again. Jinling people once again fell into a chaotic battle to break out of the encirclement. At this time, Lu Ping's expression suddenly changed. An extremely strong aura was approaching from the southeast direction. Lu Ping no longer cared about restoring some Zhenyuan. The thin water-long stream sword behind Yin Tianchu turned into 2 flood dragons and crashed into the group of Mara in front of him. In one fell swoop, the 20 or 30 big and small Mara in front of him were killed, as well as a blood demon hidden among them. Yin Tianchu was shocked and said, "You've recovered?" Lu Ping swallowed 2 Zhenyuan recovery pills refined from the spirit demon peach and said anxiously, "It's too late. You and I have to work together to break out of the encirclement." Yin Tianchu did not ask why. The 2 of them worked together, one attacking and the other attacking. The Mara in front of them could no longer block the path of Jinling people. In the blink of an eye, they had once again rushed out several miles from the group of Mara. The density of Mara in front of them was decreasing. Everyone relaxed, knowing that they were about to break out of the encirclement of Mara. At this time Lu Tianyuan asked, "Junior brother Lu, just now." Before Lu Tianyuan could finish his sentence, a low roar came from the southeast direction. Jinling people including Lu Ping were shaken. Lu Tianyuan finally understood and said, "It's a sky demon." "Oh no, Mara's army has reinforcements?" Lu Ping combined his 2 swords and used a stone-piercing spell to open up a path in front of him. The 2 Jade Shuras dodged, but the 2 Blood Mara couldn't dodge in time. They were crushed by the sharp sword light. There was no more Mara in their way, and Jinling people finally broke out of the encirclement of the Mara army. Lu Ping did not answer Lu Tianyuan's question directly. Instead he said, "If there are sect cultivators in the southeast direction, I'm afraid they won't be able to escape this time." Everyone had a strange look on their faces. When they appeared from the forest, they were suddenly attacked from the east and the west by Mara's troops, which forced them into Mara's army. After the 2 scattered Mara troops converged, they would inevitably break out of the encirclement in the southeast direction, which was the place where the person behind Jinling had set the trap. If that was the case, wouldn't those people be on the path that the heavenly demon would have to pass through to reinforce it? After Jinling people broke out of the encirclement, everyone including Lu Ping was exhausted. Qinghu, Tianfeng, Lu Qiner, Lu Hai, and the others were all injured and could no longer fight. The 9 people struggled to find a secret place to recover under Lu Ping's guidance. Lu Ping distributed a few spirit pills made from the flesh of the spirit demon peach. At the same time, they could also spy on the current situation of the battlefield from afar. Others might be worried that this sky demon's reinforcements might bring adverse effects to the battle, but Jinling and the others did not care too much about it. Sure enough, the moment the sky demon's aura appeared in the southeast direction, Linyu Laozu, who had been hiding his cultivation among the great cultivators of Tianshan sect to help them kill the Jade Mara and Azura as much as possible, suddenly launched an attack from the battlefield. Under Xiao Baiyu's sword shadow, the green jade wind flute suddenly penetrated the soul-devouring black fog, pointing at the forehead of the sky demon that had already been suppressed by Xiao Baiyu to the point of being unable to fight back. The sky demon's head suddenly exploded. An Azura and a few Jade Mara guarding the sky demon suddenly went berserk, pouncing at Linyu Laozu. However, they only saw a few flashes of sword light. Without the protection and support of the sky demon, the first Azura was easily killed by Xiao Baiyu, and the remaining Jade Mara were naturally not taken seriously by Linyu Laozu. The human cultivators on the battlefield suddenly cheered. The human cultivators, who had been a little flustered because of the arrival of the reinforcements from Mara's army, immediately steadied their footing, and their morale was greatly boosted. Xiao Baiyu, who had been fighting with the sky demon for so long, did not show any signs of exhaustion. He flicked his sword with his fingers and whistled, pointing his arrogant and unruly sword intent at another sky demon that was rushing to help. After Linyu Laozu killed 2 Jade Mara with one successful strike, he disappeared again. The speed at which the human cultivators were moving forward was increasing. As the Moro Luo army retreated, the signs of collapse were also becoming increasingly obvious. Even though there were heavenly demons rushing over to rescue them, the other heavenly demon was killed at this moment, causing the morale of the Moro Luo army to plummet once again before it could rise. During this period of time, Lin Yu Laozu had been hiding in the battlefield and constantly killing the high-level Mara in Mara's army, making Mara's army more and more disorganized due to the lack of high-level Mara to restrain them. After Xiao Baiyu blocked the Sky Demon with his Supreme Sword technique, the overall situation of this battle would not change much. The only variable was how many Mara the human cultivators could kill in this battle. Chapter 1324. Mara's army was running for its life. After Xiao Baiyu stopped the fourth Sky Demon, the battle against Mara was no longer a battle between the Tianxian sect and Skyrend, the Spirit Beast School and Jinling. As the Tianxian sect's victory became more and more obvious, more and more sects came to join the battle, which sped up the tide of the battle. After replenishing everyone's fighting power with the spirit pills made from the spirit demon Peach, Lu Ping and Jinling finally met up with Qingli Laozu and the others at the edge of the battlefield, who were killing a team led by Mara. Seeing that Lu Ping and the others had arrived, Chao Jianpain sped up. She cast 4 different great skills with the Great Calamity Spirit Treasure in her hand, forcing the Jade Shura to be unable to fight back. Taking advantage of this opening, she cast another great skill. In the air, a golden-headed, green-feathered giant Peng swooped down. Its sharp claws ignored the Jade Shura's defensive spells and tore her in half with one strike. After killing the Jade Shura in front of her, Chao Jianpain went to meet Lu Ping. But halfway there she seemed to think of something. Her body flickered and she appeared dozens of feet away. She released a spirit light in her hand, and then she reappeared on the road to Lu Ping. Dozens of feet away, Xiahou Wushang saw that the Jade Shura, who was about to die, had been cut off. He smiled wryly and nodded in Lu Ping's direction. Then he went to help the others. Lu Tianping, my points have increased by 51 today. My total points are now 252. How many do you have? Chao Jianpain raised her chin and looked at Lu Ping provocatively. Jinling, who was behind Lu Ping, looked at Yin Tianchu. Yin Tianchu's lips moved, and he introduced her to everyone. Chao Jianpain, the first heir of the Tianxian sect. Everyone came to a sudden realization and looked at each other in dismay. Then they looked at Chao Jianpain in front of them with a strange expression. Lu Ping looked helplessly at the petty and vengeful Tianxian sect's first direct disciple. Suddenly, a mischievous smile appeared on his face. He took out a photographic stone from his waist and looked at it. Alright, I'll take a look first. This? Lu Ping knew that his battle achievements had definitely surpassed Chao Jianpain's. Initially, he wanted to take out the imaging stone to fool the Tianxian sect's first direct disciple. But when Lu Ping looked at his photographic stone, the points displayed on it shocked Lu Ping. He said this for a long time, but he didn't have the heart to show his points to the cultivator, who was like a young girl. What is this? You're still far behind me, aren't you? Ah, now you're convinced. How much do you have? Show me. What's there to be embarrassed about? I won't laugh at you. Chao Jianpain felt that Lu Tianping had been awed by her killing. She immediately became excited. Seeing that Lu Ping still wasn't willing to show his photographic stone, she thought that he was embarrassed. She pretended to be magnanimous, but she couldn't wait to snatch the photographic stone from Lu Ping's hand. However, from the beginning to the end, she didn't notice that the Zhenling sect disciples behind Lu Ping couldn't bear to watch the Tianxian sect's first direct disciples' embarrassment any longer. Their eyes wandered around, pretending to be distracted. Chao Jianpain snatched Lu Ping's photographic stone and impatiently pointed at it. A ray of light bloomed from the photographic stone, and a large number floated out as if it was afraid that others wouldn't see it. But soon Chao Jianpain let out a scream. A number that made her feel despair floated in front of her. The number was stimulated by her spell, and it was so large that the cultivators from the Tianxian sect and the spirit-taming sect on the battlefield could see it. 309. Impossible, how can you have so many points? How many Mara did you kill? You didn't cheat, did you? Chao Jianpain clearly couldn't accept Lu Ping's points, but the photographic stone wouldn't lie. Chao Jianpain said that Lu Ping was cheating because she couldn't believe how many points Lu Ping had. In fact, it wasn't just Chao Jianpain. Even the cultivators from the Tianxian sect and the spirit-taming sect who had killed all the Mara looked like they had seen a ghost when they saw Lu Ping's points. Chao Jianpain suddenly thought of something. She used a few spells on Lu Ping's photographic stone again, and the process of Lu Ping obtaining points began to show. Very soon, the recording of how many points Lu Ping had killed and how many points he had obtained appeared on the photographic stone. The records of Jade Mara and Blood Mara being killed appeared on the screen. The more Chao Jianping looked, the paler her face became. These were the records of Lu Ping's points obtained in a day. Then the record of Azura being killed appeared on the screen. Chao Jianping's scream was followed by the cries of the cultivators from the Tianxian sect and the spirit-taming sect who had gathered around. You killed an Azura? Chao Jianping looked behind Lu Ping. It wasn't a secret that Lu Tianping had killed an Azura in his own sect. That time, the Azura had been severely injured by Lin Yu Laozu's sneak attack. Now that he had killed another Azura, Chao Jianping couldn't help but want to see if there were any other cultivators who would help. However, looking at the 2 mid-Dharma adepts and 6 early Dharma adepts behind Lu Ping, she didn't believe that these people would be able to help him. Lu Ping shrugged and said, I was lucky. I met an injured Azura, and everyone worked together to defeat it. In the end they gave me the points for killing the Azura. This was something that Lu Ping had already discussed with the cultivators behind him. He didn't want the news of the 7 treasures Thunder Gourd and the pure Yang spiritual treasure to leak out. Lu Tianyuan and the others naturally knew what the pure Yang spiritual treasure meant, and they were trying their best to cover it up for him. Chao Jianping still didn't believe it. Last time she had taken advantage of a boss. This time it was the same. This Lu Qianping's luck was too good. All right. The 2 great cultivators, Qingli Laozu and Wu Lu Laozu, had already rushed over upon hearing the news. After nodding at Lu Ping, Qingli Laozu turned around and said, Everyone take the time to rest and recover your inner yuan. In this battle, Mara's defeat is already a foregone conclusion. When the time comes to kill the fleeing Mara, it will be a good opportunity to obtain the points. I believe that no one would want to miss this opportunity. Hearing this, the crowd dispersed. Although Lu Ping's battle points were shocking, they weren't his. There were a total of 150 people who could enter the 7th Patriarch's altar, and Lu Tianping would at most occupy one of the spots. Seeing Chao Jianping leave in a daze, Wu Lu Laozu couldn't help but give Lu Ping a thumbs up and said, Impressive, even the old man couldn't possibly be a match for the Azura. Lu Ping laughed bitterly and said, This I'm really lucky. Although Mara's army was defeated, there was no large-scale retreat. The reason for this was the existence of the 3 sky demons that were still fighting back with all their might in the sky. After Lu Ping and the others met up with Qingli Laozu and the others, everyone took a short break and cleaned up the battlefield where the Mara troops had been wiped out. Then they started to chase after the retreating army of Mara, waiting for the opportunity to wipe out the troops of Mara that had temporarily separated from Mara's army. At this time, Qingli Laozu had the huge power of more than 20 Dharma adepts, so he decided to forcefully charge into Mara's army, cutting and separating a group of Mara troops from the main army and then destroying them. Along the way, everyone's battle points had increased by different degrees, especially Chao Jianping, who had been stimulated by Lu Ping's battle points. She had gone crazy and killed Mara to fight for battle points. She had even unreasonably snatched the severely injured Mara from the hands of her own sect's cultivators to finish them off. Many of the Tianxian sect's cultivators could only laugh bitterly and sigh helplessly. Fortunately, Chao Jianping had not completely gone crazy. Although she had snatched the severely injured Mara from the hands of others, she had never targeted the Spirit Beast sect or the Jinling sect's cultivators. Lu Ping had also killed a few Mara, and his battle points had increased again. However, he did not deliberately fight for battle points because of Chao Jianping's provocation. Most of the time, he helped the other cultivators of his sect kill Mara and obtain battle points. Taking advantage of the time when they had wiped out Mara, Qingli Laozu went to find Lu Ping. Following Qingli Laozu were Wu Lu Laozu and Sang Yu. Lu Ping knew that there was something to discuss. Qingli Laozu had already gathered the leading cultivators of the 3 sections. Qingli Laozu drew a simple map on the ground, pointed to the west and said, There is a group of Mara troops here. The connection between them and the main force of the retreating Mara army is quite weak. We can charge in from here and cut off the connection between them. Lu Ping frowned. His divine sense could avoid the obstruction of the soul-devouring divine art. He had some understanding of the situation on the battlefield. The group that Qingli Laozu wanted to cut off from Mara's army was not weak. He could even sense the presence of Azuras. Sang Yu quickly asked Lu Ping's question, Can we take down this group of Mara's strength with our strength? Qingli Laozu smiled and shook his head, It's very difficult. We will have to pay a big price to attack. Sang Yu was confused. Then why? Qing Li Laozu smiled at Lu Ping, pointed to the northwest and said, after cutting off the connection we can drive this group of Mara in this direction. Lu Ping's heart skipped a beat and he asked, why this direction? Wu Lu Laozu spoke at this time, that is the base of the Xian sect. Chapter 1325. Since it was the Taishan sect, the Tianshan sect and Junling naturally had nothing to say. Even Sang Yu did not have a good impression of the Taishan sect because they had taken advantage of Junling's precarious situation to launch a sneak attack on Junling's camp, and she had almost died there with him. As for the Azura hidden in this Mara team, there were two great cultivators, Qing Li Laozu and Wu Lu Laozu. Together with Lu Ping, whose true strength was far beyond that of a cultivator, it would be easy for the three of them to defeat an Azura. Moreover, Qing Li Laozu had a second-level spirit treasure, the spirit-fixing bottle. Since they were plotting against the Taishan sect, the three of them naturally would not actually kill the Azura. Instead they would drive them northwest. However, Lu Ping was secretly surprised that Qing Li Laozu was able to grasp the situation of the battlefield in time. Thinking back to the time when they had driven two teams of Mara to attack Xinling's team, they had been able to detect the movements of Lu Ping and the others without being discovered. They had also been able to easily drive the Mara team to attack Xinling's team. Obviously, they had also been able to understand the situation of the Mara battlefield in time, which meant that these people also had a way to avoid the soul-devouring demon's magical powers. However, when he thought about how he had the opportunity to obtain treasures such as the Cloud Sail and the Jade Soul Fire, it was not surprising that these cultivators from the big sects of the Holy Land would have similar things. The four of them discussed their strategy and began to carry it out. Yin Tianchu and Chao Jianpain had already rushed to the Taishan sect's camp. The two of them wanted to do their best to clean up the Taishan sect's camp before the rest of the people drove the Mara team to the Taishan sect. The remaining 20 or so Dharma adepts, led by Qing Li and Wu Lu, began to cruise to the northeast of the battlefield. They began to attack a team of Mara and Mara armies, completely cutting off the connection between the Mara team and the Mara army. At this moment, the Mara army was like a big piece of meat, and the various forces that came in a continuous stream were like hungry wolves waiting for an opportunity to make a move. From time to time, they would look for an opportunity to separate a group of Mora army that was left behind from the Mora army to destroy, causing the entire Mora army to become even more disorderly. The infiltration of Qing Li Laozu and the others did not meet any decent resistance from the high-level Mara. When the Azura realized that something was wrong and tried to repel them, Qing Li Laozu and Wu Lu Laozu joined forces to block the Azura, while Lu Ping, Xiahou Wuxiang, and Sang Yu continued to lead the group to complete the infiltration. Then, Sang Yu and Xiahou Wuxiang began to lead the cultivators to drive away the separated Mara team, and Lu Ping joined forces to beat the Azura in front of them. With their combined strength, it was not too difficult for Lu Ping to kill the Azura, even if he hid the 7-treasure Thunder Calabash and the pure Yang spiritual treasure. However, the three of them did not kill the Azura. Instead, they followed closely behind the Azura. Every time it wanted to break out of the encirclement in Qing Li Laozu and the others' direction, the three of them immediately joined forces to beat it up. Slowly, the Azura also became obedient. It discovered that whenever it tried to break out of the encirclement in the northwest direction, the three human cultivators behind it would stop chasing it. Whenever it tried to change directions, the three cultivators would attack it. Although Mara had a high level of spiritual intelligence, it was impossible for it to understand the three people's plan. Moreover, the Azura was really being beaten badly by the three human cultivators behind it, and had no choice but to flee northwest. Seeing that the Azura was finally fleeing in the direction the three people wanted it to go, Qing Li Laozu and the others no longer rushed to chase it. Instead, they followed the Azura from afar, and the distance between them gradually widened. At this time, Mara's team, which had been driven by Sang Yu and the other 20 people, also began to flee northwest. Convinced that they had shaken off the human cultivators, the Azura finally headed in the direction of the Supreme Mystery Sect's camp. By the time Lu Ping and the others met up again, they were already quite a distance away from Mara's army, but Lu Ping could still vaguely sense some of the general movements of Mara's army. Senior, it seems that Mara's army is also consciously being driven in the direction of their retreat? Qing Li Laozu smiled. This battle is the beginning of the human race's all-out encirclement of Mara's army. Although Qing Li Laozu's words were vague, Lu Ping understood what he meant. All-out encirclement of Mara's army, which meant that this should be the joint plan of all the pure young Laozus. Lu Ping silently calculated the direction in which Mara's army was fleeing, and said in disbelief, Ziyang Palace? Qingli Laozu was clearly not surprised that Lu Ping could guess that it was Ziyang Palace based on the direction Mara's army was moving in. He smiled and said, "We're almost at the Supreme Mystery Sect's camp." As they spoke, Chao Jianpain and Yin Tianchu had already returned. Clearly the two of them had done a good job as scavengers. By the time everyone arrived near the Supreme Mystery Sect's camp, the violent spiritual energy turbulence indicated that the Supreme Mystery Sect's camp was already in the middle of a fierce battle. Everyone concealed themselves and approached the Supreme Mystery Sect's camp. At this time, the hillside where the Supreme Mystery Sect was located was already in the middle of a chaotic battle. The sudden appearance of this Mara army was about 2,000 strong, led by an Azura and 4 or 5 Jade Mara. If it was in the past, as long as the Supreme Mystery Sect made preparations in advance, this Mara army would not pose too much of a threat to the Supreme Mystery Sect's camp. However, at this time, because their old enemy, the Tianxian sect, had counterattacked Mara's army, half of the Supreme Mystery Sect cultivators in the camp had left, and the remaining half had not been able to discover the arrival of Mara's army in time because Yin Tianchu and Chao Jianpain had cleaned up the area in advance. The Supreme Mystery Sect cultivators, who were unprepared for the sudden appearance of Mara's army, immediately fell into chaos. The Azura, who had previously been bullied by Lu Ping and the others, showed great power this time. When they attacked the Supreme Mystery Sect's camp, they severely injured a great human practitioner in one fell swoop. After that, they consecutively killed a mid-Dharma adept and an early Dharma adept. Sang Yu and the other Spirit Beast Tamer sect cultivators would not participate in this battle, but the Tianxian sect and Jinling did not have such concerns. The Supreme Mystery Sect had already formed a deadly feud with them, so they did not hesitate to beat them when they were down. At this time, there were 3 great practitioners guarding the Supreme Mystery Sect's camp. 2 of them were seriously injured and the other was also slightly injured. These 2 were none other than the famous Wind and Rain dual whips of the Supreme Mystery Sect, Han Wuya and Huo Wuyin. Since the battle at Jinling's camp, Huo Wuyin had been personally destroyed by Lu Ping, and he had lost 70 to 80% of his strength. Han Wuya, on the other hand, had been injured by Qingli Laozu's second-level spirit treasure during the surprise attack on the Tianxian sect's secret camp. At this time, the 2 of them were working together with an old man to resist the attack of the Azura. However, because the strength of the 2 of them had been greatly reduced, the Azura was also barely able to resist. Apart from this Azura blocking the 3 great cultivators at the camp, the rest of the Mara's team had rushed into the camp and caused great casualties to the Supreme Mystery Sect cultivators, but with the efforts of the Supreme Mystery Sect cultivators, the situation was gradually turning for the better. More and more Mara were being killed. If it were not for Lu Ping and the others, the Supreme Mystery Sect would have paid a great price, but in the end they would still be able to repel the attack of Mara. Unfortunately, all of this was man-made. Old Ghost Beecham, Qingli Laozu glanced at the old man and held the spirit-fixing bottle in his hand. After nodding to Wu Lu Laozu, the 2 of them suddenly rushed out of the void and joined forces to attack the back of the old man who was entangled with the Azura. Lu Ping gestured to Yin Tianchu, who immediately disappeared. Meanwhile, Lu Ping held the cloud sail in his hand and shook it hard. A wave of flaming divine sense rippled like a tide toward the 3 great cultivators who were fighting with the Azura. Oh no, someone is sneaking up on us. The first to notice was the old man called Beecham by Qingli Laozu. Although his warning was timely, the 3 people who were being suppressed by the Azura could not spare much strength to deal with the sure-kill situation set by the Tianxian sect and Jinling. Now that they had been discovered, Qingli Laozu and Wu Lu Laozu simply stopped hiding and joined forces to attack Beecham Laozu. However, before the 2 sides could fight, Lu Ping's divine sense attack had already arrived. Huo Wuyin, who was the weakest among them, immediately let out a miserable cry and was killed by the Azura who had seized the opportunity to attack. Han Wuya grunted and retreated several steps in the air. Then his expression changed and his body dodged to the left. However, a blade light flashed and Yin Tianchu's Taishan thorn had already pierced his shoulder. "This is the Taishan thorn. Why is it in your hands? You are the cultivator Jinling." Yin Tianchu did not pay any attention to Huo Wuyin's clamor. After his attack missed, he immediately flew away. At this time, Beecham Laozu was also seriously injured by Qing Li and Wu Lu. However, the Azura was obviously deterred by the aura of the battle between the 3 great cultivators. He did not intervene in the battle between the 3 great cultivators. Instead, he turned around and rushed toward Han Wuya, whose shoulder had been pierced by Yin Tianchu. Lu Ping flicked his hands and the thin water-long stream sword appeared. Lu Ping said to the people behind him, "The Taishan sect's encampment is finished. Finish it quickly." Although this was only the encampment of the Taishan sect, there should be a lot of cultivation resources stored here. Since the Taishan sect and Jinling wanted to destroy this encampment, the cultivation resources inside would naturally be divided up. The first things Lu Ping wanted were the wind and rain whips. The moment Huo Wuyin died, Yin Tianchu, who had sneak attacked and injured Han Wuya, had secretly taken away Huo Wuyin's long whip and storage device. Lu Ping's two swords took the opportunity to launch a sneak attack. Together with the Azura, Han Wuya was also neatly beheaded. Before the Azura could tear Han Wuya's body to shreds, Lu Ping snatched the other long whip and storage device. The cultivators of the two sects roared into the encampment. The Taishan sect cultivators who had just gained the upper hand were now unable to resist a second attack. The situation in the encampment took a sharp turn for the worse, and the destruction of the Taishan sect's encampment was inevitable. Chapter 1326. The death of three great cultivators was a serious blow to the Xian sect. The only pity was that Wang Shiqing did not stay in the Xian sect's encampment. Otherwise, Lu Ping would not mind killing a possible hidden danger for Jinling. After Lu Ping and Yin Tianchu collected the spiritual treasures and storage magic tools of the two great cultivators of the Xian sect, they did not participate in the looting of the Xian sect's encampment. Jianghu and the others only took the storage magic tools of the Xian sect cultivators they had killed. They did not compete with the Tianxian sect cultivators for the secret vaults that the Xian sect had set up to store cultivation resources and the spirit veins that were used to support the formations in the base. After killing the three great cultivators of the Xian sect, Lu Ping, Qingli Laozu, and Wu Lu Laozu began to encircle the Azura, who had been exhausted from the continuous battles. In the end, the Azura was killed by Qingli Laozu. The remaining Mara's team had originally suffered heavy casualties in the battle with the Xian sect cultivators. Since they knew that the direction was Xiang Palace, they only needed to take a shortcut to catch up. They did not stay in the encampment for long. They went all the way west. At this time, Mara's army had been driven northwest by the four pure young cultivators. Since they knew that the direction was Xiang Palace, they only needed to take a shortcut to catch up. Although Lu Ping had learned from Qingli Laozu that this was the result of the 13 pure young cultivators' discussion, Lu Ping still had some malicious speculation about whether this was Xiao Baiyu's secret plot against Xiang Palace. After all, if Xiang Palace was not prepared, it was likely that the two converged forces of Mara's army would break through the line of defense. The northwest defense of Central Earth controlled by Xiang Palace would instantly fall into Mara's hands. Whether it was the hatred between Xiang Palace and Skyrend, or the humiliation Xiao Baiyu brought to Xiang Palace in the past, it did not seem strange if Xiao Baiyu really had such a plan. However, for Lu Ping, he was more willing to stand on the side of Xiang Palace. Regardless of the righteous cause of fighting against Mara, at least judging from the friendship between Lu Ping, Xie Tianyang, and Su Jin, Lu Ping would not hesitate to stand on the side of Xiang Palace. It was a pity that Lu Ping didn't know the whole story until now, so he didn't have the time to ask Xie Tianyang and the others for confirmation. But thinking about it, Ziyang Palace and the Crystal Palace were known as the twin palaces of the Six Holy Lands. They should have a well-thought-out plan. As a matter of fact, Lu Ping's worries were groundless. Before Lu Ping and the others arrived at Xiang Palace's station, a huge battle scene unfolded in front of Lu Ping and the others. Tens of thousands of Mara's army and human cultivators were engaged in a life-and-death battle within a radius of dozens of miles. Although this scale was not comparable to the Phantom Island battle that Lu Ping participated in the East Sea back then, the sea was different from land. Battles on land were always more tragic. With the help of the 11 Azuras, the 5 Sky Fiends had temporarily resisted the attacks of the 7 pure young experts. However, everyone could tell that it was only a matter of time before the 5 Sky Fiends were defeated. Watching this grand and tragic scene from miles away, other than Lu Ping, who had once participated in the illusionary Spirit Islands array, the other cultivators, even people like Qingli Patriarch who had seen many things, were shocked by the scene before them. After a long time, Qingli Laozu finally came back to his senses. He heaved a sigh of relief and said, "Xiang Palace's counterattack has succeeded. Jianghu Palace and Tianshan sect seemed to have a tacit understanding to launch a counterattack against Mara's army at the same time. Then they drove the Mara's army to gather again. At this time not only Lu Ping but the others had also guessed something. Sang Yu asked, "They want to drive the two Mara armies south after gathering. I believe there are 4 or 5 pure Yang cultivators gathered at Skyward Pavilion and launched a counterattack. If I'm not wrong, they will drive the Mara army north?" Qing Li Laozu did not hide anything and said, "That's right." Lu Ping looked like he had expected it and continued, "They will drive the Mara army from the north and south to the 9 Mystical Tower. Then they will work together to defeat the Mara army that is besieging the 9 Mystical Tower. However, aren't they afraid that Mara will be driven to desperation and really break through the 9 Mystical Tower?" Qing Li Laozu smiled and shook his head. Mara's army has been besieging the 9 Mystical Tower for 10 years without being able to break through. How can it be broken now? Moreover, if the 9 Mystical Tower is really broken through by Mara's army, then it's best that they get rid of the title of Middle-earth's sacred land as soon as possible. Forefather Qing Li paused and then said, "These holy lands and sects have hidden themselves far more deeply than you imagine. They will not fall so easily. However, they will not be able to escape after being so heavily injured in this battle." "Why are you hiding it?" Yin Tianchu suddenly appeared behind Lu Ping and asked. This was clearly the final battle that the 13 pure Yang cultivators had planned for a long time. However, the Heavenly Xian sect, Purple Sun Palace and Skyward Pavilion had launched a counterattack against Mara's army at the same time. They did not know that the various sects had already surrounded the 9 Mystical Tower. Even Jinling, who had Lin Yu Laozu, had only received news that the Heavenly Xian sect was about to launch a counterattack against Mara's army. Lin Yu Laozu had not revealed the true purpose of this battle to them. Qing Li Laozu shrugged and said, "Besides the 13 pure Yang cultivators, the 2 sacred lands of Purple Sun Palace and Wuxing School, as well as the Yuan family, the Heavenly Shen sect, the Spirit Beast Taming sect and Skyrind, are in the south. Naturally, the Crystal Palace, the Skyward Pavilion and the Lingyun Valley are in addition to the 4 large sects of the South Sea, the Heavenly Moon sect, and a few other large sects of the Central Plains. However, even among these sects only the late Dharma adepts know about this. The disciples of these sects are merely following orders." Sang Yu nodded at Lu Ping, proving that he himself did not know about this news. The Spirit Beast Taming sect had Feng Lu Laozu participating in this battle, so they naturally knew about this plan. However, Sang Yu clearly did not have the right to know about this. He had only followed Feng Lu Laozu to the Heavenly Shen sect and then brought the other 2 Empyrean walkers to meet up with Qing Li Laozu and the others. As for the other sects, it's enough to just guard their bases. After all, once this battle is won, Mara will definitely escape in all directions. At this time, the various sects' bases around the 9 Mystical Tower will be the last line of defense to resist and eliminate Mara who has fled. Therefore there's no need to inform them. Lu Ping recalled that before Lin Yu Laozu left Jinling, he had instructed him to inform Jinling to guard their bases. Initially, Lu Ping had thought that Lin Yu Laozu was worried that Jinling would encounter other troubles without a pure Yang cultivator after he left. Now it seemed that Lin Yu Laozu had a deeper meaning. Lu Ping smiled bitterly and said, "In this battle, even if 8 Sister Zhu is eliminated, there might be other pure Yang cultivators who will appear. In fact, victory is in our hands." At this time, these sects from the sacred lands have abandoned the weaker sects and launched the decisive battle alone. Naturally, they can take the opportunity to monopolize all the battle credits and divide the quota to enter the 7th Patriarch's Taoist platform as well as the cultivation resources in the 3 mystical places. After the battle, they can even use the righteous reputation of a sacred land's large sects to protect the weaker sects as a reason. What a good plan. Wuxia Laozu smiled and did not deny it but said, "At least with your battle credits, no one can take away the quota to enter the 7th Patriarch's Taoist platform. After this battle you will be famous all over the world. Moreover, in the current situation, there is no sect among the medium-sized sects that can challenge the position of Jinling. Your sect can still get a part of the cultivation resources in the 3 mystical places." Lu Ping turned around and looked at Qing Hu, Qing Lang, Lu Qiner and Tian Feng, whose injuries had become more and more serious during the battle. He looked at Lu Hai and said, "The 5 of you go back to the station immediately and tell Master Uncle Tianshan everything here. In this last battle, you can't hold on with your current strength and state. Go back to the station and tell the sect to get ready. At the same time, recuperate and restore your strength to prevent the attack of Mara's defeated army." They looked a little hesitant, obviously unwilling to leave like this, but Lu Ping's face darkened and he said, "Do you want to be a burden at that time? Go." Qingli Laozu nodded. This last battle was not a child's play. It was more of a battle between the high-level Mara and the high-level human cultivators to decide the outcome. Cultivators who were not strong enough or injured were indeed not suitable to participate in this kind of melee. On the contrary, once the Mara army was defeated and fled, it was afraid that there would be more low-level Mara. At this time, the stations of the various sects needed more manpower to intercept and destroy these fleeing Mara as much as possible. Qingli Laozu nodded at Fifth Willow Laozu. Fifth Willow Laozu turned around and sent a few seriously injured cultivators from his sect back to the station. They were preparing to deal with the possible attack from the defeated Mara army. Up in the sky, the 7 treasured fans surrounded a heavenly demon from all directions. Finally, Laozu found an opportunity. The 7 treasures fanned out at the same time and half of the sky was enveloped by a rainbow-colored light. The heavenly demon trapped within the light was seemingly blown away layer by layer. Out of the 5 heavenly demons, 1 had fallen. Although the remaining 4 heavenly demons still had the support of 8 or 9 Asuras, they no longer had the courage to fight against the pure young humans. As the remaining 4 heavenly demons fled, the entire Mara army below, under the pursuit of the cultivators from the various sects, sped up their retreat towards the 9 Mysteries Tower. Qingli Laozu turned to the others and said, "It is time for us to take action as well. If we don't, the others will snatch away all our battle points." Chapter 1327. The final battle of the 9 Profound Tower had lasted for 2 days under the pincer attack of the human cultivators from both inside and outside. During the course of the battle, Lu Ping, Yin Tianchu, Lu Tianyuan, and Qing Hu had gradually separated from the forefather Qing Li and the others as they moved deeper and deeper into the Mo Luo army. However, they were still able to maintain a certain level of contact and support each other. Because of Lu Ping's control, the 4 of them didn't go too deep into Mara's army. They also tried to avoid the high-tier Mara's attacks, and they only stayed within 100 feet of the Mara's army. There were basically no Asuras within this distance. With the 4 of them working together, even 3 to 5 Jade Devils would not be a match for the 4 of them. Lu Ping and the others were chasing after 3 or 4 Jade Mara. The Mara in front of the 4 of them were easily killed. But at that moment, Lu Ping's will moved and he said, "Hurry up! Someone else is coming for the points." Following that, the 4 Jade Devils in front of them began to slow down. A series of explosions could be heard in front of them. Clearly, someone had stopped the 4 Jade Devils from the other side. Lu Ping swung his long sword, and 2 green dragons flew into the crowd of Mara. They quickly caught up to 2 of the Jade Shura. Just as Lu Ping cast the Azure Jiao Si Disturbance Sword skill, Yin Tianchu, who was already in sync with Lu Ping, made his move. Just as one of the Jade Shura separated to block the Jade Shura's attack, Yin Tianchu's Supreme Mystery Thorn followed the Azure Jiao's tail and pierced the Jade Shura's chest. Then Yin Tianchu swung his short dagger and the Jade Shura's head fell from the sky. On the other side, Cyan Fox was clearly too slow. As Yin Tianchu was making use of the opportunity to kill off one of the Jade Shura, the Jade Shura had managed to evade the attack. The Thieving Heaven Axe came swinging down, but it only managed to cut off one of the Jade Shura's arms. Were it not for Lu Qinyuan's timely assistance, the Jade Shura would have fallen into the hands of the cultivators who were intercepting the Jade Shura. While Lu Ping was helping Green Fox and Yin Tianchu kill the Mara, a scream came from the other side. A Jade Shura had been killed by a cultivator. Of the 4 Mara, only 1 was left. It was badly injured and it was trying to run back to the Mara army. Lu Ping grunted. The Sword of True Spirit unleashed 3 dragons, and they went after the Jade Mara from 3 different directions. At the same time, a sea of fire rose up in front of Lu Ping, and it spread toward the Jade Shura. The attacks from both sides hit the Jade Shura at the same time. The Jade Shura screamed, and its body was burned to nothing by the sea of fire. Lu Ping waved his hand and Emoli flew back. The other sea of fire was extinguished. Lu Ping laughed and said, "Is that Qin Shijun from the Crystal Palace, Brother Qin?" Not far away, a laugh came from the Mara group. "It really is Brother Lu. We haven't seen each other for decades, and Brother Lu's training has become even more profound." There was a loud crash and the dozens of Mara in front of Lu Ping exploded in all directions. A path opened up in front of Lu Ping, and a figure walked slowly behind the dozens of Mara. Lu Ping glanced behind the figure, and when he looked at Qin Shijun who was walking over, his eyes also flashed. He said, "Isn't Brother Qin the same? You're already at the peak of the mid-Dharma stage. Back then, Brother Qin was the first of our generation to cross the threshold of the mid-Dharma stage, and you made many jealous and envious of you. Could it be that Brother Qin is going to become the first person to step into the late Dharma stage once again?" Having his level of training seen through by Lu Ping, Qin Shijun's eyes flashed with caution, but his expression was one of disbelief. He said, "Brother Lu, you must be joking. There are many hidden dragons and crouching tigers in the Central Plains, and there are many who surpass me. Not to mention others, just Brother Lu's level of training alone makes you invincible among our generation of practitioners. My level of training is not even worth mentioning." The two of them exchanged a few words with fake smiles and left. They turned around and reached for the imaging stones at their waists. Lu Ping opened the imaging stone and saw that it still showed 347 points. It was obvious that he had not succeeded in killing the Jade Demon. Lu Ping cursed under his breath. On the other side, Qin Shijun frowned when he saw the record on the imaging stone. The Jade Demon's body had already been burned into nothingness by his starlight, but the imaging stone did not give him the credit. In other words, the Jade Demon had actually died by Lu Ping's hands. This made Qin Shijun very unhappy. Qin Hu looked at Qin Shijun's back, who had been led into Mara's group, and asked, "Is this person the chief heir of the Crystal Palace?" "That's right, it's him." Qin Hu looked at Lu Ping in surprise. For a moment she seemed to see a hint of fear in Lu Ping's eyes. Even though it was only for a moment, Qin Hu had never seen anyone who could surprise Lu Ping among practitioners of the same level. "Did he come alone? If there's someone else, why is he hiding?" Lu Ping sneered and said, "Because there's a cultivator who doesn't seem willing to meet me. Although I don't know his true identity, I can roughly guess who he is. The Jade Demon's credit was taken by someone else just like that." Lu Ping was actually quite concerned about this. A Jade Demon was worth 15 points no matter what. Lu Ping was more or less concerned that it had been taken by someone else first. Actually, Mara's credit wasn't taken by him. The other three immediately stared at Lu Tianyuan. Lu Tianyuan's hair stood on end under their stares, and he immediately took the initiative to say, "Earth-shattering chop, a great natal magic that I've just mastered." Lu Tianyuan spread out his hands and explained to Lu Ping, "I saw that the Jade Demon was trying to escape, so I tried to use the earth-shattering chop. I didn't expect it to get ahead of you two and fatally wound the Jade Demon from below." After that, Lu Ping's and Qin Shijun's Sea of Fire attacked at the same time, and before anyone could examine the wound, the Jade Demon was burned to ashes. Lu Ping laughed and said, "Wonderful, as long as Qin Shijun didn't take it." Qin Hu and the others looked at Lu Tianyuan with envy. He was only at the early Dharma stage, but killing a Jade Demon was already a huge bonus for his battle points. This meant that Lu Tianyuan had earned 30 battle points for this attack, and his ranking among the early Dharma adepts would definitely rise. It was a pity that Lu Tianyuan could only see his own battle points and not his ranking. Chapter 1328. After Qin Shijun turned around and left, although he was slightly unhappy that he had not managed to kill the Jade Demon from Lu Ping, it was not only the Jade Demon that made his expression turn gloomy. Without the high-ranking Mara blocking his way, Qin Shijun easily passed through the Mara army. The big and small Mara who tried to stop him did not even get close to him before they were engulfed by the starry light. Then they turned into a ball of flame with a shrill roar and rushed towards the group of Mara, causing even more chaos. "Big brother, who was there just now?" a mid-Dharma Crystal Palace disciple asked when he saw that Qin Shijun had returned. Qin Shijun looked at the remaining 4 Crystal Palace disciples and said gloomily, "It was Lu Tianping." "It's him," this mid-Dharma adept exclaimed. If Lu Ping was present at this time, he would recognize the person in front of him as Qing Shizhuang, the direct disciple of the Crystal Palace, whom he had met on Frost Island. "So you're saying that they did escape the Mara's pincer attack? How did they do it?" Qing Shizhuang asked unwillingly. "Looks like that's the case." Qin Shijun said coldly, "There were 9 of them at the beginning and now there are only 4 left. If I'm not wrong, they must have discovered the movements of the 2 Devil Luo forces and escaped in advance. I'm afraid the way they escaped was to rush into the Devil Luo army. The other 5 must have died when they rushed into the formation." "Only 5 died, they got off lightly." Another mid-Dharma adept from the Crystal Palace said unwillingly, "This Junling's people are really something. They actually dared to charge into the Mara army and fought back from the dead, and they actually succeeded. Big brother, do you think Lu Tianping knows that we were the ones who leaked their whereabouts and colluded with Wuxia school and the Yuan family to plot against them? The speaker was an early Dharma adept from the Crystal Palace. He was one of the 2 early Dharma adepts among the remaining 5 people from the Crystal Palace. The other person was none other than Ouyang Weijian. However, Ouyang Weijian had been quietly listening to the conversation of the others. Qin Shijun hesitated for a moment, then shook his head and said, I don't think so, but it's hard to say in the future. After all, the people from Wuxia school and the Yuan family were all involved in that plot. It's hard to guarantee that they won't leak the information. Speaking of these 2 sects, a flash of anger flashed across Qing Shizhuang's face as he said, the people from Wuxia school are really useless. They didn't even know that Jinling's people had escaped, and they were so proud of themselves that they drove the 2 groups of Mara troops that had merged together to charge towards us. The people from the Yuan family are too damn lucky to have actually escaped so early, just in time to avoid the reinforcements from Mara who had pounced on us from behind. Otherwise, out of the 10 of us, we wouldn't have lost half of our men so quickly. A look of pain flashed across Qin Shijun's face. Back then, the people from Wuxia school had not managed to chase Jinling's people away. Instead, they had brought a group of Mara's people and collided with the people from Crystal Palace, who had been prepared to intercept them in advance. The people from the Yuan family had even found an excuse to escape in advance. With no other choice, the Crystal Palace and Wuxia school had no choice but to join forces and prepare to take down the 2 groups of Mara's people who had gathered together. No matter what, these were still battle points. Since Jinling's people had not been able to plot against them, they could only take some interest from Mara's people. However, to their surprise at this time from behind the people from Crystal Palace, a group of Mara's reinforcements suddenly rushed up to reinforce the Tianshan sect's battlefield. The leader was a skyscraping devil, which had scared the souls of the people from Crystal Palace and the cultivators from Wuxia school. Fortunately, the skyscraping devil did not take these people seriously and did not directly attack them. However, the Mara's reinforcements, which rushed over like a flood, still involved the cultivators from Crystal Palace. Although Qin Shijun saw that the situation was not good and led the others to break out, 5 people were still trapped in the siege of the Mara's army and never came out. Qin Shijun seized the opportunity quickly, but the 10 cultivators from Wuxia school were not so lucky. The attack of Mara's army directly killed 7 of them. It was said that even the newly appointed Juzi of Earth was killed. Only Juzi of Water was able to break out of the siege of Mara's army with 2 people. At this time, Ouyang Weijian suddenly asked, Senior brother, did the Yuan family suddenly leave because they had already known that Mara's reinforcements would come from behind us? Ouyang Weijian's sudden question stunned the other 4 cultivators from Crystal Palace. Qin Shijun couldn't help laughing and said, How is that possible? Could it be that Yuan can predict the future? Everyone roared with laughter, including Ouyang Weijian himself. Lu Ping naturally did not know that the people who originally wanted to plot against them had suffered a great loss. At this time, because Lu Qinyuan's strength had increased, Lu Ping and the others' strength had also increased. The 4 of them joined forces to wreak havoc in the Mara's army and became more and more skillful. However, under Lu Ping's control, they never went deep into the Mara's army. However, in the past 2 days, as the 13 pure Yang adepts and the sects that 11 of them belonged to suddenly joined forces and began to attack the 9 Shen Towers Mara army from both the north and south, the cultivators from the various sects who were stationed on the periphery also began to feel that something was wrong. 2 days was enough time for them to send their own cultivators to participate in the final battle against the Mara army. More and more Dharma adepts from various sects joined forces, which also caused the high-level Mara near the periphery of the Mara army to die or be injured. This was also one of the reasons why Lu Ping and the others were able to kill as they pleased in the Mara army at this time. Junior brother Lu, the traces of the high-level Mara are getting fewer and fewer. If this goes on, I am afraid the speed at which we obtain battle merits will slow down. The 4 of them had already been close to 2 hours without encountering even a single blood shura. Lu Tianyuan was a little troubled as he asked, Why don't we go deeper? Lu Ping hesitated for a moment. At this time, more and more cultivators from various sects had appeared on the battlefield. In just half a day, Lu Ping and the others had already seen several groups of Dharma adepts charging deep into the Mara army. This made Lu Ping hesitate for a moment whether he should also charge deep into the Mara army. After all, many people had already taken the risk to enter. With so many Dharma adepts gathered together, the danger zone naturally could not be considered dangerous. At this time Yin Tianchu suddenly returned and said, "Traces of the high-level Mara have been discovered 3 miles away, but this place is a little strange. Lu Ping's divine will might be able to observe the situation on the battlefield from outside the battlefield, but at this time he had already killed his way into the Mara army. Even Lu Ping's divine will was inevitably affected and reduced by a lot. Moreover, in order to not attract the attention of some tyrannical existences, especially existences like the sky demons, Lu Ping had no choice but to exercise some restraint in this Mara army." However, after hearing Yin Tianchu's news, Lu Ping still tried his best to extend his divine will in the direction that Yin Tianchu had pointed out. However, very quickly, his divine will seemed to have encountered some kind of barrier. Lu Ping frowned. To be able to block his divine will, it must at least be a high-level Jade Demon Mara. However, this area that could block the probing of his divine will seemed to be a little too big. Jade demons were not capable of supporting such a large divine will barrier, and from the way Lu Ping saw it, it was not impossible for him to break this barrier. Lu Ping condensed his divine will into a thread and pierced through the divine will barrier. Immediately, Lu Ping felt a trace of hostility. Obviously, this divine will had been discovered by the existence that had set up the divine will barrier. However, just as Lu Ping condensed his divine will and pierced through the barrier, Lu Ping suddenly felt a sharp pain. It was as if something had seeped into Lu Ping's divine will like a moth flying into a flame the moment Lu Ping's divine will appeared. Lu Ping's expression changed and he exclaimed, "The thought dissipation powder." Lu Ping immediately retracted his divine will. However, the sharp pain did not leave his divine will. Instead, it became more intense and spread. Lu Ping snorted coldly, and a jade-green flame suddenly spread along the divine will. A sizzling sound that only Lu Ping could hear was heard. The jade-green flame flashed and disappeared, and the sharp pain also disappeared from Lu Ping's divine will. Lu Tianyuan and the others had been staying in Central Plains for a long time. Naturally, they had heard of this unique medicine that came from the #1 alchemy family in Central Plains, the Lu family. In the past, cultivators who had been poisoned by the thought dissipation powder could only cut off their wrists and abandon the part of their divine will that was contaminated by the thought dissipation powder to prevent the poison from spreading. Although it would greatly affect the cultivator's divine will cultivation, they could not care so much in order to prevent their divine will cultivation from being completely destroyed. However, Lu Ping's jade phosphorus soul fire was the nemesis of this secret medicine. Before the medicinal power of the thought dissipation powder could spread in Lu Ping's divine will, it had been burned by the jade phosphorus soul fire. Lu family? I thought it was the soul-devouring black mist of devil cultivation. Yin Tianchu clearly knew about the #1 alchemy family in Central Plains and muttered to himself. The appearance of the Lu family in the vicinity at this time aroused Lu Ping's interest. Lu Ping had also obtained some thought dissipation powder in the past. He had also plotted against East Pole Laozu during the auction on Phantom Island. Lu Ping, on the other hand, was extremely interested in the thought-dissolving powder's recipe. After obtaining the thought-dissolving powder, he had tried to reverse-engineer the spirit herbs needed to refine it. However, all these years he still couldn't find a way. Should I take this opportunity to? Lu Ping hesitated for a moment. This time, Lu Ping and Jinling had displayed their strength in Central Plains. However, Jinling was only a medium-sized sect. No matter how strong they were, they could only follow the principle of, if others do not offend me, I will not offend others. If he took the initiative to provoke the Lu family, it would be extremely wrong. However, before Lu Ping could find a decent excuse for himself, the person who had set up the divine will barrier that was extremely similar to the soul-devouring black mist had followed the aura of Lu Ping's divine will and chased after him. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.